Born and lived through pain and agony, Issei's life focuses only on making his younger sister happy. But now, with the ability to manipulate blood, all he can do is continue living. But suddenly a beautiful woman appeared and told him that he is the king of an all-powerful kingdom with a vast army that has almost conquered everything in the past, and she expects him to win again. Chapter 1 In the Hyodo family lives in a normal house. A family with a mother and 2 children, a boy and a girl. The boy, Issei Hyodo, was only 5 years old. He was the older brother of his 3-year-old sister and both are children of a single mother. Now you might think this is just a lovely family, that's not the case. Young Issei was in his room and was coloring in his sketchbook when he heard loud footsteps coming up the stairs. Issei gasped in fear when he heard this. Where are you? Where are you? A crazed female voice called out as the footsteps grew louder. This was Issei's mom. Issei quickly stood up and closed the door. Issei's mother finally arrived at the door of Issei's room where a piece of paper was taped up with, "Go away," written on it. She started to force her way in, but the lock prevented her from entering, so she continued to kick and slam the door with her shoulders. Open this door now, Issei. Issei's mom screamed as she continued to force her way in. But seeing that the door didn't open, her mother went away for a moment to get the keys and came back. Inside the room, Issei heard the jingle of keys outside and knew full well that his mother would soon enter his room. Then she quickly shoved her drawing books and crayons under the bed before running to her closet and closing the door to hide. Bang! The door was opened violently, hitting the wall hard. He could hear his mother grunting and screaming from inside her closet. The frightened Issei can just sit there with his hands wrapped around his knees and his knees pressed against his chest. Outside the closet, his mother removed the covers from the bed before pushing the foam away from the bed. She then went into the bathroom and checked the showers for her son, but there was no sign there. Arrabbiata per non riuscire a trover suo figlio, aggradato a squarciago la mentora farava una sedia e la lanciava contro il muro. All'interno dell'armadio Issei sussulta squared leggermente quando fu suppresso dal forte sciento della sedia. Poi la mamma di Issei rivolse la sua attenzione all'unico posto che non aveva controllato l'armadio. With noisy steps she approached the closet and opened it, almost ripping the door off its hinges. There Issei met his mother face to face. "Come out, you little scum," she said as she grabbed Issei's shoulders to pull him out of the closet. Issei trembled desperately to avoid what was yet to happen, but his mother grabbed his shoulders tightly with her nails digging into his skin and literally throwing him away from the closet. Right after Issei crashed onto the floor, she walked up to him and kicked him in the stomach. Issei grunted and coughed in pain. "You think you can hide from me? Huh? Answer me." Issei's mom kept kicking and kicking her baby. Issei cowered to defend himself from his mother's wrath. Tears of agony flowed from his eyes and the droplets dispersed as the kick shook his entire body. "Come here. Not only did you lock the door, but you tried to hide from me. You are not allowed to do such a thing. Kind to your mother. Where did you hide my peels?" Issei's mom screamed as Issei put more force into kicking her. Not only that, but she now also targeted Issei's head and face. I didn't hide it. I didn't." "Ah," Issei proclaimed, but was hit in the face again, causing blood to come from his nose. "I know. You have my pills. Where are they? Where are they? I need them. I need my pills. Where are my peels?" His mother screamed at the top of her lungs. She grabbed her son's hair and started pulling him out of the room despite him begging her to stop because it was causing him pain. But in the end Issei suffered throughout the day. Even though he never took any of the pills his mother prescribed, she still suspected he was hiding them every time he ran out of them. All Issei could do was scream in agony as he suffered, knowing full well that running away or begging would do him no good because both actions don't work. After a full hour of back and forth, Issei's mom finally calmed down, went to buy more pills for her addiction, and left her son in her house. Issei weakly walked up the stairs slowly. His right eye was injured, blood was flowing from the cut above his left eye, nose and mouth. He was holding the bruise on his right bicep and dragging his left leg with a broken ankle. Once he got to the second floor he approached a certain room that wasn't his. He opened the door and walked over to a crib to see his beloved younger sister. "Hello everyone. Aiko." The smiling Issei greeted with a little pain in his voice. Aiko still being a baby meant she could only watch Issei as he sucked on his pacifier. "I'm sorry your big brother is weak. I couldn't stand up to mommy," Issei apologized as he looked at her, then noticed his own blood dripping onto the sheets of his sister. "Oops, you'd better wash them." "I'm sorry, Aiko," Issei said. Issei grabbed the blood-stained sheets and washed them off. Since his mother was busy doing whatever she wanted, like taking pills, watching TV, drinking alcohol and things like that, he was the one taking care of his younger sister, changing her diapers, washing her sheets, feeding her, comforting her whenever he wanted. He cries. Their mother was violent and cruel and she had already given up on life since their father abandoned them. She was like any other broken woman. Marrying an alcoholic man is never a bad thing. Having children with the same alcoholic man is a worse thing. Abandoned by her husband, her mother collapsed in despair. The pain and sadness of being abandoned by the man she loved led her to drug addiction, and her drug addiction led her to be crazy and violent. After washing the sheets, Issei hung them up to dry. Since he always did housework, he was good at it. He did most of the household chores, such as cleaning the house, washing clothes and taking care of his sister. Their mother fed him and him alone, so Issei was forced to cook for his younger sister. But he never fed Issei with love. For example, once he put water and not milk in Issei's cereal. Issei knew that it was enough for her to feed him to take care of a child, regardless of what he fed it. And Issei was forced to eat that bizarre food knowing full well that once he refused the food it would make his mother angry. He also buys things at the market, but he is because the shop where he buys the pills is right next to the market. And the ingredients he brings home are chosen at random, so Issei was forced to buy them at the market. But asking her mother for money would only make her angry all over again, so he was forced to steal money straight from her purse every chance she got. And when he is captured, another beats him. Issei's father abandoned them when he realized that his mother was pregnant with another child. He was grateful that his mother started taking medications months after his younger sister was born. Who knows what would happen to her if her mother took those pills while she was still in her mother's womb. And a year after Aiko's birth, her mother began to take out her anger on 5-year-old Issei. And, for the whole year Issei suffered that his mother got angry easily. Many times Issei thought about leaving the house, many times he thought about calling the police. But what if he was captured? What if he and his sister were captured? Getting beaten up again wasn't the problem is his sister. He can never allow his mother to even touch his sister. One night Aiko started crying. She woke up both him and her mother. Issei heard her mother scream and marched towards Aiko's room. Fearing what he would do to her sister, Issei ran out of her room and grabbed her mother's leg, trying to stop her. She stopped it, or better yet, redirected it. Instead of doing anything to Aiko, she just continued to smash Issei all over the place. In the heat of his anger he went down to get more pills. This gave Issei the chance to calm down her sister, and once she stopped crying he also calmed down her mother who, being too sleepy, decided to go back to bed instead of continuing to discipline Issei. That night Issei slept in her sister's room, in case she cried again. In the present the sheets were now dried and Issei returned them to the crib. Even though she had bruises, Issei still opened the sheets and placed them on top of Aiko. He caressed her as she slowly fell asleep. Even though Issei lived a nightmare life, her sister was the only source of her sanity. Another year has passed and the situation of the Hyodo family is still the same. A drug-addicted and abusive mother, a defenseless 4-year-old Aiko and a poor 6-year-old Issei who takes care of her sister. Well, it cannot be said that the situation has not changed completely, in fact it has gotten worse. It was in the middle of the night when Aiko started crying again. Hearing this, Issei's eyes widened in fear. Of her, who's crying? I can't get any sleep here. Issei heard her mother's voice and a door opening. Fearing for her sister, Issei jumped out of bed and ran out of her room. She ran as fast as she could into Aiko's room where she saw their mom shaking her crib hard. Stop crying, you asshole. You're too loud, Issei's mother shouted, not caring how loud her voice was in the middle of the night. Stop. Mom, stop. Issei begged as he pulled his mother away from Aiko but was only kicked back and slammed into the drawer. Don't touch me, you scum. I want to sleep but I can't sleep with this little piece of trash. She said, no please. Issei now begged with tears in her eyes. He was pushing his mother's arms away but was pushed back to the ground. This time his head hit the ground hard, making his vision blurry. I know what will silence you forever, Issei's mother said as she grabbed Aiko's pillow and pushed it onto the little girl's face. She was trying to suffocate her 3-year-old daughter. Now shut up, shut up, shut up. He pushed even harder as Aiko's cries began to fade. Issei regained his sight and saw the terrifying event before him. Knowing that if she tries to stop her mother again she will be thrown away again. She has to do something even bigger. It was then that he saw the pen on top of the drawer. Issei hesitated to take it but hearing her sister crying he had no other choice. He took the pen and stabbed his mother's arm with it. Ugh. It hurts. Issei's mom screamed. The hole made by the pen wasn't very deep but it was enough to let the blood out. Issei took the opportunity to grab Aiko and ran out of the room despite hearing her mother cursing Issei. He wants to go back to her room and has hidden Aiko in the closet. He placed a pacifier over her mouth to stop her from crying and covered her with her clothes before closing the door. He tried to close the door to her room but it was too late. His mother was already at the door and was grunting at him. You, Issei's mom growled as she walked towards Issei. Fearing the consequences he was about to suffer for his action, Issei tried to escape towards the window but as he was about to open it he was pulled back by his mother and kicked to the floor. How dare you stab me, you scum. I'm your mother. I took care of you. I own you. She grabbed Issei's hair and dragged him out of his room and continued downstairs where he pinned him to the floor and patted his arms and legs. Issei cried seeing her take a kitchen knife. I'll teach you not to interrupt me again, Issei's mother said. She then plunged the knife into Issei's knife and across his left cheek, making a diagonal wound. Issei screamed in pain but he was prevented due to the tape over his mouth. The wound was bleeding down his left face. Not yet. I'm not done yet. She pulled Issei's hair back and held the knife to his throat. With this, I will no longer be able to waste my precious money on feeding you. The terrified Issei could only cry. He couldn't even scream as the knife dug into his skin. Ding dong, both Issei and his mother heard the doorbell ring. Huge relief flooded Issa's chest as her mother put the knife away. But he was still scared when she dragged him into the basement, a closet under the stairs. Shut up. I'm not done with you yet, Issei's mom said, closing the door. Thank God she didn't lock her out. Issei then heard the front door open and heard voices. They were their neighbors. They were curious as to why there was screaming and loud noises in the middle of the night, but Issei's mom simply told them that it was none of their business and that they should just go fuck themselves. Issei muttered loudly and kicked the closet door hoping the neighbors would hear him and help him, but it was no use. Annoyed by the woman, the neighbors returned home. Issei's mom then locked the door before going upstairs and going back to sleep, leaving Issei completely tied up in the closet. He clenched his hands and fed himself to try to free himself but he wasn't strong enough. He was still 7 years old. Tiredness grew in Issei as he ran out of energy and he eventually fell asleep. He was grateful to still live even though he was so close to death that night. But he considered it lucky because his sister is safe and still alive. The next day Issei opened his eyes and saw that he was still tied up in the closet. His blood had dried on his face and neck. This time Issei reached down with his bound arms and removed the tape from his mouth. He then used his teeth to free his hands and used his hands to free his legs. He carefully opened the door and looked around for his mother, but to his relief, she wasn't there. He must have run out of pills again and went out to buy more. Issei rushed to his room, opened the closet and put his clothes aside to see Aiko crying. Shish, don't worry Aiko. Big brother is here. Don't worry, I won't let them hurt you, Issei said as he carried his sister and shook her carefully to try to calm down. 6 years have passed and the situation has become more violent. There had been many occasions where both Issei and Aiko were so close to death, but there was one place where they could hide safely. It was under the kitchen sink. When Issei's mother kept hitting him again and again, he managed to escape her and hid there. To her surprise she didn't find it all day. So that was the only safe area in the house. She tried in the attic, basement and closets but she always manages to find it. Issei was now 12 and Aiko was 10. He is old enough to help Issei when he is in danger. She cared for Issei very much and always helps him, however she can't. But even she can't stop her mother when she's furious. Their lives were already hellish enough, but things only got worse when the mother actually took another husband. And this boy was even worse than before. He was the leader of a gang. Not only that, but Issei would sometimes catch him staring at Aiko's ass or breasts despite her being an 8-year-old. And the look she gave her terrified Issei. Once Issei tried to call the police, but his father claimed that he was just playing a joke because he was 12 years old and when Issei died the police believed him and left their house. Calling the police made her father angry and that day he vented all his anger on Issei. Other events where Issei called the police but while she kept calling them, the police kept getting annoyed because they thought she was a little prankster and hung up every time they heard her voice. And that's when she decided he could no longer depend on the police. She not only has problems at home but also at school. Issei was at school now. He was walking down the hall. As he passed a group of 5 older students, one of them suddenly tackled Issei towards his locker and knocked his bag away. Take his bag. The bag, one of them said as another grabbed his back and threw it away laughing. Ha ha ha, I hope something broke in your bag, sis. One of them said, if something broke why don't you ask your drug addict mom for help? Ha 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 ha. Another said. Issei simply remained silent as the bullies laughed and teased behind him. He grabbed his bag and continued walking to his next class ignoring the bullies. These bullies have been harassing Issei for over a year now. Like locking him in the bathroom every time he comes in, making him trip, kick his bag, throw paper balls at him in class and more. They think what they do is fun, and messing around with a guy might make them tough. Due to the fact that they sometimes locked him somewhere like the bathroom, locker, and storage room, Issei missed a lot of classes and this made his teacher angry. They also laughed at him as he was scolded by the teacher for skipping class. At the end of that day he came home only to see his father playing cards while having a beer with his friends. Oh it's you, said his father seeing Issei, without even bothering to say hello. Where's mom? Issei asked. She's gone, she must have bought something. Hey, buy us more beer. We're running here, her father said as he finished his bottle of beer. If his father asked him to buy more beer it means that his mother went to buy something other than beer. Considering his mood in the last few days, he ran out of pills again. I don't have money and I'm still underage, Issei said. I don't give a fuck, if you don't have money steal the beer. I don't waste the money I won today, I prefer to waste it on women, his father said eagerly. But you're married to mom. Issei said only to be answered by his father throwing a beer at him. Issei barely dodged the bottle as it shattered on the wall. Shut your mouth brat and get us more beer, damn it. And you better hurry. Oh, and clean that shit up, I don't want to ruin my shoes with a piece of glass, said his father. Knowing that his father won't give him money to buy beer even though he has some, Issei went to his room. He opened a drawer and pulled out the false bottom revealing some money. He stole all of these from his mother's bag so he can buy food for him and his sister whenever their parents don't cook the day before. He buys with Issei who buys a case of beer and gives it to his father and cleans the broken bottle glasses on the floor. That night Issei slept. He was then awakened by the voices of his parents. He heard them arguing among themselves. Apparently their argument is because his father spent all the money he won playing cards with his friends at a strip club and came home empty-handed. His mother scolded him because not only had he spent the night with other women, but because now they had no money left. Issei then sat down when he saw the door open and revealed his sister crying. Big brother. I'm scared, Aiko said. Don't worry Aiko, you can sleep with me tonight, Issei said moving to the side to give Aiko some space in her bed. Aiko nodded, climbed onto the bed and folded the sheet over them. Will they stop? Aiko asked as Issei stroked her head. Don't worry, they'll stop sooner or later. Big brother is here for you. Don't be afraid, sing with me, Issei said with a smile. Aiko nodded and both brothers started singing the lullaby that Issei had been singing to Aiko since she was little. She's called, I'm a little teapot, tarnished, hear me scream. Turn me over and pour me out a euro, both brothers sang. Aiko then began to sleep. Issei also closed his eyes to rest. Both brothers slept peacefully together, but the night still had some hurt to bring. The father walked out of the house and slammed the door, leaving the angry mother to march upstairs to Issei's room. You, their mother pointed at Issei. Both brothers sat down as Issei was thrown out of bed and onto the floor by their mother. Mom no. Aiko said as her mother continued to stomp on Issei. Issei could only grunt in this situation every time. I saw you take money from my purse snatcher. Where is he? I need money. Where is my money? Where? Issei's mom asked. I didn't get anything. Ah, Issei protested, liar. Where is he? Where? Issei's mom screamed. She began pulling his hair and dragging him away from her room again. Come here, you thieving scum. I'll cut you down again for doing this to me. If Issei revealed the location of his accumulated money, he and Aiko would have nothing to eat because they would no longer be able to depend on their parents. The only thing she can do is accept another wound on his face. She dragged Issei downstairs and recorded him again. Mom. But before he could get a knife from the kitchen he heard Aiko's voice. Both she and Issei turned to her, and to Issei's surprise, Aiko was pointing a gun at their mother. This stopped her mother in fear of her. Issei took the opportunity to remove the tape that imprisons him. Hey Aiko, what is that? Put it down. You don't want to hurt mom, do you? She said. Aiko, with tears running down her cheeks and hands shaking, she still pointed the gun at her mother. Leave big brother alone, Aiko said. Their mother started walking slowly towards Aiko. Aiko, put it down. Listen mom. Aiko put it down, she said as she approached Aiko. Leave big brother alone. Aiko pulled the trigger and fired the gun, but, due to the lack of strength in her grip, the recoil from her shot prevented her from hitting her mother. But she jumped in fear. Issei took this opportunity to completely remove the ribbons and grabbed Aiko. They ran up the stairs and into her room. She locked her room and pushed the drawer in front of it. Be big brother. Aiko shouted in fear, still with the gun in her hand. Aiko, where did you get the gun? Issei said as he grabbed a bag. He has already packed several of her and Aiko's clothes in case they have to escape. She opened the drawer and put all the money she had stolen from her mother into her bag. I got it from Dad, Aiko said. I saw it in his jacket. Thanks for helping me Aiko, Issei said. Then he climbed out the window and onto the roof of the balcony. Come on Aiko, he said holding her hand. Where are we going? Aiko said and grabbed her brother's hand. Issei pulled her out the window. They carefully walked down the edge and landed on the ground. We're getting out of here. Mother will definitely kill us for what we did, Issei said, making Aiko cry again. I'm sorry, big brother. I just wanted to help you. Issei shook his head. No Aiko, you did well. Thanks for saving big brother. Now let's get out of here, said Issei. Yes. Aiko replied. Both brothers rushed through the neighborhood and walked away from their home for good. It's been more than a week since both brothers ran away from home. They abandoned the city and remained under the bridge. Issei was studying how the gun works. He accidentally pushed the bottom which opened the ammunition magazine. He counted the bullets and there were only 7 left. Now they were homeless and their money was already gone. Issei has thought about going to an orphanage, but he is afraid that their parents might find them there. And their father could use his gang to destroy that orphanage and everyone in it. He doesn't want to cause pain to others, so he chose the path. Aiko was now eating the last piece of bread they had bought. Even though Issei was terribly hungry, he let Aiko have all the bread for herself. Big brother, here. Aiko divided the bread and offered one to Issei. No Aiko, eat it all. I'm fine, Issei lied. Don't lie big brother, you're hungry now. You haven't eaten for 2 days, Aiko said as she continued to hand the bread to Issei. Just a small piece. You'll eat the rest. Issei took the divided part and tore off a small piece before handing the larger one back to her. Aiko, no big brother, eat it all, said Aiko, but Issei only ate the smallest part. We will have more food later, for now eat it all, said Issei. Are you sure? Aiko asked, tilting her head. Yes, I'm sure. We'll have more food later, Issei said. Aiko trusted Issei to get more food later, so she ate all the bread except for that little piece that Issei took. Issei knew that they had no money and couldn't buy food. But there is another way to get money: his father's gun. Luckily Issei knows of a bar owned by his father's gang and it was pretty close from here. His father always took his friends out to drink beer and gamble. He knows they weren't good. But stealing is still wrong. But if he doesn't get any more food, not only he but also Aiko will starve. He can't let this happen. He wanted Aiko to not only live but have a good life. With a loving family that doesn't hurt their children from time to time. Issei waited for Aiko to fall asleep. Once she was asleep, he put a blanket over her and stood up with the gun. He already knows how to use it since he saw it on TV, but his lack of experience shooting one in real life still weighs on his confidence. But he doesn't let this get to him. He just hopes that the one who robs doesn't react, otherwise that member will tell his father and everything will be lost. Issei was in the alley waiting for someone to open the back door of the bar. He has the gun in his hand and is waiting patiently but nervously for someone. The consequences of this are too heavy, which means he cannot afford to fail. If he had failed, he would have been lucky to get away with it. The door then opened and Issei grabbed the gun. He saw a man go out the back door while he drank a bottle of beer. Issei saw the jacket he was wearing. It was the uniform of his father's band. The man placed the beer bottle on top of a garbage can before climbing up the wall and started peeing. That's when Issei slowly walks behind the man and puts the gun to his neck. Don't move, give me your money, Issei said as he covered his mouth with his hand and shirt to make it sound like a grown man's voice. Feeling the gun pointed at his neck, the man turned pale. What? Money, the man asked scared. Don't scream, otherwise you'll die. Kneel on the ground and put your hands on the wall, Issei said in a deep voice, and the man did what he was told. Take the wallet with one hand and give it to me, said Issei. Why yes, don't shoot. The man did as he was told and Issei took his wallet. He didn't bother opening it and concentrated on the man in case he reacted. Once Issei put his wallet in his pocket, he grabbed the beer bottle and smashed it over the man's head, knocking him unconscious. Then he put the gun in his jacket and ran away as fast as he could. Before returning to Aiko, he checked his wallet. There was a fair amount of money and it was enough to buy 6 loaves of bread and a bottle of water. He spent it all on food and returned to Aiko, under the bridge. Wow, big brother. Where did you get these? Aiko asked as Issei brought the bread and bottle of water. Eat Aiko. Don't worry, I paid for all of these, I didn't steal any of them, Issei said. He told the truth, she didn't steal the food. She stole the money. Let's eat, Issei said as he took 2 loaves of bread and gave one to Aiko. Thanks for the food. Aiko said gratefully before taking a bite of the bread. She eats calmly with a big smile on her face. However, Issei doesn't have a smile on his face. He was looking at the bread in her hand. It's bread bought with dirty money. Dirty money that she robbed. Is it really good? Either rob someone for food or starve. The one she robbed was a member of her father's gang, a group of thugs. But even so, that boy could have a family. A wife, a son, and he just robbed that man. What if he needed that money to take his son to school? What if he needed that money to buy food for his family? Many questions crowded Issei's mind, big brother. But before Issei's paranoia could grow any more, Aiko called out to him, yes. Does the bread taste bad? Asked Issei. No. Why don't you eat? You're hungry, right? Aiko asked Issei. Just put the bread back in the plastic, I'll eat later, you just enjoy it, Issei said laying down on the other blanket they had put on the floor to lie on. He couldn't eat the bread no matter how hungry he was. Not after what he did. His sin cursed his dreams that night. 3 months have passed and Issei has still done the same thing. He robbed his father's gang. He didn't just rob a bar. But every time he sees a member of his father's gang alone, he robs him. He also evaded the police on several occasions. He has no choice. It's either do it or die. Sin or death. He knows that he will eventually pay for his sins one way or another, but as long as Aiko is okay, he will accept any punishment. Even going to prison. But the payment for his sins came sooner than he expected. After buying more bread and water, Issei went back under the bridge only to meet a terrifying person. Hello son. Issei was hit in the face by his father with a big punch. He crashed to the ground and dropped all the food. Big brother. Aiko screamed. She was being held by one of her father's subordinates. Issei got up and saw his father with 5 of his subordinates. This terrified him, not for his safety but for what his father might do to his sister. So you're the little bastard who stole from my boys, huh? You got some guts to run away. Because of you, that bitch of your mother turned her anger on me. I had to knock that bitch out. It was starting to bite me, for heaven's sake. He said to her father as he approached Aiko and smelled her hair. Get away from her. Issei growled in anger. He tried to get up but another subordinate grabbed him. Stay down, asshole. The subordinate punched Issei in the stomach. This punch was much stronger than her mother's punches. He fell to the ground, coughing. Now that I have found you, I will do what I should have done in the past, his father said before kicking him in the face and knocking him out. Issei opened his eyes and saw that he was in a dark room with a single light source. There were 2 other people there. He tried to get up but was chained to the chair. It was worse than the tapes his mother used on him. Then the door opened and his father walked in. Oh, you're awake. Good, said his father. He looked at his father squinting. Where's Aiko? Issei growled. She's in a safe place. If you want to see her, do as I say, her father said. Issei wondered what he would say. He suspected that she had said something like she should go home so that her mother would direct her anger at him instead of her father. Another option he suspected was death for robbing members of him. Other options came to mind but he was sure the first 2 were the ones that would come up, but the option he heard wasn't the one he suspected. Join my gang, Issei, his father said with a smirk, making Issei's eyes widen. Join your gang. I'm only 12. I can't be in a gang. Issei denied. I'm not asking you here. I'm telling you. I told you if you want to see your slutty little sister again, then do as I say. So join my gang, said her father. Don't call Aiko a whore, you bastard. Issei said. This made his father snap for a second and punch him in the face. Issei's head was almost torn off from his neck due to the strong force. Better watch your tone, idiot. You're the one tied up, so show some respect before I smash your face in again. Father threatened him. Issei simply spat the blood out of his mouth and turned to his father. He already has a black eye on his left eye. Why would you want me to join? Issei asked. He was curious why. Does his father really want him in his gang or does he just want a little slave for his entertainment? Probably a slave. Simple. You robbed my men very well. And not only that, but you also ran away from the police several times. You are quite good and I want to use you, his father said. Issei then smirked and this made his father narrow his eyes. Go fuck yourself, you son of a bitch. Issei said, still smiling. This made his father snap again and punch him. This time he didn't just punch him, but several times before stopping. Issei's face was now bleeding. I said to show some respect, dickhead, but you didn't. So I'll show you your place. His father nodded to the other 2 men. They freed Issei from the chair but chained his wrists and ankles to the ground. Issei then saw them with wooden sticks each. These 2 guys are 2 of the many members you robbed. They have a score to settle with you. I was even thinking of giving you to them to beat you up for just 10 minutes. But since you're disrespectful, I'll give it an hour, said his father and approached the door. Have fun. Then he closed the door. You piece of shit, the beer bottle hurts like hell, you know. It just hurts that bad, he said, the first man patting Issei on the back, making him scream in pain. Not so hard now without your little gun, huh? The other said before patting him on the back. Issei also shouted at this. Both men took turns patting Issei on the back for over 10 minutes. After the 10 minutes of pain, Issei's back has bruises and scratches. He was panting and sweating profusely from the pain. There's only 10 minutes to go. There's still 50 minutes to go, said one of the men. Now they have replaced the wooden sticks with whips. This will teach you. The other man said as they began whipping Issei's back. Issei gritted his teeth and gripped the chains in agony as this happened. For a whole hour they continued like this. They whipped Issei to their heart's content over and over and over again. But because Issei was in pain, he never begged them to stop, ever. He just screamed and screamed, but he never begged. After the hour of torture, Issei had already passed out. His father was angry that Issei didn't change his mind about joining. So he decided to torture Issei for days. Issei spent hours being whipped, beaten, slapped with wooden sticks, starved, tortured with electricity, and even underwent Chinese water torture. But after all this, Issei never agreed to join them, ever. Angry at Issei's refusal, his father fought the urge not to kill Issei at that moment. He needed Issei's skills against his rival gangs. So he needed something to break Issei's will. And after over 2 weeks of consecutive torture, he decided to leave Issei for a day and continue tomorrow. The next day, Issei was sprayed with water to wake him up on the floor. Wake, little guy, the boss wants you in his bedroom. Hurry up, okay, another member said. Issei looked at him silently before 2 other members freed him from the chains and dragged him out of the room. When Issei arrived at the door of his father's room, he was paralyzed with disbelief at what he had heard. His father thought of something to break Issei's will. His sister, and no. Issei muttered slowly. He could hear creaking and moaning inside the room with a familiar female voice screaming in pain and begging to stop. Issei, realizing this, opened the door to see his naked father on top of a naked and limp Aiko. Tears flowed from his eyes. Seeing this, Issei was ignited by an anger that he had never felt before. You are enough. Issei tried to attack his father but was held back by his subordinates. He trembled violently to escape their grasp, but he was only a 12-year-old boy. Let go, let me go, I'll kill him, Issei shouted. You brought all this upon yourself. If you just joined my gang, then your sister won't be like this. It's all your fault. His father pointed at him. You're the one who did this. I'll kill you, you crazy girl. Issei threatened but was met by his father's fist. Big words for a brat. His father said to him. He grabbed Issei's hair and pushed him towards his sister, Aiko. Aiko, can you hear me? Aiko, Issei shouted. Aiko looked at him weakly. Great, brother. He called Aiko, Aiko. It's me, he's the big brother, Issei said. His voice was trembling, not from the pain in his back from the torture, but from the pain in his heart at seeing his sister like this. Big brother, I'm contaminated, Aiko said as she began to cry again. Seeing her sister suffer froze Issei. His father was right, this is his fault. He failed to protect Aiko, he failed to protect her sister. He is the older brother and yet this happened to her. How helpless, how unreliable, and how much of a misfortune can it be for an older brother? I repeat, join my gang. Otherwise I'll give it to the boys. If that bitch could scream like that with one man, how much can she scream with dozens of men shoving them in her face? Same time, his father laughed at the thought. However, Issei paled at the thought. He has already caused Aiko so much pain, and there is only one thing he can do to stop her from suffering. I will join you. Tell me, what do you want me to do? Issei said with his head lowered and his hair shadowing his eyes. His father smiled. Attaboy, he said, be big brother. No, he said weakly, Aiko, as she held out her hand towards her brother. Issei took her hand and held it. He looked at her with tears in his eyes. It's going to be okay, Aiko, big brother will be okay. Don't worry, I'll be fine, Issei said despite not knowing what kind of danger his father would give him. No. Aiko muttered before fainting. Issei gripped her hand tighter while gritting his teeth in anger. It's really a shame for an older brother. Treat his wounds, he's a member of the gang now. His father said. His subordinates obeyed and grabbed his arms to drag him away. Issei's sight stayed on Aiko for the last second until he was able to see her anymore. But even though he was now under his father, Issei will make sure his father pays dearly for what he did today. The anger in his eyes, Issei silently burns with revenge as his wounds were healed. Day a monster was created. A Chapter 1 Alpha 30 AA. Next day, I1/4 2 years have passed since Issei and Aiko left their home. Issei was now 14 and Aiko was 12, such as robbing rival gangs, moving drugs, and even attempting to assassinate someone. Issei obeyed without question, knowing that his father can and will harm Aiko the moment he leaves. He has already seen how his younger sister got hurt and this pained his heart a lot. The tears in his eyes and the screams of his agony when his father had his way with him hunted Issei every night when he slept. Issei had already killed several people. His first kill was a captured member of a rival gang. His father introduced the man to Issei, who was chained to a chair with a sack covering his head. When his father ordered him to shoot the man, Issei only had a second's hesitation before pulling the trigger. After the sound of the shot, his father smiled proudly at his stepson. The thought of robbing someone was already haunting Issei, but now he has committed something even greater: murder. He killed someone. A real person. As before, he thought of the man's family, his friends, his wife and children, if he has them. All those people lost that man because of him. His father told him not to regret because the man is a criminal who rapes women before killing him. But even so, Issei can't help but be paranoid. Killing someone is too much for a boy in his early teens. He subsequently robbed more people before committing another murder. He attempted to rob a member of another rival gang, but that man had a knife. The man tried to fight back and inflicted several cuts on Issei. But Issei managed to point the gun at the man's chest and pulled the trigger. The bullet did not hit his heart but prevented him from moving. Issei knew that the man had already seen his face, so he was forced to shoot him in the head to prevent his identity from being revealed. And the shocking fact is that Issei didn't hesitate this time. He simply pointed the gun at the man's head and shot him then and there. His first kill has a slight hesitation, but this one doesn't. He just killed the man without a second thought. After that event, Issei realized that when he robs someone he needs to hide his identity from them to avoid killing another. So he used his pocket money that his father had given him and bought a mask. This mask was completely white and the face on it was emotionless. It was just a blank face. He also bought a black hoodie, black jeans, black boots and black gloves. With this he continued to rob other rival gangs with those clothes whenever his father ordered him to. Issei regrets every sin he commits, but what can he do? If he stops, runs away, calls the police, asks for help or refuses, Aiko will be dead or worse. But that doesn't mean he doesn't do something about it. He secretly plans to kill his father. Whenever he has free time he surfs the internet to find out how to make a homemade bomb that is powerful enough to destroy walls. He already knows how to make one and has enough money to buy the materials, but he has decided not to do it yet. He doesn't know where to hide it and doesn't want to risk being discovered. This is his only chance to kill that bastard and he doesn't want to ruin everything. At that moment Issei brought a handful of money to his father who was constantly counting it with a satisfied smile. Nice, nice. Very good Issei. I expect I'll be fine, bring more tomorrow. He said father about him but Issei just remained silent. He noticed the silence Issei gave him. Hey brat, answer. And it better be good. His father threatened. Issei took a second but said something different. Where's Aiko? I told you to answer. Don't ask, idiot, his father said only for Issei to glare at him with sharp eyes. Where? Issei asked shouting softly. He's in a safe place. Don't worry, I bet he's enjoying his new home now, his father said. Where? Issei asked again, this time his voice was full of anger. His father looked at his son with narrowed eyes. Watch your mouth, brat. Don't forget that I'm your father. Be thankful I didn't cut off your fucking head when I found you under that bridge. His father only told Issei to narrow his eyes, and fix that crap face of yours. I don't want you staring at me like that, you piece of shit. I'm your father, so show some respect. His father said and Issei turned and walked out the door. I'm going to my room. Issei closed the door and his father continued to count his money that Issei brought. Issei entered his room and sat on the bed. He hasn't seen Aiko for 5 months now. He asked his father where but he replied with the same answer. He told him that Aiko is safe and sound and that he is now enjoying her new home. Issei didn't believe it. A place that his father would choose for his sister is not always a safe and healthy place. He bet Aiko is still hurting but all he can do is wait for the perfect opportunity to blow up his father with his bomb. Another month has passed and the situation has not changed. Issei robbed and stole money for his father. He again killed 2 other members of a rival gang. And the worst thing is that Issei's hesitation vanished every time he kills. It's like he's getting used to it. He tried desperately to force himself to avoid getting used to killing but after the second murder his hesitation diminished again. He absolutely hated to admit it, but he's getting used to killing. All he could wonder was, what is she becoming? Issei couldn't wait any longer. He would have killed his father this month by now. His bomb was already half ready and he had already tested one before and it had worked. Once the bomb is ready, she will try to find out where Aiko is and kill her father. She also knew where her father had stashed the money and once saw the code on the safe. She plans to kill her father and take the money and Aiko away from this horrible place. Then and only then will they finally live happily. Without parents to destroy their lives, but things are about to take a turn for the worse. She heard something from her father. Issei was on his way to his father's office when he heard him talking on the phone. He stopped outside the door and listened and what he heard chilled his soul. Yes, she's good, right. She's my daughter, her name is Aiko Hyodo. Well, stepdaughter to be exact. How old is she? She's 12, she'll be 13 in a couple of months. Do you want to try it with her? Well, it'll cost you but I'm sure you won't regret it. Well, it's a deal, an hour with her. My boys at the pier, we have already made the deal. Give the boys the money and you can do whatever you want with my daughter. Her father said before hanging up. Shock overwhelmed Issei. The anger she felt towards her father, who she thought was at her peak, increased dramatically. She understood what his father meant about her when he said that Aiko was safe and sound and she was having fun. She was selling her body for money. Her father had been taking Aiko away for 5 months now. Does this mean that Aiko was hacked for 5 consecutive months to get money? Money, money, money. Issei gritted his teeth like never before. Her hand was balled into a fist so tightly that her nails dug deep into her palm and began to bleed. Issei was so angry that she wanted to come into this room and kill her father right here, right now. Fuck the bomb, fuck if she dies after, fuck if she goes to prison, as long as she can kill her father and save her sister, then she doesn't care what happens to him. But wait. Save her sister, must save her sister. Issei ran out of the building and towards the dock. She ran for 10 minutes without stopping or even slowing down. Aiko is raped by a man after being raped by who knows how many others. She ran through the streets, not caring about vehicles honking at her and pushed people walking on the streets. Her sister needed him and she needed him now. After walking a few more blocks, Issei arrived at the dock. She ran everywhere even with deathly tired feet. He was panting and sweating profusely but he couldn't allow himself to stop, not while Aiko was in danger. While he ran between the warehouses he stopped in front of the abandoned one. He opened the door and to his shock he saw his sister. She was lying on some foam with 4 random guys having their way with her. His anger was now so immense that he could only think of one word: kill. Get away from her. Issei shouted, getting the boys' attention. Who are you? Asked one of them. That's the boss's son. What is he doing here? Asked another. Issei used the last of his energy to charge towards the 4 random boys while roaring at the top of his lungs in anger. Stop right there, brat. He told one of the men that he was one of 2 members of his father's gang. The second member pulled out a gun but before he could point it at Issei. Issei pulled out his gun and shot him in the eyes. The sight of someone dying terrified the other two men who were not part of the gang. Probably the ones who bought Aiko from her father. Of her, brat, die, the man said as he pulled out his gun, but like the other member. Issei shot him before he could do anything. Now Issei turned to the other two men and shot one of them in the head. The other was trembling in fear. Wait. Who are you? I'm just a customer here. I didn't do anything, the man defended himself but Issei didn't even care. He just shot him without even looking at him. All Issei was doing was running towards the foam Aiko was laying on. Aiko. 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 Issei shouted as he arrived. For what it's worth, Issei was happy that Aiko was alive, but that didn't matter now that this had happened to her. He was very weak and his eyes were so lifeless. Seeing his sister like this, Issei's tears welled up in his eyes. Aiko. Issei called again, this time shaking his sister. This caught her sister's attention and she looked at him. Big brother. You. Aiko said weakly, it's me, Aiko. It's the big brother. Wait, I'll get you out of here. Issei said he cleaned up Aiko and dressed her. He then took her off the dock and took a taxi. Then they came to a place where Issei thought they would never go back. At their home, even though Issei didn't want to go back, they have nowhere else to go. They can't stay on the docks, they can't stay under the bride, and they certainly can't go back to their father's gang. Even though their father tried to look for them at their home, they still returned. They have nowhere else to go. The sun had already set when they arrived in front of their house. Exiting the taxi, Issei brought Aiko inside. Once inside, she looked for her mother and saw no trace of her. Then he carried Aiko upstairs and placed her on her bed. Big brother. Aiko shouted, it's okay Aiko, I'm here now. You're safe, Issei said as he put the blanket over Aiko. Thank you, big brother. Aiko said with tears in her eyes. This made Issei burst into tears again and he grabbed her hand. Aiko. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I let this happen to you. I'm so sorry, Issei said, lowering his head towards her as he held her hand with shaking hands. Aiko wanted to say that it wasn't Issei's fault but she couldn't. Her father continued to sell her day and night. She had breaks several times, but most of the time she was used by random men. She was sometimes raped by more than a dozen men at once. She was sometimes raped by women too. It was a nightmare for a 12-year-old girl. She never stopped hoping that Issei would come and save her, but she never did. But she never hated him. He knew that Issei did so much for her and that he really cared for her, that's why he waited and waited and waited until he got there before her. Because Issei was in deep pain. She failed again. He's a disgrace as a big brother. Letting her father rape her was devastating enough, but now she's been raped by how many people for 5 months straight. He can't help but blame himself because he believed her pain was in her hands because she was weak. If only he had been stronger, he could have protected her. He could have protected her from her mother, her father, and everything else about her. All he wanted was for Aiko to be happy. To see that smiling face of hers. In any case, he never cared about himself, all he cared about was Aiko. He is the only person he literally cares about in this world. So, you're back. Issei froze when he heard his mother's voice. He turned his head and flinched as she held a knife in her hand. His angry eyes were directed at Issei. How dare you come back here? After what you did, his mother attacked him with the full intention of killing him. Issei responded by punching her in the abdomen, causing her to fall to the ground. She dropped the knife and Issei kicked it away. Issei is already 14 years old and has enough physical strength to fight her mother's body, which is very weak due to the overdose of pills, foam. Her mother growled as she stood up, but Issei pointed his gun at her, making her stop in fear of her. Gun. You wouldn't hurt your mother, would you, Issei? You're my son. You can't kill me. You can't. He asked her. No, you're not my mother. You've never been a mother anyway. You're just a tormentor, Issei shouted. A tormentor? How dare you? I created you. I fed you. I let you live. I wasted time and money on you. I am not your tormentor. I am not a tormentor to anyone. I am your god. I own you. How dare you insult me like that? Her mother screamed, but Issei responded by shooting her in the leg. She screamed and rolled on the floor in pain. Crazy. I'll kill you. Just wait. Once he has another knife, he'll kill you. She crawled out of the room dragging her affected leg. Her blood ran onto the floor as she crawled through the hallway cursing Issei. Issei took a handkerchief and wrapped it around Aiko's eyes to cover them. He grabbed her hands and placed them over her ears. Listen to me, Aiko, I want you to sing for me, okay? Issei said. Sing your favorite song, think of something happy, and whatever you do, don't let go of your ears. Don't listen to the noise outside, okay? Said Issei. Be big brother. You won't hurt mommy, right? Aiko asked, scared. Issei just bit his lip and took a deep breath. Don't take off your blindfold until I get back, okay? I'll be back soon. I promise. Issei avoided the question. She doesn't want to show Aiko what kind of person he's turned into, and she doesn't want to lie to her either. Issei kissed Aiko's forehead before standing up. She grabbed her knife, walked out of her room and closed the door. Aiko did what Issei said and sang her favorite song, I'm a little teapot. I'm a little short and stocky, Aiko began. Outside, Issei stood over her mother and pointed the knife at her, but she grabbed his wrists and stopped him. Here's my handle and here's my spout, Aiko sang. Issei hit her mother on her forehead with the same head as her and punched her. She took the opportunity to stab her in the chest, drawing blood. When she's all hot, hear me scream, Aiko continued. Issei continued to stab her mother while she screamed. Her blood spurted with each stab to her chest. Turn me over and pour me out, Aiko concluded as her mother's death screams faded. A few more seconds before the door opened again and Issei came in and was out of breath. He was deathly tired. He closed the door behind him and sat on the floor with the wall behind Aiko. Feeling his brother's breathing, he took off the blindfold. "Big brother." Aiko shouted. She then saw blood on Issei's clothes, hands and face. Even though he was still young, he understood what he had done, but he didn't say anything because Issei didn't want her to know. So he decided to pretend not to know. "It's okay, Aiko, go to sleep for now," Issei said with a smile. Aiko just nodded and closed her eyes. She just hoped that once she woke up she would forget what had happened. Issei waited a couple more minutes to make sure Aiko was indeed sleeping. He walked over to her and kissed her forehead before walking out of her room and gently closing the door. He still has to deal with her mother's body. Issei took the blanket from her mother's bed and wrapped her in it. He then used her tape and wrapped it to hold the blanket in place. It was the same tape that his mother had used the last time she tied him up. He laughed a little about how things have changed. Finally, he grabbed a rope and wrapped it around her to help him drag her to the back of their yard. Issei grabbed a shovel from the shed and began digging a hole. Once the hole was finished, thunder roared and a heavy rain followed, but that didn't stop Issei. He pushed his mother's body against the wall as tears flowed from his eyes. His tears were camouflaged by the rain. While he was burying his mother, he cried thinking back to her shitty life. He has been beaten constantly by his mother for as long as he can remember, forced to rob her to feed his younger sister, forced to rob, forced to join a gang, forced to kill, witnessed the rape of his sister, and now he has killed his own son. Issei's own mother can't help but laugh at his pathetic excuse for a life. All he wanted was for his sister to be happy, yet that's what happened to them. What did they do to deserve this? Did they do something unforgivable in their previous life? Or they're just down on their luck? Why the fuck did this happen to you? Issei screamed as loud as he could as lightning and thunder clashed across the skies. He fell to his knees crying his eyes out as the rain fell harder. He got up and continued burying. It's not over yet, not while he is still alive. After more shovels of earth, Issei now completely buried his mother. He threw the shovel aside and went home. He came in and changed clothes. Issei killed his father's customers who had bought his sister. He knew that saving his sister would only be a bad deal for his father and he would be furious with him. He knew his father would come here trying to take his sister back and kill him. That's why he must be ready. Issei broke the chairs and tables with an axe. He also took nails and a hammer from the shed. He closed the curtains and began nailing the windows and the door shut. He tied a rope on the roof to escape, nailed wooden boards and placed them under the windows, destroyed the wooden floor in front of the front door, placed a closet in front of the basement door, and placed the refrigerator on the back door. Then he checked how much ammunition was left in his gun. His gun is a Glock 19. It has 15 bullets plus 1 in the barrel. He used it first and it cost him 5 rounds of ammunition. He currently has 10 rounds of ammunition plus 1 on the barrel, for a total of 11 rounds of ammunition. He also has another full magazine, so that means he has 27 rounds of ammunition left, an axe and his knife to spare against his father and his gang. He cursed the odds. Issei tried to save money to buy more weapons, but everything he recovered by robbing someone was inspected to prevent him from stealing money. After fortifying the entire house, Issei finished his bombs and placed them in a side bag. There were 2 bombs in total. While Issei waited for his father to arrive, he went upstairs to check on Aiko. She was peaceful. This made Issei sad again as she would once again disturb his peaceful sleep. "I swear I will protect you, Aiko. I will never let them hurt you. I promise," Issei declared to her sleeping sister. It fortified her room even more than the other windows. She wanted to wake her up and tell her to run, but where would she run to? She has no money, she has no home, and she has no one. She would be left alone, and Issei doesn't want that to happen to her. Escape is impossible, so do or die. You absolutely need to win this battle against your father and his subordinates. If she doesn't win, it doesn't matter whether they live or die, they will be doomed. Issei left a note that read, "Stay in the room." She doesn't want her to get caught in the crossfire. Before checking all the fortifications and traps, she saw that they were all prepared. Now all you have to do is wait, and after half an hour they have arrived. Her father came with more than 10 of her subordinates. Her subordinates held pistols, machine guns, or shotguns. More odds against Issei. The windows are boarded up with wood. "That brat must be here," one of his subordinates said of her. So he didn't escape. "You little tough guy. Come in and bring him to me." Her father commanded and her subordinates obeyed. 4 men went to the door and tried to open it. It was locked, so one of them started picking the lock. Inside the house, Issei held the gun in both hands. She stood in front of the large everything on the floor leading to the basement, which was in front of the front door. This hole was wide and made it impossible to jump through. This hole is the strongest defense Issei has in this house. She waited patiently but nervously for them to open the door. She already has the gun pointed at the door. The instant she heard the knob click, Issei was about to pull the trigger, and then the door opened. Blast. 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 Issei shot 4 bullets at the man who opened the door, causing him to fall to the ground dead. This shocked the others, but it shocked his father even more. "Kill him." His father screamed and forced the 3 men at the door to return fire at Issei. One of them even has a machine gun. Issei ran to the side and hid behind a wall. The wall he was hiding behind was more than enough to protect him from bullets, but being armed with something like machine guns, Issei can't hide behind a wall for too long. A man tried to jump through the hole but hit the opposite edge and fell into the basement. Issei took the opportunity to shoot him down. "Come in," ordered his father. "But boss, there's a huge hole. We can't get in," his subordinate said of him. "Then break the damn windows. Go to the back door. Kill that brat and bring me his sister alive." His father ordered all of his subordinates to surround the house. Issei heard a bang on the window closest to him. Then he shot at the window. The bullets pierced the wood and hit a man from behind. Seeing his partner shoot, the other man grabbed the gun and started shooting at the wood. Issei crawled through the living room, avoiding the gunshots from the window. He heard another one slam into another window. He shot at the ones behind but he wasn't sure if he hit them. "Come out of there, you piece of shit." One of them yelled at Issei. He heard it from below. He peeked around the corner of the wall and saw that several men were going down into the basement, but he was prepared. "What's up with this basement?" "It's flooded," one of them said. The entire basement was knee-deep in water. 5 of them were already down there. Issei already knew that they would try to climb down the hole, go through the basement and climb up, so he flooded the basement with water as a trap. He threw a plugged hair dryer into the basement, electrocuting all 5 men present. Their death screams were heard from outside by his father and this made him very angry. He was so angry that he called the other gang members after him. "Get everyone here now. Bring more weapons. Bring Molotov cocktails. I want this house burned to the ground." His father said. He doesn't care about Aiko anymore. There are however other girls he could kidnap to sell to his clients inside. Issei reloaded his gun immediately after shooting someone from behind the fortified kitchen window. "You're going to die, you bastard." He heard a voice from outside. "Fuck you." Issei cursed as he loaded the magazine. Then he heard the back door being pushed open, pushing the refrigerator along with the door that had been opened. Issei pointed the gun at the door and once the man pushed the door enough to open a small gap, he shot him. It only hit his arm and he staggered away before more bullets hit him. Issei cursed as the man survived. Issei could hear multiple voices throughout the house. It was now completely surrounded and many windows were blown open. And to make matters worse, he was running out of bullets, but that didn't stop him. He shot at the windows to kill those who hit the wooden fortifications all around. They also returned fire from outside and Issei crawled across the ground and returned fire. But one of his fears came true sooner than he expected. The reinforcement of one of the living room windows was destroyed and a man entered with a rifle. Issei cursed as the man didn't land on the wooden plate full of nails. Then he came out of the wall where he was hiding and started shooting at the man. But the man reacted quickly and jumped behind the sofa. When Issei stopped shooting, the man raised his torso and fired his rifle at Issei, who barely dodged the bullets. Issei came out of the corner wall again and fired back, but another of his fears occurred. "He's out of ammo. You're dead now, bitch." He told the man that he was inside the house. Knowing that Issei had no more ammo, he confidently walked off the couch and into the kitchen where Issei was. But he wasn't lucky because Issei was waiting for him with an axe. The moment the man rounded the corner, Issei slammed the axe into him. He only hit the man in the shoulder, making him scream. He didn't kill him, but it was enough to knock him to the ground. Issei took the axe off the man's shoulder and brought it down on his face. Issei hit the man in the face with the axe twice more before grabbing his rifle and heading towards the living room where he saw one with a gun, but it landed on the plated nails. The man screamed and fell to ground as he accidentally fired the gun. The nails from the plate stuck into the man's feet and bled. To save more ammunition, Issei used the axe and hit the man in the throat, killing him instantly. He tried to pull him out, but another man came in through the window and shot him. Issei stumbled backwards as he was hit in the left bicep by the bullet. That man only had a gun in his hand, so Issei shot him back with his rifle. So far none of those who had entered the house had machine guns, but Issei knew that sooner or later they would enter. But he arrived first. 2 more men entered through the open window and hid behind the sofas. One was holding another pistol and the other was holding a machine gun. Issei was forced not to return fire. He can't stand all this heat. When he heard other men coming through the window, Issei understood that they would go to the kitchen where he had been cornered. He needs to go upstairs because the first floor was starting to be overrun, but the problem was the men in the living room. He could have tried to run up the stairs, but he would have been hit by a hail of bullets before he could get up the stairs. So he decides to use his trump card. He removed the pin and threw one of his bombs into the living room. It exploded on the group of men. The explosion caused 2 more windows to break and fortunately hit those who were breaking them. After the explosion, Issei moved away from the kitchen and shot a man who was trying to get up. Another, who was on the ground, grabbed his ankle but shot him in the head. Another tried to get up but he was shot too. Issei was surprised when the nearest window was also blown open and the survivors of the explosion took the opportunity to get up and grab their weapons. Seeing those who survived the explosion standing, Issei retreated up the stairs, barely dodging the bullets that were fired at him. A man tried to follow him but Issei turned and shot him. The force of the shot pushed the man down the stairs. Seeing his men being killed one by a 14-year-old sent great anger to his father and he decided to go in too. He reached in through the broken window and pulled out his machine gun. Another man fired his rifle from a corner but missed Issei, who was also hiding in a corner. Issei reached the peak and shot at him, but missed as well. While he was reloading he saw his father, who saw him and pointed the gun at him. "Die." His father shouted and fired the machine gun at Issei. The bullets only hit the corner of the wall with Issei behind it. His father shot him and emptied his gun. Hearing the jingle of the gun, Issei peeked around the corner and tried to shoot his father, focusing too much on killing his father. Issei failed to see another subordinate who has a gun. He shot at Issei and the bullet grazed Issei's right thigh. Issei screamed as he collapsed onto the floor but quickly got up and retreated through the halls, hiding in a corner as he dragged his affected right leg. The first floor was completely overrun and his father's subordinates were climbing the stairs. Issei used the corner as a shield and returned fire at his father's subordinates, but eventually ran out of rifle ammunition and retreated into the corridors. "He's out of bullets, let's go." One of the men screamed as he and the other members charged through the corridors, but as they rounded the corner they saw Issei throw his second bomb. The bomb exploded on the group of men. With no sofas to use as a shield, they were left completely exposed to the bomb fire and they all perished. His father, who was near the stairs, quickly hid behind the corner to avoid the explosion. After gaining more time, Issei quickly opened the door of his room and saw Aiko all scared. "Big brother, what's happening?" "These are gunshots," Aiko asked, but Issei quickly grabbed her hand and pulled her out of the room, running before answering. "It's Dad, he's here with his friends. They're all downstairs, we have to go to the attic now," Issei said as they walked up the stairs and into the attic. Issei closed the door to buy more time and climbed onto the roof where he prepared a rope to escape. But as soon as they escaped, Issei saw more vehicles arriving. Other subordinates of his father. Issei gritted his teeth in anger. He intended to lure everyone into the house and escape through the roof while they left the yard open. But now that others were arriving, there was no longer any room for him in a safe land. The house and yard were swarming with armed men. Issei and Aiko were trapped on the roof. Their father and the men inside all came out. "Burn this house," the father ordered his men about him. Several men started throwing Molotov cocktails into the house, setting fire to the first and second floors, causing Issei and Aiko's situation to get even worse. It's like every time Issei thought the situation couldn't get any worse, it happens every time. Knowing how desperate the situation was, Issei's tears welled up in his eyes again. Is there nothing they can do? This was the question Issei could think of. "Big brother," Aiko called out to her brother in tears. Issei hugged her tightly. "I'm sorry, Aiko, we can't run away now. Dad will definitely kill me, and if you're lucky he'll kill you too," Issei said, making Aiko cry again. Issei lowered his head as more tears came. He is 14 years old and armed only with a small knife, trapped in the roof of his burning house while surrounded by an army of grown men armed with guns. The fire was starting to spread throughout the house as men cheered around the burning house. But Issei saw the left side of the courtyard where there were only 3 men. "Aiko, listen to me. We will jump to the left side of the house. And when we land I will distract those men. Then I want you to run as fast as you can, okay?" Issei said as Aiko shook her head. "No," she said, "go to the police station. They will help you, they will protect you from Dad." Issei said, "No. I don't want you to die, big brother," Aiko said as she grabbed her brother's shirt. "If you die I'll go with you," Aiko said with tears in her eyes. Issei tried to push her away from him. "Aiko, listen to me." Issei shouted. "No, I don't want to live without big brother." Aiko yelled before Issei could push Aiko away. They heard more sirens in the distance. It was the police. Several police cars were arriving at the scene. "Oh shit, it's the cops." One man said, "Flee." Another said half of the father's gang ran away while the other half fought back. They shoot at the police cars that stopped. The police got out of their cars and started shooting at them again. There was a total shooting in the neighborhood. Issei couldn't believe it. This was the first time in his life that the police helped them. And it took more than 10 years to do it. "Okay, I won't die. But we have to jump down," Issei said and Aiko nodded. Issei made sure the rope was tied well and they both jumped down from the burning house. With the police distracting his father's gang, it gave Issei and Aiko some hope, but life sucks. Both Aiko and his own weight were too much for his hand and he was unable to keep his grip and to let go of the rope. They both fell to the ground, but Issei groaned in pain because he broke his ankle. "Big brother. Big brother. Are you okay? Big brother." Aiko shook her brother who was holding his ankle and more misfortunes came to them. Their father heard Aiko's screams. Issei saw this and forced himself to stand up despite the sharp pain in his leg. Not only did he get shot, but he broke his ankle. "Aiko, we have to go," Issei said as he quickly grabbed Aiko and ran away dragging his feet. "I won't let you escape." Filled with anger, the father chased them both. Issei and Aiko jumped over the fences and ran through the woods that were behind their house. They ran through the trees and bushes in the middle of the night with their father catching up to them. "Aiko, go ahead," Issei said. "I can't run as fast as you, go." "No, I do not want to," Aiko said, hugging Issei tightly. "I see." Hearing his father's roar, Issei had no choice but to push Aiko back with all his remaining strength. This made her fall to the ground. "Go, Aiko. I don't want you to get in my way. I don't need you. You're just a weight when I fight. I want you to get as far away from me as possible." Issei screamed, shocking Aiko. Issei's tears continued to flow as she bit her lips. She said such a terrible thing to her sister. She had no choice but to say it, otherwise she would be so stubborn as to run away. So the only way she knew to make her run away from her was to say harsh things to make her hate her, and it worked. With tears in her eyes, Aiko got up and ran away. Issei watched her run away full of guilt. "I'm sorry, Aiko," Issei apologized before wiping away his tears and turning to face her father who had already arrived. His father glared at Issei with total anger. It's all your fault, because of you my gang was destroyed. It's all your fault, damn it." His father pulled out a gun and shot Issei in the legs, making him scream and fall to the ground. His father walked up to him and slammed his head into the ground. "It's all your fault. If I hadn't met that woman I wouldn't have had this shit right from the start. Your family is a curse. You're all shit," his father said as he started pounding Issei's head into the ground with Issei grunting with every step he took. "Die. Die. 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 Just die, damn it. You're not a good brat. Die. Why were you born in this world anyway? All you were worth was a punching bag for that little bitch of a mother you have. You're nothing at all. You're just a waste of breath. Get out of this world." He can't help but feel like he's right. It would have been even easier if he had committed suicide and had it's over, but before Issei could give in to despair he remembered why he didn't commit suicide. If he died, Aiko would have no one. Issei had considered suicide several times now, but instead he would go to Aiko's room to see her little sister. She was the only reason why she continued to live, why she continued to exist in this world. And that's why he can't afford to die here. With a loud scream, Issei grabbed the only weapon he has, which is the knife, and stabbed his father's leg, making him scream and stumble backwards. This gave Issei the chance to sit up and take deep breaths. You bastard. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. His father screamed as he removed the knife from his leg. Issei stood up and threw a right punch, but was instead punched by his father and knocked him to the ground. He was already too tired and too hurt after the fight at home. Not to mention that he was too young while his father was still fresh, unharmed except for the knife wound on his leg, and in his prime. And guess what? He now has Issei's knife in his hand. Yes, more stack against Issei. If it wasn't for you, this wouldn't have happened. You killed my best client and destroyed the gang. You will never be forgiven for this. His father said as he raised the knife, aiming fully at Issei's head, but before he could lower it, a rock was thrown at him, catching his attention. Leave big brother alone. It was Aiko who was holding a stick that she had found on the ground. Issei, who was on the verge of dying, weakly saw Aiko. Aiko, no. Issei said weakly. Aiko charged at her father and tried to hit him with the staff, but he simply punched her into the ground, easily knocking her to the ground. Their father then saw Issei flinch when he saw him hit his little sister. This made the father smile from ear to ear. Now I understand. How could I? I forgot your weakness, her father said with a sadistic chuckle as he grabbed Aiko's hair, pulled her up and pointed the knife at her face. No. Issei muttered with fear in his eyes. His father's smile widened as he slashed Aiko's eyes. Issei's eyes widened as wide as they could when he saw Aiko screaming in agony as he put his hands over her bleeding eyes. Issei's eyes almost widened when he saw her father stab her chest. Aiko's blood splashed out and reached her face. Ha 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 ha. What about this, Issei? How did you like it? Their father asked, laughing out loud. And with that, Issei sprinted. You are enough. Issei's roar echoed through the woods and something unexpected happened. Some sort of energy-like force exploded from Issei. This completely shocked his father. The force was strong enough to shake the leaves in his father's hair. Issei then stood up completely healed. Glowing red runic symbols lined up next to Issei's arms. The sclera of his eyes were blood red and his pupils were completely green. What? What the hell is this shit? His father asked about him. Issei immediately punched his father. It happened just in a flash. His fist sank into his father's abdomen and blood spurted. The damage to his internal organs caused his father to vomit blood and crash to the ground bleeding. The blood that squirted out, into the hole in his father's abdomen and mouth, flowed upward in flying streams. The blood then formed into a spear and the blade aimed at his father's head. His father was simply too terrified by this scene, and due to the hole in his stomach he was unable to move or even say anything. All he could do was remain silent as he witnessed his death. Die, is all Issei could say as the blood spear pierced his father's head before it turned liquid again. Satisfied with his father's death, the mysterious form that Issei had assumed disappeared. His eyes returned to normal, the runes on his arms disappeared, and his wounds returned. He used the very little strength he had to walk towards Aiko and knelt in front of her. Big brother. Aiko screamed, unable to see her brother. Issei placed his hand over Aiko's. It's not over, not Aiko. Dad's gone, Issei said. Then his eyes moved to the bleeding wound on his chest, and the bloody cut across his eye. Even though Issei had thought that her tears had now dried, they flowed down her cheeks again. Aiko, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Issei apologized. Big brother. Aiko murmured, and even though her eyes were damaged, her tears welled up again. I let you suffer so much, Aiko. I failed to protect you. I failed to make you happy. I managed to protect you from Dad. I disappointed you so many times. And that's why you suffered so much. Issei said as tears fell on their hands. No, big brother, it's not your fault. Aiko said with a bloodshot. But you made me happy, big brother, Aiko said, widening Issei's eyes. All the times you spent with me, taking care of me, sleeping together in your bed, were the most cherished moments of my life. I was happy. I was so happy to be with you. You are the best big brother in the world, older brother. Aiko said with a smile, making Issei hug her tightly. She also returned the hug. Thank you, Aiko. Issei thanked. Do you promise me, big brother? Please continue to live. Please find happiness. Even if I were no longer alive, I promise that I will always be with you, for always, Aiko said, making Issei nod. Yes. I promise to live together, Aiko, in this life or the next, Issei said. Aiko. And she has sworn that she will keep her promise. She promised him that she would always stay by his side, so that means she had to continue living for her sake. About her, big brother, can you sing for me? Aiko asked. She knew it was a stupid request, but she would really like to hear it one last time. Yes, let's sing together, Issei said as Aiko nodded. I'm a short, sturdy little teapot, here's my handle, here's my sturdy, the two brothers sang together. This was the last song they will ever sing. When I'm all steamed up, hear me scream. Turn me inside out and pour me out. They concluded. Did you like Aiko? Asked Issei. Yes, thanks, big brother. Aiko said. Issei heard her voice weaken. Her hug tightened because she knew Aiko's time was running out. Aiko, will you ever forgive me for being a bad big brother? Issei asked as her tears continuously flowed. Aiko held Issei even tighter. Big brother. Aiko said, but her voice faded away afterwards. Her hands gripping Issei's clothes fell and her shoulders then softened. Issei's hands were shaking really hard when he felt that Aiko was no longer breathing. In the end, Issei could only scream his name into the sky because he never knew if Aiko had truly forgiven him or not. 8 Previous A Chapter 2 Alpha 30 AA Next day, I1 Quarter 3 3 years had already passed since the death of Issei's family. Immediately after Aiko's death, Issei remained with his body until the police found him and took him to safety. They tried to send him to an orphanage, but Issei ran away several times and lived on the streets. The owners of the orphanage noticed that Issei liked the streets, so they decided to give him some money to survive from time to time. Sometimes Issei would go into the forest and bathe in a lake he found before returning to the city and walking the streets. Then he slept on park benches, under the bridge or wherever he felt comfortable. He didn't care where, he just needed to sleep well at night. People sometimes think that he is homeless and offer him money, but he always refused because he doesn't need it. He said he's just a guy who loves spending time outside. From time to time he returns to the orphanage, but only if he needs to do something there, like change clothes and things like that. Furthermore, Issei then studied how he got that strange power that killed his father. He tried to activate it and it worked with enough concentration. He can't believe it's possible, but in this form he has gained increased strength, speed, stamina and has blood control. Not just his own but that of others, as he had full control of the blood of a dead dog. He also learned how to transform his energy into more blood, but he learned that he had to be careful not to use too much blood to avoid contracting anemia. So to generate more blood he has to pump his heart even harder. He discovered how to control his heart and speed up its beating to generate more blood, and it worked. However, if his heart beats too much, it causes him incredible pain. Not to mention the fact that he could give him heart attacks. Issei has practiced this new power of his and can shoot blood projectiles and create blood weapons such as spears, swords and even bullets and guns. But for now he can't do anything else, he has to practice even more at this moment. A 17-year-old Issei was walking through the streets as his life has been for the past 3 years. "I'm a short, sturdy little teapot," Issei sang. This was the lullaby that he sang to Aiko since they were little, and she still sings it because she knew that Aiko is with him thanks to her promise and she would like to hear him sing. "Here's my handle, here's my spout. When I'm all steamed up, hear me scream. Turn me over and pour me out," Issei concluded with a smile. He hoped Aiko would like him. Then he noticed someone familiar in front of him. "Yo Issei, I finally found you," a boy of the same age greeted him. He has short blonde hair and gray eyes. "Hey, Saji," Issei greeted his friend. This is Saji Genshiro, the son of the owners of the orphanage where Issei stayed, or to be precise connected to him since he doesn't stay there often. He had been friends with him since the day Issei arrived. He was also the one who took him around the place, and he was the one who convinced his parents to let Issei live on the streets but provide him with money. Since Issei never had a good school life, Saji was practically his first friend. "About him, I've been trying to find you all day, man. You're hard to find, you know that," Saji said as he approached Issei. "I even tried calling you but you never answered." "Sorry, I put it on silent," said Issei. "Did you forget to turn it off again?" "Damn, you're careless," Saji said before holding out a paper bag. "Here's your money for the week. 20,000 yen, Saji said as Issei accepted the bag. "Thank you," Issei thanked. Saji was also the one who handed him the money, but he always has trouble finding Issei since he is always around the city. "Isn't it sad to always be alone?" Saji asked. "Sometimes you go out with me," Issei said, making Saji shake his head. "I meant when I'm not with you. You're just wandering around the streets all day every day. Even in the winter and summer you stayed out. Why aren't you staying at the orphanage or going to school?" said Saji. "I like the streets, I feel more comfortable around here," said Issei. He feels comfortable when he's outside. When he was at home in his past he was usually beaten by his mother or father, and when he was at school bullies harassed him. The only safe place he could be is the streets. "But you have to go to school, man. You're as old as me. Children like us have to go to school," said Saji. "But why should I go to school?" asked Issei. "Well, for starters, you could make some friends. Hang out with them." "I know. Why don't you go to my school?" Saji offered. "Kuo Academy, right?" asked Issei. "Yes. It's great there, it just became co-ed this year. It was a former girls' school, so that means the female population is over 90% there." "Isn't that great?" Saji asked with a toothy grin. Issei just smiled. Saji has always been interested in girls. Issei doesn't know why, but he simply likes them. Normally Issei would have done so, but he was too busy taking care of his sister rather than looking for a girlfriend. "I think I'll pass," Issei said. "No brother, you have to go to school." "My mom and dad said that too," Saji said. "I don't know." Issei wondered. Saji then wrapped an arm around Issei's shoulders. "Come on. It'll be fun. We could hang out. I'll even show you the two big ladies of the school. And I have to tell you, they're hot," Saji said, almost shouting. "You're too loud." "Alright, I'll try," Issei said. "Really? Great. I'll call mom and dad to tell them. We'll get your enrollment and school supplies ready. Let's go to school together on your first day," Saji said, and Issei nodded. "Yes," Issei said with a smile. Days later both Issei and Saji arrived at Kuo Academy. Saji was right, the female population is larger. Both boys were wearing their school uniform. "Welcome to Kuo Academy, Issei," Saji said. "Unfortunately we're not in the same class, but it's okay. We only see each other during breaks." "Yes, we should go before we're late," Issei said, receiving a nod from Saji. They both went to school. Unknown to them, two beautiful women were watching them from the second-floor window. About her, one of her has a curvy figure with green eyes and long crimson hair that reaches her thighs. She was wearing Kuo girls' school. The other one has glasses and is slim. She has black hair cut into a short bob and purple eyes. She is also wearing the school's female uniform. "Those guys, I can feel something powerful in both of them," said the red-haired girl, making the other one nod. The blonde one is called Saji Genshiro. He has been here since the second year and has powerful equipment. "Sacred, but the other one has something different," said the girl with glasses. "Something different? Not sacred equipment?" the red-haired girl asked, making the black-haired girl nod again. "If it's not sacred equipment, then what is it?" She continued, I don't know, replied the other. But I can't wait to make him one of my servants. If you do, then I will make the other servant of mine too, said the red-haired girl. Later was the lunch break. Issei and Saji had a nice first day. Due to Issei's age he was automatically enrolled in the second year like Saji, but unfortunately they have different classrooms. At that moment Issei was on the roof waiting for Saji while she drank some juice. They had agreed to meet on the roof every lunch break, but he was annoyed that Saji wasn't there on the first day. Why does it take so long? As Issei took more sips of juice, he decided to practice blood manipulation. She bit her thumb to create a small opening to let the blood out. She then transformed it into a claymore sword completely made of blood. It is also perfectly solid since Issei cannot turn liquid blood into solid. She also wondered if it was possible to turn blood into gas. That should be nice. Then she rang the bell and Issei liquefied his blood before sticking it in his thumb and walking back to class. Unbeknownst to him, a handsome blonde boy saw his bloody sword. Instead of being confused about what he saw, he simply smiled because he was impressed. After school Issei never saw Saji again. Where the hell is he anyway? Just to get out on the first day. After waiting a few more minutes his friend Issei decided to leave it alone and go. He was walking around the city after leaving his bag at the orphanage. But as time passed Issei noticed someone following him. She was a short, petite girl with white hair. He entered a restaurant and ate there and went to the arcade before leaving and going to the park, but every time the girl kept following him until the sun had already set. Issei, annoyed by this, decided to ask her why she is doing what he is doing, but he doubted that she would let him do it easily, so he decided to lure her. He went to a park and passed the tree, out of sight of the girl. When the girl got closer she saw that Issei was no longer in the tree. Unknown to her, Issei was already on the branch above her. Seeing the girl close enough, he landed on the ground scaring her. You've been following me for a while now, why? Asked Issei. I wasn't following you, the girl replied, I walked everywhere and you were there a few blocks behind me. It's not good to lie, you know, said Issei. The girl tries to think of something to avoid the question and accomplish something. Why don't you go home? It's getting late, he said. I'm home, Issei said as he walked to the nearest bench and lay down on it, shocking the girl. Sleep here. Why don't you? Are you at the orphanage? The girl asked. Personal reasons. I prefer to live on the streets, Issei simply replied. Now that I've answered my question, answer yours. Why don't you follow me? Someone told me, she replied. Who? Issei only asked for the girl to lower her head. Issei understood this. I understand, it's okay if you don't want to tell me, Issei said, calming the girl down. We're going to school tomorrow so you'd better go home and get some rest, Issei said, making the girl nod and walk away, but she stopped at the corner and watched Issei more. The girl watched Issei for a few more seconds. She was thinking of calling it a day when she felt a drop of water hit her head. Then more droplets arrived, signaling rain. The girl took an umbrella from her bag and was about to go and wake Issei from sleep to warn him of the weather, but stopped when she saw Issei doing something. Issei bit the tip of his finger and made an umbrella out of blood before it started raining heavily. Blood, the girl wondered. She then saw Issei leaving the park and she decided to follow him again, ending up under the bridge. Issei liquefied her blood and brought it back into her body before sitting on the ground with his back against a wall. She yawned before falling asleep. The next day the girl went to the school's old classroom building during lunch break. Inside the building was the red-haired girl from before. Next to her was another curvy girl who was the same age as the redhead but with long raven hair tied in a ponytail. There was also the handsome blonde boy. President, the girl called out, drawing the attention of the others. What is Kaneko? Asked the red-haired girl that she was their president. The Kaneko girl explained what she saw. On her how Issei used his own blood to make an umbrella. She also explained that Issei preferred to sleep on the streets rather than in the orphanage. The blonde boy also said that he saw Issei create a sword with her blood, so she's really special, the red-haired girl said with interest. What should we do? The black-haired girl asked. Sona had already claimed the other one. I think we should ask him to join us. Kiba, I want you to get him back later. I want to talk to Issei Hyodo, the red-haired boy said to the blonde. Yes, not president, said the blonde boy named Kiba. Later Issei was in his class studying. There were a few minutes left before class and most of the students weren't even listening to the teacher anymore considering it was time to go home, but Issei continued studying. It's not that he likes studying, it's just that he's here at school and he might as well study. What else will be done? Wait in boredom. Saji finally got to the roof first and they both went out. Saji stated that the reason she wasn't with him yesterday was because he joined the student council. Issei congratulated him and asked him how he managed to get in, but Saji simply replied with a curvy smile that he's smart. Issei saw that Saji's expression was a little shaky but he still believed him. Finally the bell rang and all the students got up and started packing their bags. Issei also did the same. That's when he heard multiple girls squealing. Oh my god. It's Kiba. Kya. One of the girls said, Good afternoon Kiba, do you need anything? Asked another. It was the blonde-haired boy from the old school building. He raised his hand to try to calm the girls but failed horribly. Hello girls, is Issei Hyodo here? Kiba asked. Yes, it's over there, he pointed to the girl. Do you need anything from him? She asked. Yes I do, Kiba said as he walked towards Issei. Excuse me, Issei Hyodo, right? Issei looked at the boy who was smiling at him. Yes, I am. And you? Issei asked. Kiba Yuto, it's nice to meet you, Kiba greeted. Nice to meet you too, Issei replied. Can I help you? She asked. Yes, do you want to come with me for a moment? You're not busy, are you? Kiba asked. No. I have too much free time anyway, Issei said. Kiba started escorting Issei and they ended up in the old school building. Issei asked why they were here and Kiba said that his club president wants to talk to him. When they arrived at the club room all 4 members were there. President, I brought him, Kiba said earning a thank you from him. Do you need anything? Issei asked as the chair turned to reveal the beautiful red-haired girl. According to Saji, this is Rias Grimori, one of the 2 great ladies. In speaking with the great ladies, there is also the second one, Akano Himahima. Saji also told him that Rias is the president of the occult research club and Akano is the vice president. As Issei looked around, he saw the girl. From yesterday eating a mountain of snacks, it's you, Issei said to Kaneko. Hello, he greeted Kaneko before going back to eating. I heard you met Kaneko. She's a member of this club, Rias said, so you were the one who told her to follow me. Issei asked and Rias nodded. Why? Why do we want to ask you what you are? Rias said, huh, Issei said. What did she mean by, what is it? Have they seen her skill? What do you mean? Churches, what are you? You have the ability to manipulate your blood, right? Rias asked shocking Issei, how do you know? Issei narrowed his eyes, we saw you. You made a sword and an umbrella out of it, Rias replied. Issei cursed herself for using his power in public. How can he be so idiotic? So what are you going to do? Sell me to the government to do experiments on? Asked Issei. No, we have other intentions, Rias said. Suddenly a pair of bat-like wings grew out of his back making Issei's eyes wide. Not only her but the others also broke out the same wings. We are devils, you see, and we want you to join us, devils. Really? The ability to control your own blood is shocking enough, and now this. Surely the world is a strange place, reach you. Asked Issei. We won't treat you badly, I give you my word. We will treat you like family. Your power may have potential and we would like you to join us, Rias explained. It'll be fun, darling, Akano said with a smile. Issei remained silent. We could also give you a place to stay since you don't like living in an orphanage. You won't live on the streets anymore, Rias also said. Issei simply remained silent and looked at Rias. Rias is definitely a beautiful girl. That long crimson hair of hers is gorgeous and her body is mesmerizing. Not only her but also Akano is the same. If she joined them she could not only actually find an explanation for her power, but she could also hang out with these amazing girls. Issei only comes up with one word. No, Issei said shocking Rias. I've dated someone before and I assure you it didn't go well. So, if you don't mind, I will politely decline, Issei added with a bow to Rias. Are you sure? We'll treat you like family, you know. Not we will be like the person you bonded with in the past, said Rias, clearly not wanting to give up on Issei. I'm sorry, I continue to refuse. My life is my life and it belongs to others and I will survive any problem that comes my way, but I will do it on my own, Issei said. He was very serious about continuing to live, this was what he wanted anyway. Seeing Issei refuse so strongly, he gave up. I understand, then I won't force you, said Rias. If you don't mind I'll leave now, I will keep your identity secret if you will also keep my powers secret, and let's pretend this never happened. Have a nice day, Issei said before leaving the group. Issei went to the park as the sun had set and it was getting late. She lay back on the bench since she saw no clouds in the sky. That means it won't rain tonight. She closed her eyes and began to sleep. This was a great day for him. Saji joined the student council and discovered the existence of devils. What could be more? Issei decides not to think about any of this and goes to sleep. Tomorrow is Saturday, which means he can go to the arcade all day. After sleep Issei woke up but not like he expected. Issei opened his eyes and saw that she was floating in a pitch black place. Even though everything is black, he wasn't dark because he could still see himself. Where am I? Issei wondered. Suddenly a very beautiful young woman appeared before him. She has an amazing body with big breasts and slim curves. She has shoulder-length brownish blonde hair with dangerously seductive eyes and a seductive smile. She wore skin-tight black armor with crimson designs. Her armor is so tight that it highlights her curves but is very comfortable. Issei was stunned by the beauty of this woman. She was actually even more beautiful and sexy than Rias and Akano, damn it. Greetings Supreme, or should I say, my beloved, the woman said in a very sensual voice as she bowed in respect towards Issei, confusing him. What is this? Where am I? Who are you? Issei asked, making the woman laugh at his confusion. Oh my god, how cute you are, my beloved. It's like you're a lost puppy trying to find your way home, the woman said. A puppy? Issei asked as the woman bowed again. I apologize if calling you puppy offended you, my beloved, he said. Hey, why do you keep calling me your beloved? And answer my other questions, Issei said. The woman couldn't help but smile at Issei. She really liked seeing Issei so confused. You asked so many questions. But don't worry, I will answer them all, the woman said. Are you also a devil like the others in the school? Issei asked, fully preparing to reject her if she tried to possess him. If you're referring to the fact that I'm the same as the red-haired girl who tried to claim you, then no, I'm not a devil, I'm your servant. My name is Veronica Sapphires. Chief of your Praetorian Guards. The woman who was Veronica introduced herself with a bow. My Praetorian Guards, what are they? Issei blinked. Fu, we are the Supreme's royal guards, of course. In other words, we are the bodyguards who protect you, Veronica said. Issei was still confused here. He just woke up in this place, which confused him enough, and now there's a drop-dead gorgeous woman here introducing herself as one of his bodyguards. What the hell? Is this a dream or something? The woman's smile widened a bit as she easily read Issei's expression. He's clearly confused, and judging by the fact that his confused expression lessened, she knew he was thinking it was just a dream. Oh dear, it's not a dream, my beloved, I promise you. You don't have to worry. Veronica said in a grammar that is clearly an ancient language. How did you know what I was thinking? Asked Issei. I can read you. Just like I read other people to know what they think. It's not a spell, I just learned the arts of mentalism. I'm also pretty good at it since I have over 200 IQ, but that's good enough for me. Let's talk about you, Veronica said, purring the last word. Issei had chills as he swore he saw Veronica move her eyes up and down his body, as if she was checking him out. This place is a space I created in your head. It's practically a dream, but it's real 100%. I came here to discuss some matters with you, she said. Discuss what? Issei asked. Even though Veronica had answered all of her questions, Issei was still confused. He said this wasn't a dream, but Issei might think it really is. Veronica read his expressions and understood again what he was thinking. Oh my god, it seems that you are once again not believing my words when I said that it is not a dream. If you still doubt my words, then I will meet you personally soon, Veronica said again, shocking Issei as he read his thoughts again. You called me the Supreme and your beloved, why? Issei asked. It's very simple, my beloved, Veronica said with a simple touch of her fingers. They were then transported to a balcony of a huge castle. Wide-eyed Issei looked around and saw that the building stretched as far as the eye could see. The buildings were all nice and big, but the castle it's in is even bigger. He doesn't know how he got there and why he is here. This place is known as Azralia. Your kingdom and you are the king, Veronica said as she looked down. Issei also looked down and saw thousands of soldiers lined up in cohorts. They all wore fully plated crimson armor, each holding a crimson shield with golden designs. The shield was a rectangular shield that curved around the body. The height of the shield is from the chin to the knees and the length of the shield is from shoulder to shoulder. Each carried spears with crimson designs on the blade and sheathed swords on their right hip. The purple cloaks were also connected to the back of their armor with beautiful designs. Even though these were just ordinary soldiers, the drawings in their armor proved that they were war veterans. All hail the Supreme. A red-haired female soldier who was in the front row shouted, causing the other soldiers to also chant, all hail the Supreme. He also wore crimson armor. Issei gasped as thousands of soldiers greeted him. Issei had never heard this before. Not only does Veronica call him the Supreme, but these people also called him that. Seeing his confused look again, Veronica had to explain, this is one of the many armies you have, Overlord. This is the first Red Legion. The strongest of your 50 Red Legions. Your generals can take command of any your legion except the first. The first legion is personally commanded by your best and most loyal general, Urza Scarlet. She is so superior that the people of Azralia would go so far as to call her the strongest general of 1,000 battles. Ask me. Yes, he has fought more than 1,000 battles already, and some of those battles are even wars, said Veronica. I don't know what's happening. What do you mean, this is my army? Issei asked. There's no way this is his army. It is already impossible for him to have an army. He's only 17, for heaven's sake. I meant what I said. This is your army, this is your kingdom, Azralia. We, the Azralia, are your devoted servants, and you are the Supreme, our king, the Almighty Blood Lord, Veronica explained. Issei was still having trouble dealing with it. Is he a king? How and why did this happen? As Issei thought about this, Veronica read his expression once again and knew his thoughts. You created us, my beloved. You are our king. Everyone in this kingdom is absolutely loyal to you because you existed. Your words are absolute, and for this reason we must obey you at all costs, explained Veronica. She smiled as she was about to answer her second question about her. Let me answer your second question, she said, getting Issei's attention. I call you, my beloved, because. Veronica approached Issei. She leaned into him, wrapped her arms around his neck and captured his lips. Issei's eyes widened. Veronica was kissing him. This was the first time she had kissed anyone, ever. And even though she just met Rias and Akino, who were the two great ladies of her school, this woman is the most beautiful woman she had ever seen, and she kissed him without warning. The heat of her lips clouded Issei's mind, and he felt more static around her body as she actually felt her tongue slide into her mouth. Unable to move his arms due to the intense pleasure he felt, Issei used her legs to try to move away from Veronica, but she simply brought her left hand down and wrapped around his hips to prevent him from escaping. After Issei managed to regain his senses, she pulled her head back to avoid passing out from pleasure. Hey. What are you, HMMP? But Veronica eagerly grabbed the back of his neck and pushed it forward to capture her lips again. She clearly wasn't going to let him get away. She took the time to savor her beloved as she hugged him. As her tongue moved around Issei's mouth, she began to purr. But after 5 minutes, Veronica's merciless kiss finally ended. She pulled her lips away from him to avoid knocking him out. When they separated, a trail of saliva was visible. Seeing Issei paralyzed in shock made Veronica laugh and move her lips to her ear. It's because I'm in love with you, my Euro beloved, Veronica whispered sincerely into Issei's ear, shocking him again. Before Issei could control himself again, Veronica spoke. Now it's time for you to wake up. But you don't have to worry. I will meet you personally again, my beloved. I will stay by your side and take all orders that you will give me. And when the time comes for you to decide has come, we, your devoted servants, will conquer all and make you the true ruler of all. All hail the Supreme. Veronica's voice echoed as Issei's vision brightened. With that, Issei actually opened his eyes this time. What he saw was the morning sky. He sat on the park bench where he slept all night and stretched. The only thing he did was hope that it was all just a big crazy dream. Otherwise, his first kiss was stolen. A few hours later, Issei was at the arcade playing. He was playing Street Fighter there. Issei spends the weekend playing in the arcade from morning to night if he doesn't feel like walking around the city. This made him really good at games, especially fighting games. While playing the game, Issei wondered if the dream he had was real or not. She has a strange ability to control blood and devils exist, so it must be possible that the dream is real. Yes, right, if he is really a king, then why didn't his servants save him like before? Why didn't they seem to help him fight his father? Game over, you lose, what the hell? Issei said as defeat interrupted his thoughts of him annoyed at losing. Issei took another coin and started again. He fought but was defeated. He put in another coin but was defeated again. Instead of getting annoyed, Issei was starting to get angry about this. He kept starting over and over again but each time he was completely defeated. What the hell is this? Issei asked angrily. After another defeat Issei stood up. He walked around the gaming machines to see who his opponent was but what he saw froze him. Oh my god, have I made you angry, my euro beloved? She said, what the hell? Issei asked in shock. It was Veronica Zafiri, the same woman in his dream. The only difference is that she was wearing a very elegant and very tight black dress. She also wore gold necklaces with red rubies. Not only that, but she also wears gold bangles. Her makeup wasn't heavy, it's her because she doesn't need it, she's beautiful enough. How is it here? It's real. If she is real, then the dream she thought was just a dream is real. These are all the thoughts that ran through Issei's mind. All Veronica could do was giggle at him. For her, seeing her lover like this is just adorable. Don't act so shocking, darling. I told you we'd meet, remember? Veronica said getting up. How is this possible? Asked Issei. There are many things in this world that you don't know exist. Well, I couldn't blame you for that. Veronica sat down and turned to Issei. Come, we have a lot to do, she said and walked out of the porch. Issei decided to follow her only to see a black limousine parked outside. What? Issei muttered as the driver opened the door for them. Veronica entered first and sat down on the seat, making sure there was enough space for Issei to sit. What's happening, my love? If we didn't hurry we would be behind schedule, Veronica said. Issei reacted to the shock and entered. After getting on board, the driver closed the door and walked away. Issei was sitting there next to Veronica. Issei was very nervous since this is his first time in a limo, but Veronica is simply very calm. She is so calm that she keeps her legs crossed and her hands on top. Don't worry, my love. This is your limousine. Yes, it belongs to me, but since I belong to you it means that this one belongs to you too. Veronica explained. Wait, you don't belong to me. Issei defended himself, making Veronica laugh. I belong, literally. Both body and soul. You created me, didn't you? Said Veronica. How did I create you? I've never created anything in my life. Issei said, making Veronica sigh. Oh dear me, this is kind of annoying, Veronica said. If I told you everything right now, the shock would be so great that you wouldn't believe a single word I said. The presentation of your army and your kingdom was still enough of a shock for you. So I decided to take it easy. It may take some time, but, even if the process is slow, you will still know all the knowledge that needs to be learned in time, explained Veronica. I don't know what's happening yet, said Issei. You don't have to worry, Veronica said as she slid closer to him, making Issei gasp a little. Take your time to absorb all of this. We have all the time in the world, Veronica added as she pushed herself towards Issei. Why, you're too close. Issei blushed. Having this incredibly beautiful woman grinding against him made him very nervous. Her dress was tight and black, it hid her gorgeous body but it didn't hide her curves, and the side of her breasts made things even worse. Issei tried to move away to gain more space, but as he moved to the side Veronica followed him, leaving no space between them. He moved and moved until he was pushed against the corner of the door, pinning him down completely. It was all according to Veronica's plan. Don't you like touching me, my euro beloved? Veronica asked Issei, making him come shivers down my spine. And no. I don't, Issei said, but Veronica read him again. Are you sure? He still doubted. He moved one of his arms around Issei's shoulder while the other moved under his shirt, touching his torso. Issei jumped slightly when this tickled him. She moved even closer to Issei and brought her lips close to his ear. Are you sure? Veronica whispered slowly and in a sensual tone. Issei wanted to say, yes, again, but when he opened his mouth her words didn't come out. It's as if he is hypnotized by her. The way she pushed her incredibly soft body against him, the way she touched and caressed him, and the way she looked into his eyes made him unable to do anything but submit to her. So, I'm waiting for an answer, my beloved, Veronica said, and no. Issei was shocked by what she said. His response brought a dangerous smile to Veronica's face. Then tell me what you really want, Veronica said as she began to take off her jewelry. Please, Veronica. Stop joking, Issei only begged for Veronica to giggle. Since when do I play with you, my love? I'm very serious here, Veronica said as she unzipped the back of the dress, letting it fall to reveal her smooth shoulder and a piece of her black bra. Now tell me what you want. I assure you that I will give it to you, whatever it is, he said as if hypnotized. Issei's eyes lowered to see Veronica's breasts, which made him blush. The feel of them was so soft on her shoulders that he wanted to touch them. Issei looked at her breasts and Veronica knew it. She liked it. Do you like what you see, my naughty darling? Veronica teased. She moved on top of Issei with her knees down right in front of him. Veronica's breasts were completely in front of him. Feel me, Veronica simply said. What? Issei asked, making Veronica sigh. I guess you don't have experience yet, but you don't have to worry. Since I have already had hundreds of lovers before, I will use my experience to guide the Supreme to become a man. Veronica grabbed Issei's arms and she rubbed her breasts with them. The softness of a real woman's breasts was devastating to Issei's conscience. It felt so good to be honest with him. All you have to do is enjoy your hands with my tits, I'll do the rest, Veronica said, letting Issei massage her breasts. Veronica I. Issei said, but Veronica she put a finger on his mouth to interrupt him. Shish, like I said, you don't have to worry. Enjoy the moment, I promise you, as leader of the Praetorian Guards, I will satisfy your carnal lust, Veronica said, hugging Issei while she pressed her body against him. Then she pressed her lips against his. Issei's hers was about to give into lust. When Veronica kissed him, she almost fainted from the sensation. But the feeling she's experiencing right now has nothing to do with that. The heat of the kiss and the softness of her large breasts were only a fraction of the pleasure that was to come. And at that moment a past memory hit Issei. Aiko is raped. Stop! Issei shouted immediately after pushing her away. Do you want to be hard? Then I will do what you want. Veronica grabbed Issei's shirt tightly and was about to ravage his lips again, but then she noticed that Issei looked very pale. Using her intelligence, Veronica remembered what could have affected Issei so much. What could scare him so much that he looked so pale? Was she her mother, her father, or hers? Situation happens. Veronica got off Issei and put on her bra before putting on her dress. I apologize for my actions, Supreme Personality of Godhead, I should have known your thoughts better but I failed to do so. I am a disgrace as your creation. Veronica apologized deeply. Veronica is a very intelligent woman who can easily read minds of people through their expression. She is so powerful and intelligent that it has earned her the position of leader of the Praetorian Guard, the personal bodyguards of the Blood Lord. But her deepest feelings today were extremely senseless to her. Not only could she not remember Issei's pain in her heart, but she reminded him of what had been haunting him for so long. The only thing she wanted was to please Issei as best she could. She knew that her beloved was suffering a lot and she wanted to give him happiness with her own body. Yet, instead of helping him, she made things worse. How could she be silly? Hurting Issei, hurting the Supreme and hurting her beloved is unforgivable for her. For my senseless actions, I will take full responsibility, Veronica said, getting Issei's attention. Issei's eyes widened as Veronica summoned a knife from dark energy. The shock came not from the sight of another strange power, but from the fact that the blade was aimed directly at Veronica's neck. What are you? Issei tried to ask, but he is completely confused. He didn't know if she was joking or if she was serious about it. Even if I knew that it was unforgivable to hurt the Supreme, I would still offer you my life. Goodbye my love, Veronica stated as she seriously attempted to stab her. Stop. Issei quickly ordered to make Veronica obey immediately and stopped her hand. Issei couldn't believe it. She was seriously going to kill herself if he didn't stop her. And for this, for reminding him of her past. This is ridiculous. What are you doing? You're going to take your own life just for reminding me of my past? Asked Issei, not believing this situation. I am a simple servant. One of your many creations. My existence is aimed exclusively at serving the Supreme. In my foolish action reminded you of your past, hurting you mentally, Veronica said, without not even looking at Issei in shame. Issei raised his eyebrow. Is she serious? Just because she reminded him of something unpleasant doesn't mean he should actually take his own life. A simple apology would be fine. You can't take your life for something like that. What the hell were you thinking? If I am really the Supreme, then I will tell you that you should love your life and not take your life for such a simple thing. You are forgiven for that. What have you done? Issei ordered, and Veronica faced him to bow before him. I feel your mercy and will accept it with all my heart. I thank you deeply for your generosity, Veronica said with a very serious tone now, not with her usual playful and provocative, sensual. Even though her voice was so serious, Issei could feel a slight hint of happiness. He blinked. She was truly treating him like royalty. If she were so loyal and devoted, perhaps he would answer her question, a question Issei would really like to know. Veronica, if I am your supreme person, then why didn't you show up when I needed you most? Issei asked as Veronica gasped. When my mother beat me back to back, when my father forced me to join him, when my sister was raped, when my father and his gang attacked us, where were you? Issei asked, starting to glare at Veronica. Veronica gritted her teeth before answering. I'm sorry, Samo, I'm sure you'll know in time, but now is not the right time to know. It's still too early for this knowledge, Veronica said. Issei urged to know why Veronica and the Azraelians didn't help him and his sister. But if they were so loyal to him, they would help him in an instant. But why didn't they do it? Issei knew they might have a good reason for this. So he decided not to ask and to trust Veronica's words that sooner or later she will learn. Sit down, I won't ask you again, said Issei while Veronica obeyed. Tell me what we will do. You said we have a plan. Tell me about this, she said. Issei as Veronica nodded. Of course, my beloved, Veronica said with her voice returning to its usual sensual tone. Our first but only plan for the day is to find a senjutsu practitioner. Your body is normal compared to human standards, but compared to the blood lord that you are, your body is extremely weak and fragile. We have need to strengthen your body and increase your powers, and for that we need an expert senjutsu user to replenish the lost blood and prevent you from getting close to death during training, he explained. A magic screen revealed 3 people. 1 male and 2 females. Issei immediately recognized the white-haired girl. The first one is called Sharon, or should I say, Kaneko. I believe you have already met her, Veronica said. Yes, Issei nodded. She's a Nekomata, or a Nekosho to be precise. But she's already a member of House Grimoire. And I doubt they'll hand her over to us that easily. Veronica said. Issei blinked in shock. Veronica said this girl is a Nekomata. If you're not mistaken, Nekomata are the spirits of cats in Japanese myths. He never really cared whether these creatures existed or not, but it was still a shock that they existed. Yes, my beloved. These creatures exist, along with the other mythical creatures you've probably heard of. Veronica read his mind again. Yes, Issei said, not really comfortable being read by this woman. His master is also the Red Mao's younger sister. Taking the cat would mean declaring war on the devil's race. And we don't want unnecessary conflicts with anyone. If you really want, we can force them to take her away, Veronica continued. No, it would simply be a kidnapping. Said Issei, if my beloved doesn't want to take her, we won't, Veronica said. The second one is a descendant of Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. But he is a member of another organization called Chaos Brigade, so he is out. In the last one, Issei asked, this is the easiest one to take. She's Kuroka, Sharon's older sister, Veronica said. Wait, if she's her sister then does that mean she's a devil too? Issei asked, earning a nod from Veronica. She is, but unlike her younger sister she killed her master. This is due to the fact that her master was trying to use her power for his personal greed and was also targeting his younger sister. Fearing this, he killed him and became a stray devil, Veronica explained. Is a stray devil a devil who has abandoned or killed his master? Issei tilted his head, earning another nod from Veronica. She is planning to join the Chaos Brigade to protect herself from the devil hunters, but if we offer her a position in our ranks and give her protection, she may accept it. In exchange she will offer her powers to the Supreme. It's a win. You win the situation if you're like me, Veronica said, with Issei understanding why she said this girl is the easiest to catch. But we have to hurry, our scouts reported that the Chaos Brigade. He intends to recruit her too, said Veronica. And are we already going to offer it to him? Asked Issei. Yes, and if she refuses, leave the manipulation to me, Veronica said, shocking Issei. Issei remained silent, but if Veronica tried to manipulate this woman, then he would intervene to stop her. Even when Issei still has trouble grasping all of this, he just goes with the flow. From this day onwards Issei's life as king begins. But the question is, what effects will his rule have on the world? 8 First A Previous A Chapter 3 Alpha 30 A Next Day I 1/4 In the thick forest in an unknown place in the underworld there was a beautiful woman walking among the trees. She has a voluptuous figure and long black hair with golden hazel eyes with cat-like pupils. Her most noticeable feature are the black cat ears on the sides of her head. Her attire consists of a black kimono with yellow obi, a set of large golden pearls, and a richly detailed headband. Her kimono has a red interior and is dangerously open around her shoulders, revealing her enormously large breasts that rival Rias, Akino, and even Veronica in size. This woman's name is Kuroka. She is the Nekomata that Veronica showed to Issei. Thanks to her expertise in the execution art, she can sense a group of devils nearby who are chasing her. The devils approached the cat and they all jumped out from her hiding place to attack her. Kuroka summoned senjutsu orbs to fire at her to defend herself, but, stab. Stab, 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 stab. Kuroka's eyes widened as more spears stabbed all the devil hunters. Each devil was pierced by more than 10 spears around his body. Not only that, but several internal organs were also punctured. The attacker was not only brutal in killing, but also targeted the spots where he killed, ensuring that no one survived. The dead devils fell to the ground as the dark energy from the spears crawled around their bodies, covering them completely before turning to ash that flew through the air into nothingness. The attack was swift, deadly and left nothing behind, not even their bodies or their blood. Kuroka stood there, surprised by what had happened. Oh my god, did I scare you? A female voice was heard. Kuroka tried to use her magical arts to find the one responsible for saving her, but she failed. If the performance art cannot perceive this person, it means that she must be really powerful and skilled in hiding her energy flow. Who goes there? Kuroka asked as she couldn't find her savior. Fufu, behind you, the female voice said as Kuroka turned to see Veronica. She wasn't wearing armor, just her dress. Oh my god, so you're the one who saved me, nya? Asked Kuroka. Yes, I am. Let me introduce myself, Veronica said as she bowed, lifting the side of her skirt. My name is Veronica Sapphires, servant of the Supreme. You must be the kid in Kuroka, am I right? I am. What's the reason you saved me, nya? Kuroka said, putting a hand on her waist. Veronica stood up and looked at the cat. I'm here to offer you a deal, Veronica said, arousing Kuroka's curiosity. A deal? Kuroka asked and received a nod. Would you like to join us? Veronica asked, getting straight to the point. Joining you? What's in it for me? Kuroka asked. Protection, we will protect you from devils. In exchange, we want you to serve the Supreme, Veronica explained. Serve the Supreme? Who is that? Kuroka asked, not wanting to accept the offer so easily. Oh my god, the Supreme is the one who will eventually rule the entire world. I am offering you early servitude. If you accept silently, then it might be possible that the Supreme will let you grace with his divine mercy and give you a high position within his castle, rather than being a humble peasant on the streets, Veronica explained with a dark smile. And you expect me to give up so quickly? I want to be nobody's slave, Kuroka said as she summoned a magic circle behind her. This made Veronica's eyes narrow. Do you dare refuse a generous offer from the Supreme? Veronica threatened. Move or I will force you. I don't want to waste my time with you and your owner, Kuroka said as she threw a spinning wheel of senjutsu energy at Veronica, who only summoned a shield of black energy which blocked the senjutsu attack. What? Kuroka was shocked to see her attack blocked so easily. Oh dear me, what a naughty cat you are. A little spanking will do the trick, Veronica said, licking her fingertips. Kuroka's eyes widened as she saw over 100 dark spears levitating above Veronica. All bets are on her. This amount of spears will be too difficult to block. You will learn to bow to the Supreme, cat. Veronica said as she threw all the spears towards Kuroka. Kuroka summoned a magic circle to block the spears, but after a few of them the magic circle shattered, so she teleported from one place to another, but her teleportation range was only a few meters from her current position and she was overwhelmed by dozens of dark spears raining down in another place. Near the battlefield of the two beautiful women was Issei. She was inside the limousine and waiting for Veronica. Before she arrived, Veronica insisted on going alone, but fearing that she might manipulate Kuroka she told her not to try to manipulate the cat, to which Veronica obeyed. Issei just hopes she doesn't disobey him. She was relaxing in the limo when suddenly she heard a loud explosion in the distance. Surprised, she looked out the window and saw that it was coming from the direction Veronica had gone. Knowing that a battle had broken out, Issei opened the door and ran to the site of the explosion. Upon arriving, the dust clouds began to vanish and Issei was shocked at what happened. There, in the center of the crater, was the woman they were looking for. Kuroka lay on the crater with multiple spears piercing the ground around her. Veronica intentionally missed Kuroka, but her spears still caused her kimono to tear and caused small cuts around her body. Kuroka was just lying there with her eyes wide open, pinned to the ground by multiple spears. He couldn't believe it. The power of senjutsu is very powerful and is one of the feared powers out there. She herself is very skilled at this, mastering Yujutsu and space-time manipulation along the way, but this woman she fought just now, not only defeated her but beat her completely easily. Oh my god, is it you, my beloved? Veronica said, moving Issei's eyes towards her. Issei's eyes widened when he saw dark energies covering Veronica's arms, from her fingertips to her shoulders. Her pupils glowed purple. Veronica, what is this? Asked Issei. It is what it is. This she-cat here rejected the offer, so I had to show her how foolish it is to refuse the Supreme. Veronica replied, almost killing her. Issei asked angrily, almost shouting. Issei was angry. Veronica kept her promise not to manipulate Kuroka, but she attacked her instead. If Issei only knew that Veronica would do such a thing, then he wouldn't have allowed Veronica to go alone. It is necessary, my beloved. We must show our strength to anyone who dares to belittle us. Besides, if I hadn't done what I done, she would have run away and we wouldn't have had a chance to use her power, Veronica said, causing Issei to narrow his eyes. We're not using her powers, Veronica. I thought I made that clear to you. Issei said, if that it is what the Supreme desires, then I will willingly follow him, said Veronica. Veronica, you are loyal to me, so it means that you obeyed me when I ordered you not to manipulate her, but you still did a bad act. I don't like how you did it, Issei said to Veronica. I apologize. Veronica bowed, continuing to smile. Veronica plans to make Issei the Blood Lord as soon as possible. Making him a magnificent leader is as important as making him a powerful being. By doing things Issei doesn't like attacking someone Issei doesn't want to hurt, she might make him order her not to attack. It wasn't much, but giving orders to Issei is the first step to becoming the Blood Lord. Veronica didn't like the fact that she damaged her reputation with Issei, but it was necessary. Release her, Veronica, Issei said. Veronica nodded and released the spears around Kuroka. Issei slipped onto the crater and went to Kuroka's aid. Are you okay? Issei asked. Why yes, Kuroka said. She turned to Issei. So this is the Supreme. This was a shock to Kuroka. When Veronica said that the Supreme wants her to serve him, she automatically thought that the Supreme is a perverted man who wants her body or a power-crazed person who wants to use her powers. Not to mention when Veronica said that the mercy of the Supreme is divine, she thought that the Supreme is very arrogant of her, but instead the Supreme is a boy younger than her. Not only did he come to her aid, but she said that he won't use her powers. And finally, he saved her from that crazy woman. Perhaps the Overlord might prove interesting after all. Now that you have been shown your place, you will join us in considering that the Overlord is here. Make sure you make the right choice, Veronica said as she narrowed her eyes and directed her killing intent towards Kuroka, making the audience shudder. Cat, yes, I decided to join you, nya, Kuroka said in a playful voice. Despite having almost been killed before, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. I'll make sure you don't get hurt if you refuse, Issei said, but Kuroka shook her head. No. I decided it myself. I need an ally to defend myself. And if my power is your desire, then I will offer it to you in exchange for an alliance, said Kuroka. Issei nodded. He was still sure of it. Are you sure? Issei asked and Kuroka nodded. Yes, I am. With a clap of her hands, Veronica spoke. Oh my god, how wonderful it is to have another servant, the Supreme. Even if she is not one of your creations, I will personally ensure that she is extremely loyal to you. Issei narrowed his eyes. He had been with Veronica for a couple of hours and already knew her nature. You will not threaten her, Veronica. In any form, you will not threaten her, Issei explained, and Veronica nodded. Even though Veronica is an intriguing person, she does not disobey her creator. Her loyalty is literally absolute, as you say, my beloved, Veronica said. Both Kuroka and Issei then stood up, with Kuroka looking at Issei with interested eyes. So, what do you need from me, nya, Overlord? Kuroka asked in her teasing voice. Before Issei could speak, Veronica had already spoken. We are going to the realm of the Supreme, Azralia. After jumping through a magical portal, they arrived a euro in front of the gigantic castle that was Issei. Issei's eyes widened as the thought of her being a dream was actually real. Then a butler arrived. He was an older, muscular man with a serious face and silver hair, and he wore a butler's uniform. He bowed to Veronica, Kuroka and especially to Issei. Welcome back, Lady Veronica, Supreme, and guest, said the butler. This man is Salazar. He is the head of the butlers and maids of the castle, my beloved, Veronica introduced before turning to Salazar. Give this woman a nice room. Make sure she receives extreme hospitality. It is very important to the Supreme, Salazar bowed. Understood, Lady Veronica, he said, turning to Kuroka. Follow me, please. Kuroka turned to Issei. Will I see you again? She asked. I think so, Issei replied, already giving in to the shock. Afterwards Kuroka was escorted by Salazar, so shall we go in? Veronica asked as Issei nodded. As they entered the castle, Issei's eyes widened as not only was there a huge row of maids and butlers on the sides, but the interior balconies on the second floor also had rows of servants. They each bowed to Issei and Veronica as they entered. Greetings, Supreme. They all said in unison, whoa. That's all Issei could say. Veronica then walked Issei through the castle. Even as they walked through the corridors there were still rows of servants at the sides, bowing to them. Issei didn't know how many servants there were, and when she asked Veronica she replied that there are more than 1,000 servants in the castle. Since the castle is too big, it's possible that 1,000 servants will be needed just to clean up this place. After a few minutes of walking through the castle, Veronica led Issei to what appears to be the throne room. After the Azraelian guards, wearing the same armor and holding the same weapons and shields, opened two large doors, they both entered the room. More guards stood on the side and bowed to them. Issei was shocked by how big his authority was, but he was even more shocked by how big the throne room was. The whole room was like a cave. 4 rows of large pillars supported the broad ceiling. The beautiful designs gave fantastic decorations throughout the room. When they finally arrived on stage, Issei saw a middle-aged man with heavier armor than the rest of the guards. He has the same weapon and shield as the others. When Issei was close enough he bowed to him as a sign of respect. I welcome your return, Overlord. My name is Primus Helasius. The man named Primus Helasius introduced himself. This is one of your Praetorians, my a beloved. He is also your viceroy who governed your kingdom in your absence, stated Veronica, viceroy. Issei asked, if memory serves, a viceroy governs a country, province, kingdom, or empire as the king's representative. They rule a kingdom in place of the king to have time for other business or if they are simply lazy. Of course, even if the viceroy rules the kingdom, he still answers to the real king, who is Issei. I have followed all the affairs, matters and order of the kingdom as flawlessly as possible. There are no current problems, my lord, said Primus, now my beloved. It would be an honor to see the glorious sight of the Supreme, sitting on the throne after so long, said Veronica. He clearly wants Issei to sit on the throne without a word. Issei walked up to the stage and sat on the throne. Greetings, Supreme One. Primus shouted, causing the guards to shout, Hail Supreme One, all at once. Issei could just sigh. Days before he was just a 17-year-old boy who has a strange power over blood, and suddenly he is a king. He needs to know why. Primus, please, could you leave me and Veronica alone? Get the guards too, Issei said with a bow. Primus obeyed. At once, my lord. Primus exited the throne room followed by the guards. With everyone out the large wooden doors closed and only Issei and Veronica remained. What business do you want from me, my a beloved? If you are ready to feel my body, you are welcome. The throne room is large and may echo our screams of pleasure, but the entire room it is surrounded by soundproof magic. As long as no one enters no one can hear us, and with you ordering Primus for privacy I doubt he will enter the room, let alone let anyone in, Veronica said in a sultry voice. She clearly wants Issei. Tell me everything, Veronica. Tell me why I'm your king. Tell me how I created you when I didn't even do it. Tell me, Issei said, causing Veronica's smile to fade. She dropped to one knee and lowered her head towards Issei with her right hand on her chest. I apologize, Overlord. I assure you that in time you will know all this. All your questions will be answered, I swear. Veronica said. Issei caught a glimpse of her as she gritted her teeth. Even though Veronica desperately wanted to vanish Issei's curiosity by giving him knowledge, but she must have her reasons for not doing so. Issei might not be as smart as Veronica, but she's not a fool that something is happening to her, but she doesn't know what. But now she's not. It's the right time. Okay, I won't ask you. I trust you, I will learn everything soon, Issei said as Veronica stood up. I thank you with all my heart, Samo, Veronica said. Issei leaned back on the throne and looked around. The throne room is truly beautiful. A king. I don't want to be a king, Veronica, said Issei. Are you saying that you are not yet ready or do not wish to become a king? If you are not ready then you will have Primus to rule Azraelia for you, Veronica said as Issei shook his head. No, Veronica. I don't want to be a king. I'm just a 17-year-old girl, Veronica. I wasn't born into a royal family, my parents aren't a king and queen, my life was shit. How can someone like that be a king? Issei asked. Veronica went up on stage and placed a hand on Issei's cheek. You can't be a king because you already are. You are the Supreme, the Lord of Blood. We are your devoted servants, ready to serve your will. How will I become a king? I read history books about them and they were born to be great, born to achieve glories. What about me? What about me? I was never born great, I never achieved glory. I never not even gave the life my sister wanted. I cannot be a king because I am nothing. How can you be so sure that I will not bring you all to ruin? Issei said, if you are troubled by your position you need not worry. Haste will only lead to a road of failure, but as long as you are not too fast then you will become great. You will be great and you will achieve glories beyond your imagination. Every being in this world will know who you are, will speak of your name for eternity. Trust me and I swear that you will be a king worthy of being followed by many other beings in this world, Veronica said. Issei softened his eyes and nodded slowly, still unsure if he should be a king. Veronica, on the other hand, seems troubled. She is an expert at manipulation and yet she used some of her abilities to place Issei's trust in her. She didn't like this. She wants her loved one to place his trust in her by her will and not by her words. But even so Veronica did it, even though it pains her heart, she knows it's necessary for Issei's sake. Their enemies will soon catch up with them. And she must transform Issei into the indomitable Blood Lord before they arrive. Later in the city of Kuo, it was late at night. A black limousine arrived at the park and Issei got out of it. Veronica is in it, too. Are you sure you want to sleep outdoors, my euro beloved? You're perfectly fine sleeping inside the castle, you know. Azralia belongs to you, said Veronica, not wanting that her beloved and her king were sleeping on a park bench like a homeless person. Yeah, I've gotten used to this, Issei said, knowing that Issei had refused all of her requests to sleep in the castle. Veronica gave up and allowed Issei to sleep on a bench. If you have any problem, you just have to say my name and I will be present at your side, Veronica said as she closed the door and the limousine left. After a long day, Issei approached the nearest bench, lay down there and slept, but while he was asleep and heard a scream that suddenly stopped halfway. Issei knows this perfectly. It was a death scream. She jumped out of the bench and ran where she heard the scream that led him to a house in a random neighborhood. Issei didn't know whether to enter the house or not, but he was perfectly sure that the scream he heard came from there. Then, without thinking further, Issei jumped over the fence and entered the house, and to his surprise he saw more mutilated bodies. Oh my god, my euro god. Is this the damn devil this shithead summoned? Issei heard a crazy voice and turned to see a silver-haired young man wearing a priest's robe. Did you do this? Issei replied, narrowing his eyes. Why yes, I did it, you fucking devil. How did you know it was me who did it? Oh, I know. It's because of this kid right here. The crazed young priest said as he pulled out a shining white sword. By the way, my name is Fried Selzen. I'm your daddy for the evening. Now, since you're a devil and a priest, then it's perfectly normal for me to do this. The priest who introduced himself as Fried suddenly pulled out a gun. Issei was alerted and dodged before being hit by the bullet. Hey. Stay still so you might die. Fried screamed and was about to pull the trigger. Seeing this, Issei's energy runes on the sides of his arms glowed red. The blood from the bodies then flowed and formed a shield in front of Issei to block the bullets. What? Fried said, shocked to see that the bullets didn't penetrate this shield. He was also shocked that the shield was not a magic circle as usual but was completely made of blood. This is the blood of your victims, I will use it to exact their revenge on you, Issei said. The bloody shield, yes, it opened and revealed Issei holding two bloody pistols. Fried was hit in both knees and fell to the ground screaming in agony, fuck you. You son of a bitch, hurt. Fried screamed as he rolled across the room. Issei walked towards him and kicked the sword and gun away, disarming the priest. He aimed his gun and would have pulled the trigger if he hadn't heard the sudden applause nearby. Well done, my beloved. This is the second kill you've made using your majestic powers. I applaud you, said a familiar person. Issei turned his head to see Veronica leaning against the wall as she clapped. She has a smile on her face, she clearly likes it when Issei kills. Veronica. I thought you were already gone, Issei said as Veronica approached him. I never left. I protected you when you sleep nearby and made sure no one it was your turn, my euro beloved. I also heard the same cry that woke you up and followed you here. I sensed a rebellious priest inside, so I decided to see what you were doing. The reaction will be in this situation and I assure you that I was not disappointed, said Veronica. Then she turned to Fried who was still screaming on the ground. With your permission, my euro beloved. Should I extort information from this miserable criminal? Asked Veronica. Issei looked around the room. 3 or 4 people were killed there. And judging by their clothes, they were just normal people. Their blood didn't even have an energy out of the ordinary compared to that of a human. So given the lack of energy and weapons, Issei knew that these were normal people. And this priest killed them. Yeah, Issei said, knowing that Veronica could torture this guy, but the priest tried to kill him, so Fried had thought of this bullshit. Foo, thank you my beloved, Veronica said, licking her lips and moving closer to Fried. She let her dark energy flow and tied Fried to a chair. Both the ropes and the chair were made of her dark energy. Tell me who your superior is, please don't tell me anyway so I might have a reason to torture you, Veronica said, winking. I won't tell you shit, bitch. Fried yelled at Veronica, making her smile with her pupils turning purple. It was then that a barrier was thrown around the house. Issei sensed this barrier and it was the same one in the throne room. It was a soundproof barrier. You just made my day, Veronica said as she ripped Fried's shirt off and placed her hand on his chest. Slowly but painfully her dark energy crept through Fried's chest. Fried screamed and thrashed, trying to free himself but couldn't. The dark energy covered his entire torso and ran down to his waist, down his neck, and down his arms. Fried's screams grew louder and louder as the dark energy continued to spread. Veronica was smiling the entire time as she enjoyed the screams of agony. Her smile sent shivers down Issei's spine, but he looked away and tried to ignore the screams of AAAARGG. Alright, I work for GOG. Fried finally gave up and tried to explain, but Veronica kept going, khahahaha. What was that? I didn't hear your words correctly. Would you mind telling me again, please? Veronica said. Fried tried to explain further but was interrupted by a sudden burst of pain. Every time Fried was about to tell who he works for, Veronica increased the pain that her dark energy causes her so much that he was forced to scream and interrupt her words. And Veronica enjoyed every second. Veronica, stop. He's trying to talk. This time, on Issei's orders, Veronica dispelled her dark energy from Fried. As you wish, my euro beloved, Veronica said, taking a step back. Issei then turned to Fried who was on the verge of losing consciousness. His vision was becoming blurry, his eyes were rolling back, he was sweating profusely, taking deep breaths and trembling due to the tremendous pain he was suffering. Who ordered you to do this? Issei asked, fearing another torture. Fried explained. He works for a group of fallen angels who were stationed in an abandoned church outside the city, in the middle of the forest. At all. Asked Issei. Yes, that's all. Even if I knew more I wouldn't tell you anything, you fucking devil. Fried yelled at Issei and made a big stab mistake. Stab, 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 stab. Fried coughed up blood as more than 10 spears of dark energy pierced his torso. Issei was truly surprised by this. You bastard. My beloved was merciful enough to stop my torture on you and yet you repaid him with your dirty insults. Veronica blurted out. She summoned another levitating dark spear and impaled Fried dead on the forehead. Rot in the afterlife, you bug, Veronica said in an angry voice. After recovering, Issei turned to Veronica. What was that about? She asked. I gave the boots to the bug. A fitting end for a bug like him, Veronica said simply, still angry that the former priest had spoken badly of Issei. However, Issei narrowed his eyes at her. I don't like the speed with which you take Veronica's life. Issei said, oh my god, that priest was a murderer, my euro beloved. As you may know, I control over dark energy. Not only this, but I also see through all the sins of the people. I can easily say that the insect was rotten because of the number of sins it committed. Or would you rather let it live and do this again? Veronica asked, referring to the corpses. Issei didn't like killing but would kill if necessary. Kill the only ones I see fit to die, Veronica. Remember that, Issei stated as Veronica lowered her head. If my beloved wishes, I will obey at all costs, Veronica said. Should we raid the fallen angels from the church? We can also call in some legions to assist in our siege, continued Issei remembered as Veronica introduced the first Red Legion. Not only that, there were thousands of soldiers there, but there were also giant beasts and wyverns. And that was only one Red Legion. Veronica stated that there are 50 Red Legions. Summoning a legion would have been bad enough, not to mention some of them. No, we won't need an army. This might draw attention, Issei said. I know, but your words are absolute. If you wish, you can call legions to the human world and they will come despite all the fuss, Veronica stated. Let's just take those fallen angels. I'm too sleepy for that, Issei said as Veronica walked over to him and evoked a magic circle around them. Immediately my beloved, Veronica then teleported them both and they arrived in front of an abandoned church. There were cracks on the walls and the windows are shattered. It may have been abandoned for years now. Is this it? Issei asked as Veronica nodded. This is the only abandoned church outside of town. Veronica said as they walked up the stairs. How do you know where it is? Issei asked as Veronica smiled. I have memorized all the places in the city, my euro beloved. From the abandoned buildings to the neighborhoods, I have memorized everything. I must know the city where the Supreme is currently located, otherwise what kind of guard will I be Praetorian? Veronica said. She then opened the door and they both entered. The church pews are broken and the statues are shattered. The inside and outside of the church are all destroyed, but there is no sign of fallen angels anywhere. Where are they? Issei asked. I have already sensed their energies but I want you to find them yourself, Veronica said. What? Why? Issei asked. She thought Veronica was loyal, so why did she say she should find them alone? You must become stronger, my beloved. As I said before, you are very fragile and weak. You already know how to use your powers and energy, but you are far from perfecting them. So I will give you a test every now and then hone your skills, said Veronica. But I don't even know where they are, said Issei. She can turn her energy into blood, but only a little. She can't sense other people with it. He never even knew he could do this before he met Veronica. Concentrate and feel the environment around you. Feel all living and non-living things. Identify those that have life and those that lack life. This way, you can sense them easily, Veronica said as Issei closed his eyes and concentrated. Identify those who have life and those who lack life. This means that you should identify which are people and objects. Issei let his energy flow and searched throughout the church. It took her a while but she finally found them. I see you found them, Veronica asked seeing Issei's reaction. You were good at reading other people's energies, she congratulated but she was wrong about one thing. No, I didn't sense their energies, Issei said, getting Veronica's attention. I smelled their blood, she said making Veronica's eyes widen in shock about her with the power of blood. Issei could identify other people by their blood. It's like identifying energies, but there's a difference. People like senjutsu users can hide their energies and prevent others from sensing them, but Issei's case is different. People can hide their energies but cannot hide their blood, so this means that Issei can sense people perfectly, no matter how well they have mastered the art of stealth. And what surprised Veronica the most is the fact that Issei succeeded in just one attempt. He can't even sense other people through energy, but he has managed to sense people's blood, which is a more advanced technique. Veronica was planning to give Issei a breakthrough by giving him a lesson in energy sensing, but the results were flawlessly beyond his expectations. This isn't a step forward, it's a leap forward. Veronica can't help but smile as she walks towards Issei, grabs the back of his neck and pushes his lips towards hers, catching her lover off guard again. She was so proud of Issei that she had to reward him. But unlike the last kiss, it only took 10 seconds before they broke apart. Hey. What was that for? Issei asked while Veronica giggled. It's your reward, you managed to sense their blood instead of their energies. Sensing their energies is something anyone can do with a few days of training, but sensing their blood is something only you can do it, and it's at a higher level that perceives energies. I appreciate your skills, my beloved. You will become a being feared by many in no time, Veronica said to the blushing Issei. He may not approve of fucking Veronica, but if it's just a kiss, he doesn't care. The only thing he regrets is it's the fact that Veronica instantly kissed him without warning, even though she could have asked him to. Come now, the sun is almost up, Veronica said. Instead, going towards the hidden trap door on the altar, Veronica conjured several spears that levitated in the air. And each spear was pointed at a point. The floor in the underground room. There were 4 fallen angels and a dozen exorcists. Exorcists were all relaxing downstairs. The male was a middle-aged man with short black hair and dark blue eyes. He was wearing a purple trench coat, a white shirt, black pants, shoes and a black felt hat. One of the women was a girl with blonde hair styled in 2 ponytails. She was wearing a gothic Lolita dress. The second female was a tall, curvy woman with long blue hair. She wore a trench coat-like top with a large collar and a matching mini skirt. The final woman was a young woman who has a slim body, large breasts and long black hair that reaches her waist. She wore a black leather belt around her breasts and a strap-like piece held around her waist by 3 thin straps. "Where is that damned priest? He should be here by now," said the black-haired girl, annoyed by a certain silver-haired priest who thought he was late. "Who knows, he might be killing again," said the blonde Lolita. "Is it okay to let him go free? What if he gets attacked by devils?" The man asked. "It's better than listening to him talk here." The blue-haired woman said. A sudden explosion from the ceiling startled the group of fallen angels and exorcists. "What the hell?" The Lolita girl said in shock. The rocks hit the ground with a thunderous crash and scattered clouds of dust around the entire room. "Intruders." The blue-haired woman said. "Intruders are the only reason why the ceiling would collapse like this." And as the dust cloud vanished, the blue-haired woman was right. 2 intruders appeared among the large rubble. "Oh dear me, you have a nice reunion here, little angels," Veronica said. "Are they all fallen angels?" Issei asked. "No, only 4 of them were on that altar. The others are just simple pawns," Veronica said, making the exorcists angry. "Who are you 2? The black-haired girl asked, making Veronica laugh. "I have no name for lowly dogs," Veronica taunted, making the black-haired girl growl. "Kill them." The black-haired fallen said that she made the exorcists take out their weapons and start attacking Issei and Veronica. Veronica licked her lips before smiling. Dogs should keep quiet and be grateful when their lives are taken. In an instant Veronica summoned her spears and impaled all the exorcists. As usual, multiple spears pierced each of them. Impaled decimation. As the decimated exorcists fell to the ground, the spears of dark energy consumed their bodies before turning to ash. The fallen angels were taken aback by this, and the way Veronica immediately brutalized the exorcists made matters worse. "What the fuck happened? I didn't even see her summon those spears," said the fallen blonde. "These guys aren't pushovers. Rainier, what should we do?" The man asked. "We fight them. If we can defeat opponents like these, I'm sure our ranks will increase." The black-haired woman named Rainier said as she summoned a light spear. Veronica smiled. "So you are the leader. Oh my god, you will be my new puppet," she said before turning to Issei. "My beloved, can you handle it?" Veronica asked. "Yes, be careful," Issei said as glowing runes appeared on the side of his arms. The other fallen angels summoned their glowing spears. "Oh dear me, then let's begin without delay," Veronica, as the whole room was starting to become dark due to a black fog. A dark foga, the black fog was becoming thicker and thicker. This caused the fallen angels to become unstable. The fog has become so thick that the fallen angels can see nothing but Issei, who cannot see as well as them but can sense their blood, suddenly attacking with his claymore blood sword. She made the fallen angels with blue and blonde hair along the male one dodge him. "Kill him," the blonde fallen angel said as the 3 fallen angels engaged in a fight with Issei. "But where is the other one? Where's Rainier?" Unknown to the black-haired fallen that this mist created by Veronica not only blinds people, but can also send others into an alternate dimension. Rainier was still in the church, but this is no longer the true church. Midhilt. Kalawarner. Donasik. Don't separate from each other, stay together. Rainier ordered, but no one responded. She was still alone. "Don't kid yourselves, you bastards. Where the hell are you, you idiots?" Rainier asked but got no response. She was clearly starting to get annoyed by this. "Hey. If you don't come out, I'll fucking kill you all," Rainier threatened, but she got no response. The only thing he heard was a feminine giggle. "How pathetic. A pitiful worm wriggling in the darkness, that's the only thing that can describe you right now." Veronica's voice was heard, making him angry. "Rainier, come out, you coward." Rainier asked, but there was no sign of Veronica anywhere. "Tell me, is the silver-haired priest your subordinate?" asked Veronica. "Yes, he was, but who cares about him? I'm just using him to increase my rank. That crazy pervert is nothing more than a slave to me," Rainier replied in a cruel voice. "I see, so are you increasing your rank for yourself or your superiors?" Veronica asked. "It's for my superiors, of course. It's been my long dream to be loved by my superior," Rainier said. "Superior? Just one. Who is it? Azazel, Shemhazai, Barakil, or maybe Kokobil?" Veronica asked as Rainier reacted slightly to the last name. "Yes, but I won't tell a bitch like you who she is." "Then come out and I'll kill you," the fallen said. Even when Rainier didn't tell Veronica which superior she's connected to, Veronica saw how she reacted to a name she mentioned. Kokobil looking around. Rainier still doesn't see Veronica anywhere. "Come out, bitch," Rainier shouted as he began throwing spears in random directions. But before he could throw another spear, she was stopped by a sudden person in front of her. The blue-haired fallen angel, Kalawarner. "Are you here?" Rainier asked. The fallen angel named Kalawarner answered. "Of course they're here. Where are the others? Those 2 intruders are still here somewhere. We have to kill them." Rainier said. "No, Rainier." Kalawarner summoned a light spear. "We must kill you," she said, widening Rainier's eyes. Kalawarner thrust his spear towards Rainier, but the black-haired fallen dodged it by the hair. "Hey, what the fuck? Why did you do something like that, you idiot?" asked Rainier. "Because you've outlived your usefulness." Rainier turned her head to the side where he heard the voice and saw the blonde-haired fallen angel. "What do you mean by that, Midhilt?" Asked Rainier. It's as you heard. Rainier turned away and heard the man speak. Your usefulness is over. You are no longer of use to Lord Kokubile as of now. And he ordered us to kill you. The man spoke, causing Rainier's eyes to widen. Lord Kokubile ordered to kill me. You're joking, Danesique. Rainier said, completely shocked by what she had heard. Rainier has been serving Kokubile for years now and is extremely loyal for that reason. She along with the other 3 fallen angels followed him even when Kokubile rebelled. Hearing that she had been ordered to be frozen, Rainier deep inside. The other fallen angels each summoned their own glowing spears. Don't make this any more difficult than it already is, Rainier. Be quiet and let us kill you. By accepting your death, it will be your last servitude to Lord Kokubile, Calawarner said, but Rainier he growled in anger. I have served Lord Kokubile for so long and this is how he repays me. Rainier shouted as he summoned his light spear. With homicidal screams, Rainier threw her spears at her former companions, striking them all. Their impaled bodies fell to the ground bleeding. Even though they were dead, Rainier was still furious. How could you? Lord Kokubile, how could you? Rainier asked, crying, completely devastated by her master's betrayal. Seeing Rainier like this, Veronica finally appeared. Oh my god, poor thing. How horrible of them to try to kill you like that. Shut up. I don't know why you came here, but you can fuck off. Rainier said angrily. She was still shedding tears. Do you still want to serve Kokubile, even after what he did to you? Veronica asked, making Rainier gasp. Rainier wanted to continue serving Kokubile. She wants to think that it was her former friends who betrayed her and not her boss. Seeing Rainier's reaction, Veronica continued speaking. There's no point in ignoring it. Even if you want to believe that your master didn't betray you, nothing will change. He still betrayed you, Veronica said. What if he didn't? Asked Rainier. He did. Did you expect your subordinates to kill you like that without any orders? They are your comrades, right? They won't just kill you without orders, said Veronica. That's true. Mittelt, Calawarner, and Danesique were all her devoted subordinates. They won't do something like murder her for no reason. Cruel, isn't it? No matter how loyal you are to him, no matter how you serve him, your master will never return those actions to you. But even so, you still served him. And yet, the moment he sees that you're not much use to him, he won't hesitate to get rid of you. Veronica approached Rainier. Like garbage, she said. Veronica's words hit Rainier. This is what she felt at this moment. She felt like garbage, used and thrown away. This must be painful for you, right? Veronica asked. Shut up. What do you know about what I'm feeling right now? Rainier summoned a light spear and threw it at Veronica, but she only dodged it. Veroncia grabbed Rainier's left wrist and stood behind her. If you intend to serve your master any further, then you are a fool. What benefit will it come to you if you serve the man who ordered your death? Veronica asked. Call him all you want, but he won't see you as someone who is worthy of his time, Rainier said, gritting her teeth in anger. It was then that Veronica put her lips to her ear and whispered. Isn't it painful? Don't you want to take revenge on him? He tried to kill you. Yes, he tried to kill me. Rainier murmured. Then why not give him what he deserves? Veronica whispered. Like a snake, her other arm slithers around Rainier's right side and caresses her, causing a slight contraction of the fallen person. Give him what he deserves, make him bleed, make him suffer for what he did to you. He died for you as you died for him, after all he wants you killed, Veronica whispered in Rainier's ear. Squeezing her hand now, he slowly moved up and caressed Rainier's right breast. You will kill him, Veronica whispered. I will kill him. Rainier whispered. You will make him suffer, Veronica whispered again. This time her left hand let go of Rainier's wrist and stroked the fallen angel's hair, while her other hand Veronica caressed her breasts. I'll make him suffer. Rainier murmured again. The combination of Rainier's pain at her betrayal and the pleasure Veronica was giving her meant that Veronica's words easily penetrated Rainier. Kill Kokubile for betraying you, kill your master for trying to kill you. You will have your revenge, Veronica whispered before she and the mist disappeared into thin air, causing Rainier to fall to her knees. She was transferred back to the real world. In another place of the forest, Issei was fighting the 3 fallen angels. The 4 argued until they found themselves far from the church. What the hell? There are 3 of us, how can we not kill him? Mittelt asked as the other 2 threw spears. Issei easily dodged the light spears and shot streams of blood towards the fallen angels. The flowing blood tore the trees, causing them to fall to the ground. Seeing how dangerous the attack was, the fallen angels all flew up to gain altitude, but the streams of blood followed them upward even above the air. They tried to dodge, but the blood was too fast and hit their wings, causing them to fall to the ground. As they crashed, Issei approached them. Brat. She said, Danesique, you let one of your subordinates go wild and kill people. This is what you deserve, Issei said, holding out his hand. Suddenly the fallen angels felt like they were going to vomit and cry at the same time. They vomited and cried at the same time, but not like they expected. Their own blood flowed from their mouths and eyes and flowed into Issei's glowing runes. Their bodies were running out of blood and turning into mummies. When the last drop of blood came out of them, their mummified bodies all fell to the ground. So I can test the blood even if its owner is still alive. Issei asked himself, looking at his right hand. Oh my god, you were so amazing, my beloved. Issei turned to see Veronica. Where were you? Issei asked as Veronica licked her lips. Oh, you know. I got myself a new puppet, Veronica said, making Issei raise an eyebrow. She didn't fully understand. Back at the church, Rainier walked out the front door with her fists clenched. I'll kill you, I'll make you suffer, I'll have my revenge, Kokubile. Rainier shouted as he spread his wings and flew away. First A, previous A, chapter 4 off a 30 A, next A, 5 A. Few days passed when Issei and Veronica broke into the fallen angels. Since that day Veronica meets with Issei every day, and if she didn't meet him Issei knew that he was nearby, considering he always has the feeling that someone is always watching him at that moment. Issei was in his class. The last few days had been normal. He had been hanging out with Saji but only during lunch break since he had student council work at the end of school. Issei sighed before looking out the window. The teacher was absent due to a cold and they had to study alone for the entire hour. This is too boring for him. As he looked out the window he noticed someone leaning against the school gate. It was Veronica. She was smiling at him with her usual dangerous eyes. What's worse, he has a lollipop in his mouth. Seeing her lover looking at her, Veronica slowly drank the lollipop and brought her other hand to slowly caress one of her breasts. Issei gasped as he turned red before looking away. Issei knew she loved him because she had confessed her feelings for him and stolen his first kiss right in front of an entire army, but doing something so seductive like that was disrupting his calm. He has to do something about it. After he rang the doorbell, Issei went up to the roof. He knew that Saji had work, so he would only be there. He reached the roof and closed the door. He looked around to make sure no one was there before speaking. Veronica, Issei called her, making her appear. What is it, my beloved? She asked. Do you want to sleep with me? Issei asked. Veronica was surprised by the sudden question but chased it away out of curiosity as to why he asked this kind of question. Oh my god, what is the reason for this unexpected question, my beloved? My little provocation from before, did it turn you on? Veronica asked with a smirk. Answer the question. We don't have much time until the next class, Issei said, making Veronica nod. If I were to answer you honestly, then yes, I want to feel you are my beloved. As I said before, I love you. You are the only man in existence who is worthy in my eyes. I have had many lovers in the past, but they are only a means to achieve an end. Veronica approached Issei and leaned towards him, making Issei lean backward slightly. But you on the other hand are very different. You are absolutely different from them. In my eyes all other men are all the same. They may have different faces but they all look alike. But you have an unparalleled beauty that none of my lovers. Your simple presence will give me a strong urge to push you down and make you do it all day. At this Issei's sweat dropped. So can we make a deal? She asked. A deal? Oh dear me, a deal with the Supreme would be an honor. Speak of your gracious offering and I will listen carefully to your words, Veronica said as she stopped leaning forward towards Issei and stood up straight. Okay, you know full well that I have problems with sex because of my past. So how about we do something like a kiss instead? Asked Issei. Kissing? I thought you claimed to have problems, Veronica said. Yes, so that's why I'll only offer you kisses, not actual sex. You can take my shirt off if you want, but my pants stay on. In return don't try to seduce me with every chance you have, Issei said. Veronica knew she couldn't have sex with Issei but she could kiss with him. For her it's better than nothing. I accept your gracious offer, my beloved. I hold back for you but you must reward me every now and then. Veronica licked her lips. So how about I get my first reward here? She asked. Issei looked at her phone and she still had 5 minutes. Saji isn't coming, so what the hell? Okay, but the moment you try to take my pants off, the deal is off, Issei said. Understood, Veronica replied with a nod. Veronica walked over and leaned on Issei who wrapped his hands around her at the hips. Veronica pushed her lips onto Issei's and forced his tongue into her mouth. It's rough as always. Issei started to struggle with Veronica's tongue too, making her purr. Veronica grabbed the back of Issei's head to keep him still. Even though Issei was acting as strong as he could, Veronica still overpowered him. This is simply Issei's third kiss in her life. While Veronica claimed to already have hundreds of lovers, not only that, but she also once stated to Issei that she too had her female body parts as much as she had with the male one. Their experiences are worlds apart. Feeling her knees weaken, Veronica slowly pushed Issei to the ground and onto his lap. And she did it without separating her lips from his. She grabbed one of Issei's hands and placed it on her breast. She used her hand to help Issei's hand caress them. The heat of the kiss, the roughness of her tongue, and the softness of her body gave Issei pause. What have I gotten myself into? The feeling of pleasure brought on by Issei's other hand gripped Veronica's dress from behind her. This was too much for him, but she might as well get used to it since she will always do it from now on. At least he won't have to worry about Veronica making him blush every chance she gets. 5 minutes later he rang the bell, saving Issei's conscience. It was then that Veronica separated her lips from Issei's. Oh my god, it's time already, Veronica said. She didn't waste a single second. She continued kissing and kissing Issei for 5 minutes straight. He didn't even bother to separate for air. Just breathe as she moans. She licked her lips again and let out a sensual moan as she could still taste the taste of Issei in her mouth. She smiled contentedly, but Issei instead lay on the floor with deep breaths and blurry eyes. He was happy to have made this deal. Not because he could kiss a woman as beautiful as Veronica, he was happy for her to kiss him rather than try to have sex now. Veronica didn't force herself on Issei but continued to seduce him to try to force him onto her. If he kisses her so intensely, what would happen if he slept with Veronica? The thought of him sent shivers down his spine. He won't survive her. It seems you can't handle me, my beloved. We really need to improve your stamina. Almost all the lovers I've had couldn't handle me. I miss the feeling of being dominated by someone. I hope you will give me that feeling one day, Veronica said, getting off Issei. And now that you have, you're the reward. Don't stare at me through the window anymore with your lollipop. Issei could barely speak. She was still out of breath. Sure, but I'll be nearby if you need me, Veronica said before disappearing in a cloud of black smoke. She appeared in a nearby alley. She was smiling and shaking uncontrollably. She licked her lips again and savored the taste of Issei. It's a shame that he only limits himself to kissing, but it's better than nothing. She just kissed Issei, but this time she didn't force him, he willingly cooperated. Not only that, but he might ask her to do it again and again, but only if she doesn't seduce him further. This brought great joy to the Praetorian Guard. He created a soundproof barrier before shouting, "Fuuxia." Back on the roof, Issei stood up but his knees were shaking. He walked down the stairs to his classroom but could barely walk. He still hasn't recovered. As Issei took deep breaths he could taste the taste of strawberries in his mouth. Could it be Veronica's lollipop, Issei? Issei heard a familiar voice. He turned and saw Saji. "Brother, class is about to start. You should hurry," Saji said as he approached Issei. "Why yes." Issei replied. Saji then noticed how Issei spoke, he was clearly out of breath. Not only that, but he was red and his knees were shaking. "Dude, are you okay? Do you have a fever?" "Not feeling well," Saji asked. Well, Issei knew he needed more time to recover, so he nodded. "Yes, I don't feel well," she replied. Saji then put Issei's arm around his shoulder and helped him walk. "Let's go to the infirmary," Saji said as he accompanied his friend to the infirmary later. After school, Issei was walking towards the gate, then he saw Saji over there talking to a young girl with shoulder-length white hair and blue-green eyes. After speaking the girl she walked away and that's when Saji saw Issei. "Sup brother," she greeted Saji with a smile. Issei smiled back and waved. "Hey Saji. Who is that girl?" "Her. That was Momo, a member of the student council," Saji said. "I see, so will you do more work in the student council?" Issei asked and Saji nodded. "Yeah, sorry buddy, I've been really busy lately. We can go out next weekend but I'm not sure," Saji said. "Don't worry, I've been busy too," Issei said, and that's when he saw a black limousine stop in front of the gate, causing some gasps among the nearby students. "Actually, I have something to do right now. See you," Issei waved as he walked to the limo and entered. However, Saji took Issei by surprise. Issei is only the same age as him, living on the streets. Why the hell does he have a limo all of a sudden? A limousine. Where the hell did he get that? Saji wondered before getting back to work. Meanwhile Rias and Sona were nearby and saw Issei getting into the limousine. "As I thought, the power I feel is the same power we felt in the church days ago," said Sona. "Do you think did Issei have anything to do with the deaths of the fallen angels there?" Rias asked. "It's possible, but if he was the reason for the accident it would be serious. Fallen angels killed in the devil's territory would be crucial to the fragile peace we have. This situation needs to be taken care of," Sona said as she stared at her glasses. Rias nodded. "I'll take care of this." Even though Issei rejected Rias' offer, Rias still wants Issei to be his servant. He has potential and Rias wants to see how far he can go. Back with Issei, the limo was driving around the city. Inside, Veronica was leaning against Issei and had her lips connected to his, but unlike last time it only ended for a few seconds. "I still have to get used to this," Issei said. "Get used to me, my a euro beloved?" Veronica asked. "No, this limo. I've only driven a few cars in my life and suddenly I find myself driving a limo," Issei explained. "Oh, I see. Well, then I'll take care of this problem as soon as possible. But before everything, we still have a lot to do. I suspect they would have arrived by now," Veronica said since Issei didn't know what she was talking about. The limousine stopped in the park. Issei saw both Rias and Kaneko standing there. "It seems like they are looking for someone, judging by the way their heads were turning. Come on my love, let's meet our guests," Veronica said and held the door open for Issei, who also came down. Rias and Kaneko were still looking around for Issei. "Are you sure this is the park where Kaneko slept?" Rias replied, earning a nod from the other girl. "Yes, this is where she slept," Kaneko replied. Then they heard a female voice. "Oh my god, what are two young women doing here?" Both Rias and Kaneko turned towards the voice and gasped at seeing such a beautiful woman. The only woman they knew was as beautiful as her, is Gabriel, the most beautiful woman in heaven. "Who are you?" asked Rias. "You were the one who intruded on my beloved's territory. It is only right to introduce you as guests," Veronica said. Rias was confused as to why this woman considered the park the territory of her beloved. She was about to ask why when Issei arrived. "Issei Hyodo," said Rias, "what are you doing here?" Asked Issei. "We want to talk about you about something. It's private," said Rias. "Oh dear me. Do you want to talk to my beloved in private? I never imagined that the Mao's sister would be so bad." She took it around Veronica. It took Rias a second to realize, but she turned red when she realized. It's not like that." Rias defended herself, making Veronica laugh. "Veronica, stop teasing yourself," Issei said, making Veronica nod. "Certainly, my euro beloved," she replied. Issei then turned to Rias. "We can talk in the limo," Issei said and led them to the limo. They entered the limousine and sat on both sides. Rias and Kaneko sat together in front of Issei and Veronica. "So, what is it?" Issei asked. "Were you the one who attacked the fallen angels?" Rias asked. Issei didn't answer out of caution, but Veronica on the other hand didn't care. "Yes, we were responsible for this," she replied. "Why did you do it? Do you realize that by doing what you did you could start another war?" Rias shouted. "They were terrorizing the city with their exorcists," said Issei. "For your information, this city is my territory. It is part of the Devil's Society. If you wanted to do something like that you should have consulted me first," said Rias. "Well, for your information, we don't care. My beloved owns every place he sets foot in. The moment he arrives in your cute little town, he owns it now," Veronica said with a smirk that made Rias's eyes shine. Of anger seeing that the two women weren't getting along, Issei decided to interrupt. "Veronica, stop it," Issei said, causing Veronica to lean back. Of course, Issei then turned to Rias. "We apologize for causing a ruckus, but we've seen what the exorcists of fallen angels do in this city. He said, yes, I suspected that they were up to no good. I was about to confront them in the first place, but only when we were sure that they were really doing such things. Otherwise, if we had attacked head-on, we might have caused another war. Said Rias, we'll try to be careful. Said Issei, by the way, what are you two? I feel that your energies are not devils or angels. You two aren't even yokais or magicians. Rias asked. Issei didn't answer because he himself doesn't know what he is. All he knew was that he was the Blood Lord of Azralia. He tried to ask Veronica, but she couldn't, just saying that sooner or later he will learn everything. You have nothing to do with that, Veronica said. This place is my territory, so why don't you tell me your identity? Rias said, making Veronica's eyes glow purple. You're pushing your luck, bitch, Veronica said in a threatening tone, causing Kaneko to narrow her eyes as well. The situation is getting worse. Calm down everyone, we're not here to argue. Rias, we're done talking, so please go your way or something bad will happen to both parties, Issei said, trying to calm them down. Rias sighed. Okay, let us out right here, he said. The limo stopped and both Rias and Kaneko got out before leaving again. I don't like her, Veronica declared, making Issei turn his head. Why? She seems cute, Issei said. Yes, she is, but she is a member of the Grimoire family and being born in a beautiful environment like that gave her a spoiled nature. She even used her authority as the owner of this city to gain knowledge of us, Veronica said. So you hate her because she is spoiled? Asked Issei. I don't hate her, I just don't like her. That's all, said Veronica. I understand. But where are we going anyway? You could have taken me to the park with them, said Issei. Veronica smiled. We're not going anywhere. I just prefer that you don't go near that red hair, she said. Is there a reason? Asked Issei. Yes, her expression says she has some problems, big ones. Like boyfriend problems, but considering she's still single then it must be an engagement. I think her family is forcing her to marry someone she doesn't love and she has nothing to say about it. And I also think she wants to get help from you, Veronica said, making Issei blink. How did you know all this? Issei asked as Veronica smiled. I told you before, I'm an expert in mentalism. If you're not very good with your poker face then I can read what's on your mind through your face, Veronica explained, making her skin crawl. Gusta Issei. If she, Veronica, is so good at mentalism, then can she read his mind right now? Yes, I can, my beloved, Veronica said, making Issei gasp. Please don't, Issei said. I can't help it, seeing the all-powerful Blood Lord so fragile is rare, so I want to have fun with your current cute state before I transform you into the big and strong Blood Lord, Veronica said. A few minutes later the limo returned to the park and let Issei get out. Where are we going next, mistress? Asked the driver. Just take a drive around the city. I'll meet a Praetorian guard here in the car before we go to the underworld, Veronica ordered, making the driver obey and drive the limo around. After a few more minutes, on the seat right in front of Veronica a magic circle appeared and another beautiful girl came out. She wore a dress made of orange and black ruffles that looked like an elegant gothic lolita with two ragged tails. She has a large crimson net bow on her head that holds her heart and also a crimson and black collar on her neck. Praetorian Guard, Kurumi Tokisaki, at your service. To what do I owe the honor of meeting you here, Lady Veronica? Asked the girl named Kurumi in a polite tone. You're late, Veronica told her. I deeply apologize for my ignorance, Kurumi said. Well, it doesn't matter. I need you to protect my beloved while I'm away, Veronica said. Oh my god, what kind of business are you going to do? Asked Kurumi. I'm proposing a treaty to the Mao of the underworld, said Veronica. What kind of treaty? Asked Kurumi. A non-aggression pact. The fallen angels and angels have already agreed to this and I want the devils to agree too, said Veronica. A non-aggression pact is a treaty between two factions. If the treaty is agreed upon, both factions will not attack each other until one of them breaks the pact. Since Issei isn't strong yet, Azralia needs to stay hidden for a while. Then why don't you just send a messenger or another Praetorian Guard or even a general to do it? Asked Kurumi. Because this pact is very important. I, the head of the Praetorians, must be present to stipulate the treaty, Veronica explained. All I need from you now is to protect my beloved, he explained. I am a Praetorian Guard too. Guarding the Supreme is the only reason I exist, said Kurumi as she disappeared through a magic circle. Take us to the underworld, Veronica said, and the driver obeyed. Hours later, Issei was in the forest just outside the city. He placed the cans on top of a log and started shooting blood bullets at it. His aim was good as he was good with weapons. He has trained with the powers of his blood, but the only thing that stops him from improving is his heart. To produce more blood, his heart has to pump harder, but the faster it pumps, the more it hurts. He can use his own energy to create more blood, but he is only limited. If he can't overcome the pain when his heart beats faster, he won't get better. As Issei practiced, he wondered if Veronica was still nearby or not. Talking about her, Issei thought about it and wondered if it's really all true. What if he had been manipulated by Veronica into thinking he was a king? What if she's using him as a pawn? Does she really love him or not? Does Azralia really belong to him? Issei wasn't sure about all this, but he suspected he was being manipulated by Veronica. It's not every day that a beautiful woman appears to you and tells you that she is your servant because you are the king of a really big kingdom. It's too good to be true and he needs to think something to confirm whether they are really manipulating him or not. Issei has already been manipulated once and he won't let it happen again. While Issei was thinking about all these things, his blood bullet missed the last can. Oh my god, you lost your concentration there, a female voice was heard. Issei heard him and was sure that he didn't belong to Veronica. He turned and saw a girl dressed in black with her hair tied in long twin ponytails with her left side covered by bangs. Who are you? Issei asked. She feels different from a normal person about her. The girl giggled before holding out her left hand. Issei watched as the girl summoned a flintlock pistol and shot the last can with surprising accuracy. Issei knew that this girl's aim was much better than his because the girl's eyes were on Issei when she shot the can. Sur. Issei murmured as the girl bowed and raised the side of her skirt. Kurumi Tokusaki, a Praetorian guard. It is an honor to serve you, Supreme. Kurumi introduced. Issei does not trust her at all. Veronica never mentioned meeting another Praetorian guard. Where's Veronica? Asked Issei. She has business to take care of. She sent me to protect you in her absence, Kurumi said in a polite tone. Just like Veronica. And how do I know you are really a Praetorian? Issei asked. Kurumi responded by turning and pulling her head to the side to reveal the back of her neck. Issei saw a red runic symbol appear for a second on the back of the girl's neck before disappearing again. Each of your servants is marked with a rune, Your Majesty. If you have any doubts as to whether or not the person in front of you is your servant, you can always order him to show his rune. He will be more than happy to show it to you, Kurumi explained. Veronica never said anything about it, Issei said. She hasn't. She's too cautious about it. It's about me. I'd rather give you all the information you need, but if I did, Lady Veronica wouldn't be happy about it, said Kurumi. So you'll stay here until he returns? Issei asked. Yes, but I'd rather get to know you better, Kurumi said, placing her fingers on her chin as she looked Issei up and down. Issei's eyes twitched as Kurumi and Veronica had a lot in common. Knowing Veronica and meeting Kurumi made Issei think. Do all of her Praetorian guards have a very dangerous atmosphere around them? Meanwhile in the underworld, Veronica was sitting on a table. Two Escalating soldiers stood behind her to protect her, while sitting in front of her was a handsome man in his 20s. He has shoulder-length crimson hair and was wearing some kind of royal robe. Standing behind him was a beautiful woman who appeared to be in her 20s with silver hair tied in a long braid on each side and silver eyes. She was wearing a blue and white French maid outfit. This man is the Mao known as Sears X Lucifer, and the maid behind him is Graphia Lucifuge. It is an honor to meet the Red Mao of the underworld. Veronica bowed in respect. That what kind of business does the head of the Escalating Praetorian Guard have for me? Sears X asked. As a Mao, he knows a lot of information in the underworld. He even knows about the powerful kingdom of Escalating and also knows that the leader of the Praetorian Guard is a very cunning woman. Veronica can read Sears X's mood. He doesn't trust her at all. Oh dear me, you need to calm down, Honorable Mao. I'm not here with bad intentions, said Veronica. So if you're not here with bad intentions, why are you here then? Asked Sears. I want to make a treaty, Veronica said, making Sears narrow his eyes. A treaty? Asked Sears. Veronica nodded. Yes, a non-aggression treaty, she said. Really? I'm quite surprised, said Sears. Is that so? Is it any surprise that someone like me would make a treaty like that? Veronica asked. You have a dark reputation. It's quite surprising that you haven't taken full control of Escalating and slaughtered people, Sears said. I confess that I like bloodshed, especially bloodshed. They are dirty dogs. But I would never do something like take control of Escalating. Escalating belongs only to the Blood Lord, said Veronica. Last time I heard, the Blood Lord is not dead, more of a master now. I wouldn't be surprised to see one of the Praetorian guards take control of the kingdom, Sears said. Veronica began to giggle, alerting Sears and even Graphia. Yes, it's true that one of the Praetorian guards is taking control of the kingdom, and yes, the Lord of Blood is dead, Veronica smiled. But now he's woken up, she said, making Sears and even Graphia's eyes widen. Both have heard of the Blood Lord's terrifying might. They know that Escalating and its citizens are all created by the Blood Lord. Only legendary beings are capable of creating other living beings, but the Blood Lord not only created more living beings, but created an entire kingdom of them. The last time the Blood Lord was alive, he had an army of over 5 million people with 250 red legions and had almost conquered everything. The three factions, the Norse, the Japanese deities, the Olympians and the other religions, were forced to put aside their conflict and form a temporary alliance to fight Escalating as one, and together they managed to kill the Blood Lord, but suffered heavy losses. Ophis himself is also said to have personally joined the battle against Escalating and helped kill the Blood Lord. He was literally the Blood Lord against the world. His previous empire is the largest empire the supernatural world has ever seen, but after his death his army also suffered heavy losses and his empire fell apart. It is said that whenever an Escalating red legion dies, another legion immediately replaces it, and if that legion dies, another legion replaces it, and another and another. Not only that, but the Blood Lord could easily resurrect an entire legion from the dead by giving them his blood. His army was unlimited. Lies. The Lord of Blood has been dead for more than 1,000 years, said Sears. Yes, but after 1,000 years he re-emerges, ready to continue his conquest, said Veronica. This alarmed Sears greatly. If the Lord of the Blood wanted to, he could start a war right now. And since the devils have lost most of their species since the last war, it would be a disaster if they were attacked by Escalating, but obviously only the Blood Lord has the authority to declare war, and unfortunately it seems that at the moment he doesn't want to conquer anything, so I doubt he would start a war, said Sears, desperate to know the identity of this dangerous being. But instead of getting an answer he just smiled from Veronica. That's not part of the deal now, is it? Veronica said. Answer my proposal, I have a lot to do. He continued. Okay, I accept the treaty, said Sears. He can't afford a war against Escalating. Oh darling, the Overlord would be really happy about it, Veronica said, getting up. It was a pleasure doing business with you, he said before teleporting with the guards through a magical portal. Sears was still sitting there with other problems on his mind. The devils are already busy with the angels and fallen angels, and now a new danger has emerged. Lord Sears, what should we do from here on out? Grafia asked, we have no choice, we have to ally ourselves with the other factions, Searsek said back with Issei. He and Kurumi spent the entire day together. Wherever Kurumi goes she will always be there. In the arcade, on the street, in the park, wherever, don't you have anything better to do? Asked Issei. He was walking through the streets with Kurumi directly behind him. This is the best thing I could do, said Kurumi, at least protect me where I can't see you like Veronica did, said Issei. I'm watching you even from far away, my real me is watching you from afar, Kurumi said. This got Issei's attention. What do you mean the real you? Issei turned and asked. I was serious, the real me is watching you from afar. The me you're with is simply a clone, Kurumi said. Issei was surprised, not by Kurumi's clone but by how he wasn't surprised in the hear that she is a clone. He thinks he has become accustomed to these strange things. Suddenly the two heard the engine of a car. Issei turned and gasped when he saw a black Pagani Huayra. The circles were gold-colored with blue neon lights all around. The passenger door opened and he revealed Veronica inside as the driver. She was wearing her normal dress but with sunglasses. She turned to the shocked Issei and the smiling Kurumi with her same smile. Good job Kurumi, Veronica said. I am honored by your praise Lady Veronica, Kurumi said with a nod. Veronica, where did you get this car? Issei asked shocked. I will answer your question while we drive. Come now my beloved, Veronica said. Issei managed to shake off the shock and got into the car. Kurumi closed the door on him and bowed as they drove away. Kurumi watched the car vanish into the distance before entering a dark alley and disappearing into a cloud of shadow. Back in the car Issei looked around in awe. Veronica, I'll ask you again. Where did you get this car? Issei asked, hoping she didn't steal it. No, I didn't steal it, my euro beloved, Veronica said as she read it again. This car is yours like the limousine, she explained. Where did we get all the money to buy them? Issei asked. One of your officers has power over jewels. She can create diamonds, rubies, emeralds, sapphires, pearls, quartz and much more. She was once a general but was promoted to treasurer of the kingdom. If she wants, she can create hundreds and hundreds of jewels of all kinds, even the rarest and most precious gem of all, the black dragonite. With her, Azralia has a large supply of precious stones which we exchange at a very high price. Her powers for you, my beloved, isn't she wonderful? Said Veronica. Issei was frozen in shock. How the fuck did her life end up like this? It's too good to be true, damn it. So, how was your time with Kurumi? I trust she didn't bother you, right? Asked Veronica. No, she behaved well but continued to follow me everywhere, said Issei. I understand, I will inform her of her nonsense and make sure she doesn't bother you again, said Veronica. Hey. You won't punish her, true? Asked Issei. Just a little, said Veronica. No, it was annoying, I just wasn't used to someone following me around, said Issei. So it bothers you, said Veronica. Hey now, don't punish others just because they annoyed me a little, said Issei. It's my duty to make sure the Supreme lives a heavenly life. And to bother you would be a shame, said Veronica. Just don't do anything without my permission, okay? I want you to hurt people because of me, Issei said. Understood, Veronica said. There was a moment of silence before Veronica spoke again. Do you still prefer to live in the open air, my euro beloved? Asked Veronica. Yes, I got used to the fresh air, said Issei. Sleeping outdoors will give you a cold and harm your health, said Veronica. I told you I'm used to it, said Issei. I could arrange to build a castle or at least a mansion for you. It's quite inconvenient to know that the Supreme is sleeping in the open, Veronica said. No castles here, this is Japan and it might cause a stir to suddenly have a castle, said Issei. So it's the mansion, Veronica approved. I told you I'm fine with my sleeping arrangements, you don't have to do much for me, said Issei. Veronica looked at Issei for a second to read it before looking back the road. My beloved, is it possible that you suffer from ecophobia? Veronica asked because Issei didn't know the word. What is ecophobia? Issei asked. Ecophobia is the fear of houses, of being in a house or of domestic environment, said Veronica. What? I don't have a phobia like that. Issei denied. How the hell does he know a word like that? Then you may suffer from orophobia, the fear of returning home, Veronica said. I'm not afraid of homes or hearths, I'm just. Issei said but stopped. You suffer from ecophobia my beloved. I can read your emotions, said Veronica. Really? Issei asked. You hadn't noticed but are you really afraid of houses? Yes, you suffer from it, it probably depends on your past. You only have bad memories of your old house and that might have turned into fear, explained Veronica. Issei remained silent. The only good thing about his house is his sister and now that she's gone there's nothing good anymore. And now that he thought about it he felt uncomfortable in the orphanage, thinking that someone would hit him at any moment. I see you're starting to understand, Veronica said. Why yes. I guess you're right. Maybe I suffer from ecophobia, said Issei. Veronica then said nothing more and left Issei in his thoughts. The next day Issei was at school, the bell was already ringing and he was about to go eat on the roof when he heard the girl screaming behind him. I was thinking about Kiba Yuto. When Issei turned around he was right, it really was Kiba Yuto. Issei Hyodo, Kiba called. Yes. Do you need anything? Issei asked. Can we talk in private? This is important, Kiba asked. Sure, Issei replied and followed Kiba. He cursed hearing his classmates gossiping about whether he was in a love relationship with Kiba. They went into the woods in the schoolyard to talk. What is it? Asked Issei. Do you have a connection with that woman with the brownish blonde hair? Kiba asked. Why yes, I know her, Issei said. Look, you already know that we are devils because we told you but, could you get that woman to help us? Kiba asked. What? Issei asked. He didn't understand why Kiba would want Veronica's help. I sensed his power and it's extremely strong. I literally can't sense the limits of his energy. So if a low-class devil like me can't feel his full energy, then it means he is really strong. That's why we need his help, Kiba said. You need help for what? Asked Issei. Come to the club room, you will understand, Kiba said. Issei nodded and they both went to the club room. From the outside Issei could feel something bad happening inside. When they arrived at the club room, Issei and Kiba stopped at the door and heard Rias scream. Inside he was yelling at a blonde-haired man, who was wearing a red blazer and matching pants with a white shirt inside. Akino and Kaneko were there too. There was also another person inside. It was Grafia. I will never marry you, Riser. Rias shouted at the man known as Riser. This marriage is for the future of the devils, it is extremely important. Are you going to dishonor your family name? Said Riser. I won't bring dishonor to my family but I won't marry you. You can just forget it, said Rias. Riser walked up to Rias and raised his chin disrespectfully. Don't make fun of my honor, Rias. I am Riser Phoenix, I bring on your shoulders the pride of the Phoenix clan. You dare say something like don't marry me, even if I burn all your servants to ashes and drag you to the underworld myself, Riser said. 2 doors to the club room opened. Issei walked in followed by Kiba. Hey, what's with all the screaming? Issei asked. Kiba. And, Issei, said Rias, shocked to see Issei here. I'm back, President, said Kiba. What is this interruption, Rias? Are they your servants? If they are not very disciplined considering they have the nerve to interrupt Riser, said Riser, referring in the third person. That blonde is my servant, the other is an acquaintance, Rias explained. I heard you were threatening Rias, what's your problem? Asked Issei. This is none of your business, boy, you should go home, said Riser. I'm sorry but I don't have a home, said Issei. It was true, he didn't have a home. He didn't really consider the orphanage his home, ha 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 ha. Don't you have a home? Then you're a miserable tramp. That's more than a reason to get pissed off, Riser said, making Issei's eyes flutter. Just a miserable tramp. A female voice asked. Considering you just insulted my beloved like that, it means you have absolutely no idea who you're talking to. This was Veronica who said it, suddenly appearing from a cloud of shadow. Oh. Who could you be, young lady? Raised asked, amazed by Veronica's beauty. On the other hand, Grafia widened her eyes, not expecting her to be here. Greetings, my name is Veronica Sapphires, Veronica said with a bow. But enough about me, what business do you have here? She asked. I'm here to say goodbye to my fiancé. Of course, I'm getting married here to Rias Grimori. Riser was referring to Rias. But before the wedding I would like to get to know you better, spend some time with Riser before he becomes a married man. What do you say? Spending time with Riser Phoenix would be an honor for a young lady like you, he said, making Rias, her nobles and even Issei would look at him with disgust. He's getting married to someone and he hits on another girl in front of his fiancé. Issei met a lot of assholes in his time with her father's gang, but this guy's level of his-holery might even put Issei in awe. Veronica was just smiling instead. Would spending time with him be an honor? It was so funny that Veronica was holding back her laughter. She always finds men who give in to their carnal passions ridiculous. Men like Riser who gets excited at the first sight and offers himself to her without shame in the moment is one of these. The only honor he would get for sleeping with someone comes from Issei. Unlike Riser, Issei does not fall into carnal lust as easily as he does. In her eyes he is strong enough to overpower those needs and hold back, resisting her beauty even when she openly offers herself to him is admirable to Veronica. Sure, Issei blushes every time she seduces him and even offers her kisses because of her problem, but even without her problem Veronica doubts Issei would offer himself to her so easily. Not falling in love with great beauty is a sign of great power for Veronica, and this is one of the reasons why she admires Issei very much. Is that so? I desperately find the honor I would get from sleeping with a Phoenix but I can't see it, Veronica said. Excuse me. Are you turning down an offer from a Phoenix? Riser asked as he narrowed his eyes at Veronica. Foo, heaven no. I'm turning down an offer from a Phoenixa and a lowly dog, Veronica said with a smirk, making Riser growl. A lowly dog. How dare you call that Riser ignorant whore? Up she screamed. Veronica held up a finger. Shish, dogs shouldn't bark at their master. Besides, dogs shouldn't even talk now. From now on, you should start saying, woof, for the rest of your lousy life, said Veronica. Issei was on the side with the eyes wide open. Why did Veronica start insulting Riser? Like this, was she why she called him a miserable tramp? Riser was so angry that his fiery aura began to pour out of him. Veronica was simply smiling. She can't wait for Riser to attack her. The moment Riser's attacks hit her she can't go back. The only thing that could save Riser from her if he attacks her is Issei, but Veronica knows that she could impale Riser with at least 20 spears before her lover can react and give her the order to stop. You will pay dearly for your pathetic insults, Riser growled. Come on little dog, all I need is a ball of fire. I know you want it. Come and bite your mistress, you dirty dog, he taunted Veronica once again. Riser's anger was on the verge of attacking Veronica, but was stopped by Grafia who stepped forward. Lord Riser, please calm down. If you wish to fight, then I will personally stop you by force, Grafia said with a straight face, calming Riser down. Of course, I would also be afraid when the Regina Stronger intervenes, said Riser. Grafia looked at Veronica who was looking at her with a disappointed expression. She clearly wasn't happy that Grafia stopped Riser. Grafia decided to ignore the woman and turned to Rias. Lady Rias, if you insist on rejecting this marriage, you will solve this problem through a rating game, Grafia said. A rating game? Rias asked, shocked and at the same time happy to know that she actually has a chance to get out of this mess. Ha 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 ha. Don't think that you will win so easily, Rias. I have a full set while you only have 3 minions. How can you win this? Provoked rise, we won't lose. Rias said with determination, I will give you 10 days to prepare your servants, until then enjoy your time before becoming the bride of the Phoenix house, Riser said as he disappeared in an explosion of flames. Rias. Akino said worriedly, I'm fine Akino, Rias said. Rias, Issei called, turning her red hair towards him. Kick his ass, Issei said simply. Rias nodded. You bet I will. Grafia then stepped forward, I would like to talk to you and this young man here. Do you mind if we do it in private? Grafia said to Veronica. Veronica took a second before nodding. Both the women and Issei exited the club room and got into a limo that Veronica had prepared in case Issei preferred this one over the Pagani Waira. So, what does Lucifer want to talk about, the strongest queen of the Surzek? Veronica asked. Grafia turned to Issei. So you are the Blood Lord? Grafia asked, causing Veronica to narrow her eyes. Well, yes. They said I am, Issei said. Are you planning to attack my beloved despite the deal your master and I made? Veronica asked in a threatening voice. No, I won't, Grafia said. But I will inform my master of the current identity of the Blood Lord, she continued. Veronica did not like the way Sears and Grafia would know the identity of her beloved, and if you will excuse me, I will take my leave now, Grafia said before teleporting away through a magic circle. Well, it was a fun day, Issei commented. Yes, surprisingly it was, Veronica agreed. Veronica, I want to help Rias and the others, Issei said. And why would you want to help them? Asked Veronica. I don't like the way she is being forced into marriage, Issei said. Veronica remained silent and thought about this. Since Sears and Grafia already knew Issei's identity, that would be bad. There might be a possibility that they will break the non-aggression treaty and send assassins to assassinate Issei. She needs something to stop them from breaking the treaty and luck is on her side. She knows that Sears cares for Rias and knows that he doesn't want her to marry someone like Riser, but she can't do anything because of her malposition. So, if they save Rias from this fight, they might gain a favor from Sears and prevent him from breaking the treaty. My advice is to go ahead and help her. But you should be the one to decide on this, Veronica said. Then I have decided, we will help Rias, Issei declared. In 10 days, if Rias loses the rating match, Issei and Veronica will save her and in exchange a favor from Amao. But in these 10 days Sears and Grafia now know Issei's identity. Letting her loved one wander her streets will be a senseless choice. She decided to take Issei to the safest place possible to spend the 10 days before the rating match in Azralia. Hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for the late update, I've been busy for a while. In the next chapter I might introduce the other Praetorian guards and some generals, they will be crossovers of different anime but I don't know yet. Laughing face. Guys, can you help me decide who the Praetorian guards will be? There will be 8. My OCs Veronica and Primus and the Data Live Kurumi crossover are already there, so I need 5 more. 8 first A, previous A chapter 5 off a 30 AA next A I 1/4. I'm going to take a vacation for a while, so I won't be able to update a chapter. Sorry skeptical smiley face. Thanks also for leaving all the reviews. I really enjoy hearing your opinions on my story and I was surprised that you guys really like this. I honestly thought no one would like this story. Hahaha. Thanks so much for reading my story. Writing stories is now more fun than before thanks to you guys. And thanks to Red Satoshi Ketchum for helping me. You are a great help. Smiley face. And again thanks for reading this story. I really appreciate it and hope this story doesn't disappoint you. Enjoy the chapter. Inside Azralia Castle there was a very large room with beautiful designs. The curtains were red with gold and white details. The room was so large that it took 4 large white chandeliers and other smaller lights to illuminate the entire place. The sofas, carpets, desks, bedside tables, wardrobes and more were all first class. There were also fancy oil paintings all around and even a large aquarium with dozens of fish in it. The bed was an extra large king-size bed that could comfortably accommodate about 10 people with about 20 pillows and a large golden blanket. It also has a roof supported by 4 pillars with 2 tents around it. One curtain was a sheer white fabric while the other was a thick golden curtain. Such a room could only belong to the Blood Lord Issei himself, who slept on the bed, moved around the sheet before sitting up and stretching with a yawn. He scratched his hair and looked around. He was starting to think that if he really had ecophobia, it's not that he's afraid of being at home, but it's just that he feels uncomfortable. The door then opened and 5 maids entered. Good morning, Supreme, they greeted each other in unison with a bow. With a slight shock Issei returned the greeting. Why yes, good morning to me too. The servants then went to their work. The 3 maids went to get his clothes and stood in line while the other 2 tried to undress him. Hey, what are you doing? Issei asked stopping the maids. We're changing your clothes Supreme One explained. Wait outside, I'll do it myself, Issei said, making the servants obey. They bowed before leaving the room to give Issei his privacy. After dressing him, he came out of his room and saw that the servants were waiting outside to escort him to the dining room. 3 days have passed since Issei arrived in Azralia. Rias rating match is only a week away. Veronica sent scouts to Kuo Academy and they reported signs of unknown devils in the area. Her suspicion was right, Sears must have sent them to monitor Issei, but since she is here in his kingdom it is almost impossible to hell to sneak in here. The only devil allowed here is Kuroka, the cat they acquired as a heretical arts user for Issei. Veronica and the other Praetorian guards are training Issei. And the training was brutal. There are many times where Issei almost died but thanks to Kuroka he didn't. With the Nekomata here to restore Issei's lost blood and life force after training, Veronica won't worry about Issei dying or at least suffering from anemia. Once in the dining room, the servants lining the sides bowed and those sitting at the table they stood up. Veronica, also sitting on the table, stood up at the arrival of her beloved. Good morning Supreme, all the servants and people on the table said in unison. Good morning my love, Veronica said. This was her greeting. Issei, who was still uncomfortable with the high-class treatment, he nodded and moved to the chair at the head of the table. Salazar, the head of the castle's servants, pulled out the chair for Issei to sit on. Thank you, said Issei, I am honored to receive the gratitude of the Supreme, said Salazar. Issei looked at his food, he was a well-done gourmet. Issei couldn't help but sweat, breakfast foodie. This is too high class for him. But he decided to ignore it since the food is extremely delicious. Your program for today is ready, my beloved, Veronica said. I know I have to train but do I really have to study? I'm good at school you know, Issei asked. It would be a shame to our honor as your servants if the Supreme failed in school, Salazar said. With a groan Issei agreed and began to eat. Seeing the Supreme one eating, other people also began to eat. Issei looked around her, all these people had already been introduced by Veronica as her Praetorian guards. She said there are 8 Praetorian guards but currently there are 6 here. Veronica, Primus and Kurumi who she had already met before were eating on the table with him but there are 3 new ones. He has yet to meet the other 2 who are currently absent. Issei's eyes turned towards a beautiful girl with crimson eyes that had black slits in the center of her. She has knee-length silver hair with a sexy figure. She wore a crimson and black dress that gave her the appearance of a vampire. Well, she's a vampire. His name is Mocha Akashia. According to Veronica he is a vampire he created. You also said that Mocha is the first vampire here. At first Issei was confused because he thought Dracula was the first vampire, but Mocha stated that she met him before and gave him her blood, making him a vampire. And then Dracula gave his blood to his soldiers to create an army of vampires and those soldiers gave their blood to their families and friends to prevent them from dying of old age and those people gave their blood to other people, causing the birth of the vampire race. Mocha also stated that before donating blood she wasn't even called a vampire. She was called that as the race grew in numbers. Issei then turned his gaze to the other Praetorian guard. He was a muscular young man with slightly tanned skin. He has short green hair, wears a dark green robe, and carries 3 katana swords sheathed on his right hip. His robe has been opened around his chest to reveal the stitched scar that extends from his left shoulder to his right hip. His left eye, which is always closed, has a vertical scar. His name is Zoro Roranoa. Veronica claimed to be the most skilled swordsman in Azralia who has mastered the arts of Santoryu, or the 3-sword style. Finally Issei looked at the last new Praetorian guard. She was a young girl with pink eyes and long pink hair tied in pigtails. She was wearing casual clothing and has a joyful expression. Her name is Yuno Gasai. According to Veronica, a small error occurred when Yuno was created, making her a psychopath. It is also stated that, of all the Praetorian guards in battle, Yuno is the wildest of all. Is something wrong, my euro beloved? Veronica asked seeing Issei not eating. No, nothing, Issei replied and she continued to eat. After eating she began her training. Issei was outside, training with Kurumi. Veronica was looking off to the side. Veronica has an expression of discomfort but she doesn't show it. She felt uncomfortable due to Issei's training. Well, it's a euro more torture than training. Issei was on the field, surrounded by at least 10 Kurumi clones. One after another they threw punches at Issei's face. Every time a clone punches Issei and makes him stumble, another clone punches him again and then another punches him again. His face is already covered in blood. At first he tried to use the powers of his blood but the clones didn't give him the chance to concentrate and attack. Another clone hit Issei, causing him to trip over another. The next clone threw another punch but this time Issei dodged it and tried to counter-attack but she effortlessly dodged his punch. This caused another clone to grab him from behind and another clone to punch him in the stomach. Issei grunted not from the impact of the punch before another punch hit him in the chin. The clone holding him then threw him to another clone who, instead of punching him, kicked him high in the face, knocking him to the ground. Issei tried to get up but another clone kicked him to the ground before another grabbed his shoulders and pulled him onto him and another grabbed his head and kneed him in the face, causing blood to splatter. Issei shook his head because his visions were getting blurry but the clones didn't give him time to rest. One clone pulled him to his feet while another punched him in the face, another punched him in the stomach, and yet another elbowed him in the ribs. Issei tried to throw a weak punch but a clone grabbed his arm and elbowed him in the shoulders, causing his joint to dislocate. Issei screamed in pain but the clones weren't done yet. They punched him 4 more before kicking the back of his leg, causing him to fall to one knee. Another clone punched him in the face while the other grabbed him by the shoulders and threw him to the ground. Issei's body shook as he coughed up blood from his throat but even then, he still tried to get up. The clones decided to put a stop to this. 2 clones grabbed his shoulders and torso within reach. Another clone stepped back and delivered a roundhouse kick to Issei's face. It was a very clean blow that drew more blood. The clones holding him dropped him to the ground, unconscious. The next thing Issei felt was water splashing on his face. When he opened his eyes he saw Veronica standing next to her body lying on the floor. Veronica? Issei asked, not sure if it was her due to his still blurry vision. Get up, Veronica simply said before moving to the side. Issei looked around and saw that he was in a room with dozens of instruments hanging on the wall or on the tables. What scares him is that these instruments seem like instruments of torture. Realizing that he was lying on the floor, when he finally stood up, a sudden knife was thrown by Yuno Gasai and hit his right shoulder. Issei cried in agony as he stumbled backwards. Ah. What the fuck? Issei said as he took out his knife. Then she saw Yuno with another knife. Is it Yuno now? Issei asked Veronica who was leaning against the wall. The Supreme, Yuno called, causing Issei to turn to her. Yuno smiled brightly and said something that caught Issei off guard. Kill me, what? Issei asked, not sure what she had heard. Saying something like, kill me, with a dazzling smile for no reason is something a sane person wouldn't do. I gave you the knife, so kill me with it. Don't worry, Supreme, I won't hate you if you kill me. In fact, I would be happy if one day you decide to kill me, said Yuno, you threw the knife, you didn't give. And why the fuck should you be happy if you get killed by me? You'll die, damn it. Issei yelled. When Veronica said Yuno is crazy, she wasn't lying. Yuno is crazy. If you don't kill me. Yuno took out a knife. I'll kill you. He moved closer to Issei, who barely dodged her push. The scary thing is that Yuno was grinning like a maniac while he did this. Issei's legs are still shaking from Kurumi's beating. Yuno turned around and savagely hit Issei, who was trying his best not to get hit. Even though his attacks were wild, Issei could clearly see that Yuno wasn't attacking randomly. Every time Issei dodged, she saw that Yuno was aiming for his vitals. She was actually trying to kill him. Issei did his best to block her blows with the knife, but as he was moving away from her, he realized that her other arm had a dislocated shoulder caused earlier by Kurumi. It's not good. Issei's back hit the wall. Shit. Issei cursed as he was hit in the torso by Yuno. He groaned in pain but tried to move away from her. Yuno then threw the knife at Issei, which hit him in the back, causing him to scream in pain and fall to his knees. Issei pulled the knife out of his back while Yuno grabbed a hammer from the table before walking towards Issei. Issei heard Yuno's footsteps behind him. When she heard her footsteps close enough, she waved the knife at her only to have it kicked out of her hand by Yuno. I love you, Supreme. Yuno said with a very affectionate voice and a hammer in his hand. Holding the handle with two hands, Yuno hit Issei's chest with the hammer. The impact was so strong that Issei fell off the ground for a second. Her blood sprayed out of his mouth and he felt his chest break as Yuno hit him. When Issei fell to the ground, he was unconscious again. The moment Issei woke up, he was in another room. He realized he was sitting in a chair. Oh good, you're awake, nya, said Kuroka, who was standing next to him. She was using his magical arts to heal Issei's wounds. How do you feel, my beloved? Veronica walked up to the two and asked. Shit, Issei replied. Good, because your training isn't over yet, Veronica said as she and Kuroka stepped aside. Zoro Roronoa then walked over to Issei. Get up, Zoro said, and Issei stood up. As Issei stood up, Zoro pointed one of his katana swords at him. Take my sword, Zoro said. What? Issei asked. He was expecting another strike, so he didn't bother listening right from the start. Take my sword. Use only one hand and only hold the blade, Zoro said, making Issei raise an eyebrow. One hand and I only touch the blade. You'll cut off my hand, Issei said. He knows how sharp a katana sword is, and stealing it from your enemy means holding it at the sides with both hands. But Zoro said to only use one hand and only touch the blade. How the hell can he do that? Don't complain, now take it, Zoro said as he held the katana sword out more. With a gulp of saliva, Issei gripped the blade of the sword lightly and tried to pull, but it didn't move from Zoro's hand. Issei gripped a little tighter and yanked, but Zoro's grip prevented the sword from leaving his hand. Issei sighed and squeezed a little tighter again, and his hand started to bleed. He drew his sword but never pulled away. Now Issei tried to grip her harder and the edge of the sword was digging deep into his skin. He gave a hard tug but never moved from Zoro's hand again. He tried to pull out his sword but, out of nowhere, Zoro immediately pulled out his sword and cut off Issei's fingers. Issei screamed in pain and grabbed his fingerless hand to try to stop the blood from spilling out. What the fuck was that for? Issei shouted, if you can't take the sword out of my hands on the 5th try, then I will rip the sword out of your hands myself, Zoro explained, and cut off my fingers. Asked Issei, that's why our black cat Kuroka is here. To heal you whenever this happens, said Veronica. This is bullshit, Issei said. Zoro then spiraled and hit a roundhouse kick on Issei's face, knocking him out. Issei began training him the day after he arrived in Azralia. He expected fancy moves and cool techniques, but it was mostly ass whooping. He complained here and there, but every time he complained he was immediately knocked out. The next day Issei woke up. He was on his bed. Rise and shine, my euro beloved. Issei turned to the side of the bed and saw Veronica sitting there and smiling at him. What caught her attention was that she wasn't wearing her normal black dress, but she was wearing her battle armor. Why are you wearing armor? Issei said as she sat down. She then looked at her hand and her fingers were back. It must have been Kuroka who healed him, because I'm taking you out, Veronica said, standing up. Get dressed and let's go. Okay, give me a second, Issei said and got out of bed. She noticed that there were 3 maids holding his clothes. Before he could take off his shirt, he noticed that Veronica was smiling as her eyes were fixed on him. Issei tried to say something. Oh my god, don't worry about my presence, my beloved. Just change at your convenience, Veronica said with a mischievous smile, making Issei's eyes flutter. Everyone come out. I want to change myself, Issei ordered, causing the maids to put his clothes on the bed and leave. Veronica also sighed before leaving. She was hoping to see Issei's embarrassed face as she watches him change, but she can't help it. After a while Issei finished changing. Veronica then accompanied him outside where Salazar had already prepared a magic circle to carry. The portal is ready for you, Supreme Eminence, Lady Veronica, Salazar said, bowing. Thank you, take care of the castle in our absence, Veronica said as she and Issei entered the circle. Understood, Salazar said. Have a good trip. The magic circle then transported both Issei and Veronica away. The next thing Issei saw was that they were in a forest and it was night. It was a little strange that it was night and Issei woke up not too long ago. Veronica, where are we? Asked Issei. Somewhere in the underworld. This place is the countryside of the Devil's Society, otherwise known as their borders, Veronica said and walked through the trees. Issei followed her. As they walked through the forest, Issei began to hear louder and louder shouts and voices. They stopped at the top of a small hill and saw a village. What Issei saw was the village full of evil citizens, but there were multiple creatures everywhere. These creatures were brutes with green skin and axes, large swords, maces, etc. They were about 7 feet tall each and some were about 4 feet tall with daggers and knives. Some of these creatures drank, some patrolled, and some just stood there talking. But what caught Issei's attention was that some creatures were beating some devils to pulp, some were killing some people, and some were even raping women. And they did all this outside, but she could hear more screaming inside the houses. Which ones are they? Asked Issei. They are my beloved orcs. The smaller ones are goblins, explained Veronica. What are they doing here? I thought these were the borders of the Devil's Society, asked Issei. They are the borders, but beyond those borders there are mountainous and forest regions. Those lands belong to the orcs and goblins, savage brutes who plunder and ravage villages and cities for joy. They are quite few even among the devils. Veronica explained. Can't the devils do something about it? Issei asked. There's no way they would ignore one of their villages to be treated like this, right? Some devils such as Maus and other powerful ones are superior to orc wizards and spellcasters, but if they try to move their military forces against the orcs, nearby fallen angels may attempt to take advantage of their defenseless society. As a result, the devils can't go on the offensive when they have their hands full with the other two factions, not to mention the fact that we Azraelians are out there too. Their situation is bad, explained Veronica. Issei remained silent and stared at orcs and goblins. They did whatever they wanted in this village. If the devils can't go on the offensive, at least try to stay on the defensive. How can they leave a village like this undefended? It is not known how many other villages are like this. If the devils don't want to do something about it, then he will. Veronica was looking at Issei's expression and could tell what his thoughts were. So you want to make a move, my beloved? She asked. Issei ignored the fact that Veronica reread her thoughts, even though she was annoyed by it. Yes, I do. I can't let these people suffer, Veronica smiled. As you wish, my euro beloved. Veronica said as she summoned a magical portal and transported the two away. When they were born, they were in a large grassy field. Why are we here? Asked Issei. To call a red legion, of course, Veronica said and summoned a very large magic circle on the ground. A white light shone in the darkness of the night, and once the light dimmed, Issei opened his eyes and gasped at what she saw. It was an entire army filled with thousands of soldiers, monsters, knights, and wyverns. The soldiers wore the same army armor he had seen when he first arrived in Azraelia. The monsters were four-legged, muscular beasts up to 7 to 8 meters tall, with plate armor around their torsos and heads. Wyverns also wore armor around their torso and head. The knights wore the same armor as the infantrymen and their horses also wore mail armor. This is, the same army as before, said Issei. No. The last one is the first Red Legion. This is the 37th Red Legion, Veronica said. You also said that the girl general, Urza, is the one who leads the first Red Legion. So who is in charge of this one? Asked Issei. As I said before, the first Red Legion is commanded only by Urza. The other Red Legions are randomly chosen by a general for a mission. And the general who leads this legion is her. Veronica pointed to someone. When Issei turned his head in the direction Veronica was pointing, he saw a beautiful woman. She was a tall, beautiful and slender woman with long hair and blue eyes. She was wearing a long-sleeved white dress and high-heeled boots. She has a red tattoo on her chest, just above her neckline. What Issei noticed most is that this woman's body rivals Veronica herself. While Veronica is the most beautiful woman Issei has ever seen, this woman could be the second. Esdeath Jaegers, at your service supreme. The woman who introduced herself as Esdeath said with a bow. Issei was stunned by the beauty before him for a second before snapping back to reality and greeting her. Veronica noticed her expression and smiled, thinking that Issei's shocked expression at seeing Esdeath was so cute. Maybe she should have introduced him to other Azraelian beauties to see that adorable face again. I trust Salazar has informed you of your task here, Esdeath, Veronica said, making Esdeath nod. Yes, he has. I will make sure to execute every one of those disgusting heathens in the name of the Supreme. Esdeath said. Very well, we will watch from a nearby hill. Remember that the Supreme is watching this battle in person. That means you are not allowed to fail. Oh, and make sure to let their leader live so he can send the message to his fellow dogs. Break his bones but make sure he survives, Veronica said with a dark smile. Esmort nods. Understood, and if I felt like it I could cut off his legs and send him back to crawl on the ground like the creep he is, Esdeath said with a smile. Issei felt a shiver run down his spine. What she had just heard was a dark conversation between two sadistic women. And she thought her mother was sadistic. Come now my beloved, Veronica shouted at Issei as she conjured a magic circle. Aren't we going with them? Issei asked as he entered the circle. Even though this army was huge, he still wants to help. Heavens, no. We will watch from afar. You don't have to worry, darling. Esdeath and the Legion are more than enough to trample those miserable dogs, Veronica said before walking away. 15 minutes later Issei and Veronica were on a higher hill. This hill has a better view of the village. The orcs and goblins were still there, doing as they pleased. Veronica created a black sofa completely made out of her darkness for them to sit on. Sit down my beloved, said Veronica. Do you want me to sit down? People will die, Veronica, said Issei. People always die, said Veronica sitting on the sofa and crossing her legs. That's not what I meant, Issei said. If this worries you, remember that Esdeath and her army will only kill the orcs and goblins. The common people of the village will be spared, Veronica explained. Well, okay then, she said. Issei, although he was relieved that the villagers will survive, is still uncomfortable with this. Surely the orcs and goblins are scum because they ruined the village and should be killed. But he is still not comfortable with this. Are you still not used to killing, my euro beloved? Veronica asked. Why yes, Issei replied in a soft voice, have you killed before and don't feel comfortable? You still have a long way to go, Veronica said. I know those orcs and goblins are bastards. But slaughter is not. That's my favorite word, Issei said. And that's why I brought you here. You are the Lord of Blood now. Many will fear you and yet many will try to kill you to you. In war, a merciful heart leads to the death of oneself. You don't kill, they kill you. This is the rule in a battle to the death, explained Veronica. Issei remained silent. He understood it but he couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. Calm down my beloved. Sit down, it will help calm your nerves, Veronica said. Issei decided to sit on the couch to calm down but as soon as he sat down, Veronica moved on top of Issei and she sat on his left with her arms wrapped around his neck. Issei was taken aback by this. What are you? Issei asked but Veronica put a finger on his lips to stop his question. What am I doing? Calming you down, Veronica said. Seducing me. I thought we had a deal. Said Issei. Yes, we have an agreement and it's not my intention to break it. I'm just doing this to calm your nerves. I'm not trying to intrude on you, said Veronica. Issei was still uncomfortable but not from the murder but rather for Veronica. She no longer seduces him as usual but she is still too close to him. Issei can see how cunning Veronica can be. If you block her path, she will find another way around it. She agreed to stop seducing him but she never agreed to not approach him with her body. Oh dear me, I'm here, Veronica said. Both Issei and her looked towards the village and saw the huge army approaching. How many soldiers are in a Red Legion? Asked Issei. I was going to explain it to you. Do you know what battalions are? Veronica started with a question. Issei took a second to think and remembered having read it once in a book about war. It's a group of soldiers. It's like a military unit, Issei replied and Veronica nodded. The soldiers, the feral beasts, cavalry and wyverns are divided into battalions. And before you ask, those war monsters are called feral beasts. Veronica pointed to the large armored creatures. Did I create them like the others? Issei asked, making Veronica nod. Each unit is divided into 40 battalions. One infantry battalion is made up of 500 soldiers, one cavalry battalion is made up of 200 knights, one feral beast battalion is made up of 50 beasts and one battalion of wyverns is made up of 100 beasts. Now multiply that each up to 40, my beloved, explained Veronica. Issei thought about it. If you multiply them all by 40 you will have 20,000 infantry, 8,000 cavalry, 2,000 wild beasts and 4,000 wyverns. 20,000 infantry, 8,000 cavalry, 2,000 wild beasts, and 4,000 wyverns. Is that correct? Issei asked and Veronica nodded. This is just the total amount of forces in a Red Legion, but you have 50 legions in your entire army. That means you have 1 million infantry, 400,000 cavalry, 100,000 feral beasts and 200,000 wyverns, Veronica explained and Issei was shocked. Does he have them all in his army? It's great. You are probably thinking that your army is big. But trust me, my beloved. The current army is not big enough. At the height of the army's strength it was 5 times larger than that current. There were 250 red legions with 5 million infantry, 2 million knights, 500,000 wild beasts and 1 million wyverns, explained Veronica as she remembered the last war. This was the total amount of strength that the last Blood Lord used to challenge the entire world and almost managed to conquer the entire supernatural world, ignoring the dimensional gap of course. But when Azralia was about to achieve victory, Ophis, the infinite dragon god, joined the opposing faction and used his vast powers to destroy the red legions. Even though the Blood Lord continued to resurrect the destroyed legions from the dead, Ophis' powers were too much. Not only did they lose 4/5 of their army, but also all the captured territories and were driven back into the kingdom, but even after all that Ophis it had already been done. He personally attacked Azralia along with the remaining forces of the 3 factions and other religions. The Azralian forces and the Blood Lord himself fought the opposing forces and used an ancient spell that caused Ophis to lose her powers, but after using the ancient spell the Blood Lord was pushed beyond his limits and died instantly. Without the Blood Lord, the factions and Ophis with his remaining powers could have easily wiped out Azralia, but for some reason Ophis teleported away, causing the factions to retreat. The Azralian forces stopped the war and proposed a peace treaty to their enemies which they agreed upon. The superiors of the devils, fallen angels and angels claimed that the cause of their leaders' deaths was due to the war between them, but in truth the leaders of the 3 factions died due to the war against Azralia. Those who know this information are the elders and new leaders, and this is kept secret from the younger ones to prevent them from knowing Azralia's existence. The fun is about to begin, my beloved, you don't have to worry about all this. After the battle I'm sure the common people in that village will be truly happy with your actions, Veronica said. Issei watched as the Red Legion surrounded the entire village. With their enormous numbers it was easy to completely surround the entire settlement. While the soldiers were still lining up, Esdeath took a look at the village. Now where is the leader? Esdeath muttered to herself. She looked around and saw a particular orc with heavier armor with skulls in it. He was sitting on a wooden throne while he raped a young girl of about 14 to 15 years old. The little girl cried loudly as she tried to resist the ogre, but the ogre smiled at her misery and continued to ravage her. This made Esdeath smile. I found you. Once the soldiers were in formation, Esdeath gave the order, don't kill any villagers, only kill the weaklings who have intruded on this place but bring me the leader. Deploy 3 battalions of soldiers in each direction. The rest stay in formation and kill any bastards who try to escape. Remember to don't kill the villagers, kill one and you will suffer the severe punishment, understand? Esdeath asked the soldiers responded by striking their spears on the shields in unison, creating a thunderous sound that was heard by the orcs and goblins. Huh. What was that? Asked an orc. Maybe thunder. There are no storm clouds, it couldn't be thunder. The orcs then heard loud footsteps coming from all directions. What is that noise? An orc looked around and saw something approaching. He couldn't see clearly due to the darkness of the night, but he could tell what they were. Warriors, we are under attack, the orc leader shouted, alerting his other brethren about him. The orcs and goblins grabbed their weapons and began preparing for battle as battalions of soldiers marched towards the village, 3 in each direction. Orc warriors lined up around the village to face the advancing soldiers with battle cries of, Wyvern. Death ordered, as battalions of wyverns flew over the village and began throwing fireballs at the orcs. Wyverns, strike them down, an orc ordered, forcing the orc archers to fire arrows at the flying beasts, but simple arrows have no effect on wyverns. Offensive formation, shield phalanx. At Death's orders the marching soldiers closed their shields in front and held their spears in front. It was like an advancing wall of shields and spears. When the soldiers were close enough, the orc warriors charged and collided with the shield wall, but this did not change the formation of the soldiers. Each of the Asrielian soldiers has strength superior to those of brute warriors such as orcs. The orcs clashed their weapons on the shield but had no effect. This was because the shield had been enhanced by magic to make it more resistant. The soldiers continued to stab and impale the orcs as they advanced in close formation. It was a one-sided battle with the soldiers trampling the orc army. Eventually the orcs were pushed into the center of the village from all directions. Trapped between battalions of soldiers and houses, the orcs are pushed shoulder to shoulder and have no room to fight back. The soldiers advanced and advanced, killing the orcs row after row. It was absolutely a one-sided battle. The total death toll of the orcs was almost all, with only a handful of survivors, while the death toll of the soldiers was 0. The soldiers only suffered minor injuries and lost absolutely no one. This wasn't a battle, this was a great massacre. Issei could only stare wide-eyed at the bloody scene before him, while Veronica smiled sadistically at the sight of the dead orcs. For her, the orcs got what they deserved. The surviving orcs, however, were tied up and taken to Death by the soldiers. Your kind is so useless. I was merciful enough to only use 9 battalions of soldiers to oppose you, and yet you still failed to do your job well in resisting them and making it more fun for me, said Death. The orc leader growled in anger. You will pay for this, bitch. You have no idea what will happen. Our hordes will destroy you and your army to pieces. Let your wildling hordes come then, we must provide entertainment for our legions, Death said, not really considering a battle against the Asrielians and orcs to be a real fight. For her, the orc army will only be a show of entertainment or training for the Red Legions. Just kill us. It will only be a matter of time when our hordes will destroy you. The orc warlord will avenge my death, the orc leader said, completely ready to die. Death smiled and snapped her fingers, forcing the soldiers to kill the other orcs but not the orc leader himself. I'm a merciful woman, that means I'll let you go alone, said Death. Damn you. Kill me already. The orc leader growled, but Death placed her heel on the orc's forehead, making him bleed. I was kind enough to let you go and yet you deny my mercy. Learn to stand in the place of vermin, said Death as she drew her rapier and he pointed at the ogre's eye. I remember you were raping a child over there. I apologize for interrupting your fun and slaughtering your barbaric brutes, so please allow me to apologize by doing this. Death said and drove her rapier into the orc's left eye. The orc screamed in pain as Death swung her rapier around the orc's eye before pulling it out. Blood flowed from the eye socket as the ogre continued to scream. The little girl you were ravaging screamed like that, you know. But remember that she suffered more than you, said Death and cut the ogre's ropes. Now get out of my sight before I take out your other eye. The orc leader, scared to death, got up and ran away as fast as he could, holding his bleeding eye. Death smiled at the sight of the orc corpses. He just hopes the overlord is happy about it. Meanwhile Issei was still frozen in shock. He has never seen a massacre in his life before. This is the brutality of a battle. Well, this is more like a massacre than a real battle, Veronica said to try to break Issei in his shock but failed. Issei didn't respond and his eyes remained wide. Veronica decided to use another method to break his shock. She moved closer to Issei, pressed her chest against his and captured his lips. It worked perfectly since Issei was now awake. Issei groaned and pushed Veronica away from him. Veronica, what the fuck? Issei cursed. Oh dear me, I'm glad you're out of the shock, Veronica said as she licked her lips. You need to stop with the sudden kisses. She said Issei, but I can kiss you whenever I want, remember the deal? Veronica asked. Issei growled as she remembered him. She can kiss him whenever he wants as long as he keeps her seductions away. Look at the village, Veronica said. Issei looked at the village and gasped. The villagers were actually thanking the soldiers. Some screamed with joy and others cried with joy. They were so happy even though their village was covered in blood and corpses. Their misery is over thanks to you, my beloved. In this village you are a hero, said Veronica. Me? A hero? But I never did nothing, it was Death and the soldiers, said Issei. Without your orders they won't lift a finger for this village, said Veronica. It was true though, Issei wanted to save the village, this is why Veronica summoned the Red Legion. By the way, if the orcs hadn't been so strong, we could have taken care of them, said Issei. No, no. Letting the Supreme do the dirty work is unimaginable. Lower lifeforms like orcs have no the right to receive the honor of being killed by the Lord of Blood. Leave the humble dogs to the soldiers, said Veronica, causing Issei to nod. But I'm afraid we're not done yet, my beloved. There are other villages nearby that are just like this one. We will drive the orcs out of those villages. With your permission of course, Veronica said. Issei took a second before nodding. Save the villages, Veronica. Veronica stood up and bowed to Issei. As you wish, Overlord, Veronica next ordered Death to gather the Red Legion. and march west. They came from village to village and slaughtered every single orc that was ravaging the villagers. But this time the orc leaders of each village were massacred. Veronica said letting a leader live is good enough. They spent the whole night clearing the villages conquered by the orcs. And the result was the same. No Escalating soldier was killed, only wounded. Not only did Issei have a very large army, but every soldier was well trained and well disciplined. The soldiers know all the formations and tactics like the back of their hands, and everyone moves as one strong unit. Not a single soldier broke formation and not a single soldier died as a result. At that moment Issei and Veronica were on a hill near a village. This village was the last to be conquered by the orcs, but thanks to the Red Legion the orcs were now all massacred. And like in other villages before, the villagers also thanked all the soldiers from the bottom of their hearts. Issei couldn't help but smile at the sight of the happy people. And she was also happy that she was the reason why the villagers were happy. We will return to Escalating. We will continue training tomorrow, because today you should rest, Veronica said to Issei. And what about Death and the army? Issei asked. They will stay here to guard the villages in case the green-skinned dogs return for revenge, Veronica said. Will they be okay? Asked Issei. Oh my god, of course everything will be fine. The Red Legion is strong, my beloved, you saw how they completely destroyed the dogs with ease. Not only that, but Death is one of the strongest generals we have, rivaling even with the mighty Urza Scarlet herself. You don't have to worry. If you are still worried then I will have another Red Legion waiting as backup for them, Veronica said, making Issei nod. Please do it, let's go, Issei said, and they returned to the kingdom via the magic circle. Days later Issei underwent more grueling training but showed incredible results. During training with Kurumi, he was knocked down but not like before. He defeated 4 clones before falling himself. While training with Yuno, he could clearly see her throwing knives and not only dodging them but actually catching them. He also countered Yuno's attack and delivered a heavy blow to her, despite her holding onto her. During training with Zoro, he not only caught the sword by the blade with one hand, but Issei lifted Zoro into the air and slammed him to the ground with one hand holding the blade. It was incredible that he was able to achieve all these goals in just 10 days. And this pleased the Praetorians, especially Veronica. But while Issei was enjoying his success in training, another person was sinking into misery. Issei asked Veronica to let him watch the rating game between Rias and Riser and was shocked to see it end. Now Rias has no choice but to marry that guy. Furthermore, Veronica explained that Riser has experience in a rating game with a full set of minions while Rias was just a beginner with a few minions. Issei was actually pissed off at how unfair the game was and ordered Veronica to accompany him to stop the wedding. Meanwhile in the underworld, now X was having a bad day, a really bad day. He has just arrived in his room after the end of the engagement party. He sent Grafia to Kiba, Akino and Kaneko, who were Rias' servants, to give them a chance to save his sister by interrupting the engagement party. Everyone wanted to crash the party, but how can they do it? If they challenge Riser to a battle they will surely lose. X himself cannot do anything about it due to his status as a Mao. He cursed himself over and over for his older brother's failure. His younger sister, Rias, will forever be tied to an idiot like Riser. And he will be able to do nothing but watch from the sidelines. If only there was something he could do. It was then that he received an incoming transmission. X summoned a magical screen to answer the call and gasped as to who it was. Oh my god, you don't look so good, Red Mao. It was Veronica. Of all people. X narrowed his eyes. What do you want? He said he doesn't have time for her right now. He needs to think of something to save his sister. Her. Stop with the scary red faces. Is this how you greet the person who offers to help? Veronica asked, making X eyes widen. Help? What do you mean? Asked X. Yes, I was hoping to ask you where your little sister's wedding is, so we could save her, Veronica said. Save my sister? What trick is this? The X asked. Veronica shook her head. It is not a deception, I assure you. The Supreme has requested that the marriage between your sister and the third son of the Phoenix clan be dissolved, he said. The Lord of Blood has requested it. What reason has he to help my sister? X asked, not believing that the Blood Lord himself was willing to help. None of your business, Red Mao, Veronica said with a smile. X doesn't trust that smile. And why should I ask the Escalating for help? You don't ask us for help, we offer it to you. All you have to do is say yes and tell us where the wedding will be held or not. Choose your words carefully, Red Mao, and make sure you don't regret your decision, he said. Veronica X lowered her head to think. If he accepts their help, the Escalating will definitely be able to save Rias from the wedding, but in exchange the Devil Elders would ask who allowed them to do it, and when they find out that he was the one who did it, it might anger the group. Devil's advice, and they could strip him of his status as a Mao. But if he refuses, Rias will marry Riser. It was a difficult decision for X. Save her sister and risk losing her Mao status, or let Rias marry Riser. Red TikTok. I'm a very busy woman, you know. I need an answer now, asked Veronica. X gritted her teeth and answered. It will be held at the Phoenix house in 3 days. X only hoped that the Escalating would save Rias, otherwise X would risk his position as Mao for nothing. Oh darling, you are blessed with wisdom, Red Mao, no wonder the devils I admire you. Now I have to go, see you at the wedding, Veronica said before ending the broadcast. X sighed. The moment he accepted the help of the Escalating he angered the Council of Devils. She lay down on the bed and prepared for the consequences of her actions. Her back in Escalating, Veronica was relaxing in a chair in her room and sipping a glass of wine. She was massaging the head of a black mamba that rested on her crossed legs. There were other snakes crawling around her room. There was one on the bed, one on the coffee table and one on the wine table with the bottle. Snakes have always been Veronica's favorite creature. She feels they are her spiritual animals. Because when they hunt, snakes patiently wait for the right moment to strike, and when that moment arrives they strike quickly and ferociously. Furthermore, snakes often do not kill with their bite but kill with venom. Veronica holds a deep grudge against the devils and other factions for previously killing the Blood Lord, which is why Veronica is currently poisoning the devils with her plans. By helping them out and saving their villages, she accumulates favor upon favor. And these favors can prove useful to Issei. Not only that, but Veronica also wants to cause a civil war between the devils, and the protagonists of that war are the Council of Devils and the Four Mouths. Veronica has already put x on the bad side of the Devil's Council, she just needs to get the other three for the game to begin. Veronica knew full well that Issei would not allow a war against the devils, so taking revenge on those who killed the Blood Lord was through her plans. Veronica took another sip of wine and looked at the magic screen showing Issei's training. Don't worry my beloved, I will make sure they pay for their sins. They will suffer for killing you in the past. They will all suffer, Veronica said. In anger, she grabbed the glass so hard that it shattered, causing the wine to spill over her hand. So, how did the chapter go? I hope you liked it, smiley face. If you didn't, I'm sorry I was bad about this. 8 First to 8 Previous A Chapter 6 Off a 30 A Next day I1/4 7 Inside the Phoenix family in the underworld was about to begin the marriage between Rias and Riser. Many noble devils from other clans attended the event. They were talking to each other or enjoying food and drinks. The wedding will be held in a large hall. There were beautiful flowers and phoenix statues on the walls. Tables covered in white cloth with food and drinks on them were everywhere. And in the center of the room was a long red carpet that stretched from the door to the dais on the other side. The devils' conversations were interrupted when a servant announced the arrival of a Mao. Announcing the Mao Lucifer and a servant of the Grimoire, the doors opened and both x and Grafia entered. x was wearing his Mao outfit while Grafia was wearing her maid uniform as usual. The devils bowed as they entered. Rias's nobles who attended the wedding also bowed to the Mao, so the president's brother will also be present. Kiba said, yes, two families uniting through marriage is an important event. Akino said before frown, my only regret is that Rias's future husband is Riser Phoenix. Kiba and Kaneko remained silent. All three fought well during the raiding game, but the difference in numbers and experience was too great. They desperately tried to save Rias at that moment but they weren't strong enough. And now their master is getting married to a horrible person and it's too late to save her. Yes, as too. Kiba said as Kaneko nodded. x and Grafia arrived on the stage where Lord Grimoire, Lady Grimoire, Lord were gathered. Phoenix and Lady Phoenix. There was also an elderly man with the group wearing an elegant black robe. Welcome to our humble home, Great Mao. Lord Phoenix greeted x with a bow. I am honored to be here, x said before turning to the elder. It has been a long time, Lord Valatos, x greeted. Yes, it has been a long time, said the old man known as Lord Valatos. What is a member of the Devil's Council doing here, if I may ask? Asked x. Both families have agreed that I will be the one to unite Rias Grimoire and Riser Phoenix together. Do you have any objections to this? Asked Lord Valatos. No, x said in a worried voice which was noticed by his father. What is it, x? Asked Lord Grimoire. It's nothing. Do you feel uncomfortable about this marriage? x nodded. Yes, I am. This marriage is important. Even when Rias is strongly against it, she cannot avoid it. It is her duty as a pure blood to marry another pure blood to produce pure blood children. But father, can't we just look for someone she is willing to be with? Can't we marry her as soon as possible? She is still in high school, x said, but apparently Lord Valatos heard him. x Lucifer, do you have any objection to this marriage? Asked the member of the Devil's Council. I'm only suggesting that he should marry the person he chooses, not the one we chose, and give him time. Not like this. And what is this that you don't agree with? Rias Grimoire is a pureblood and it is her duty to produce more pureblood descendants. We cannot delay this marriage any longer. She needs to be engaged to someone, said Lord Valatos in a stern voice. And that someone is Riser Phoenix, asked x. That's enough, interrupted Lady Grimoire. I understand that you are against this marriage, but this is inevitable and it would be appreciated if you would stop objecting before you embarrass yourself. The Sirzek wanted to argue further, but realized that some devils nearby had already heard part of their conversation. Yes, mother, said x deciding to stop. Understand this x Lucifer. I don't care if she loves or hates her husband. She is a person of pure blood and must marry another pure blood whether she likes it or not. This was decided by the council and we will not tolerate it. You treat one devil more than the others even if she is your younger sister, do you understand? Asked Lord Valatos. Before his voice was stern but now it was as if it had a threatening tone. I understand, x said in a low and angry voice. He gritted his teeth to contain his anger. It disgusted him that the council treated Rias as a vehicle for producing pureblood children. He clenched his fists but tried desperately to contain his anger. But as he did so, Riser Phoenix appeared through a flaming magic circle. He wore a dapper red tuxedo to the event. Greetings ladies and gentlemen of the underworld. I am Riser Phoenix, third son of the Almighty Phoenix clan and future family member of the Grimoire clan. I would like to thank all of you for coming to this wonderful event. In this day, you will witness the unification of the Phoenix family and the Grimoire family. Now, without further ado, I present to you my bride, Rias Grimoire. As soon as Riser finished speaking, Rias appeared through a magic circle. She was wearing a beautiful dress with orange and red feathers as decoration. His hair was tied in a bun behind his head and he was holding a bouquet of red and white flowers. She was truly a beautiful bride. Everyone applauded when Rias appeared. The only ones who didn't applaud were his peers who saw Rias's sunken eyes. They saw his eyes full of sadness, helplessness and desperation. They were the eyes of a person who has given up hope. Since Sears X is a Mao, he can't help her even when she wants to, and what's worse is that her parents themselves don't even have any intention of helping her. After all, they were the ones who suggested the engagement. Riser held out his hand to hold Rias back. She looked at him with disgust, but she forced herself to hold his hand and they walked forward together. It's already over, there's no point in trying to resist any longer. After this day Rias will forever be trapped with this evil man and there will be nothing she can do about it. With hands clasped, Riser and Rias arrived on the stage where the Devil Council member, Lord Valados, was waiting to join them. Rias looked at his family. The only person who seemed sad about this was his brother Sears X. His parents didn't even care a bit. It was at that moment that Rias realized that her own parents had abandoned her, and no matter how much she screamed for help, they wouldn't come. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today to witness and celebrate the union of Riser Phoenix and Rias Grimoire in marriage. Not only will these two be united, but their families will be united as well. After today, the Grimoire family and the Phoenixes will be united together by this bond. Lord Valados said before turning to Riser. Riser Phoenix, will you take Rias Grimoire as your wife? I do, Riser said with a smirk. Next Lord Valados turned to Rias. Rias Grimoire, will you take Riser Phoenix as your husband? After that question, Rias's world froze. His fate will be decided in 2 words. If he denies it, he will bring great shame to his family. She was given the opportunity to annul this marriage through a rating game, but when he lost his fate was sealed. Now it's all over. I just have to accept everything, thought Rias. Me. I object. A sudden voice echoed in the room, attracting everyone's attention. Everyone's eyes turned to the doors the moment they began to open. When the doors opened, 7 people entered. The crowd gasped at the sudden entrance, but those who were most surprised were the elderly devils. Lord Phoenix, Lord Grimoire, Lady Grimoire, Lady Phoenix, Graphia, Lord Valados and the other senior devils remained frozen on their feet. Those who arrived a euro to Issei, Veronica, Zoro, Mocha, Kurumi, Primus and Yuno. They were all wearing battle gear except Issei, who was wearing her uniform. What? It can't be. Why are the Blood Lord's Praetorian guards here? The older devils who knew of Azralia and the Blood Lord were all terrified at the sight. Only Sears X, who had called them here, was not surprised. Who are you? How dare you interrupt this historical moment? Shouted Alzada, annoyed that the wedding had been interrupted. Oh my god, don't start barking all of a sudden, you disgusting stray dog. You don't even deserve to look at yourself. Veronica teased Riser. Bitch, you still have the nerve to take me around. Silence, you bastard. Unless you wish to be a toothless dog, then I suggest you keep your disgusting mouth shut. You are not allowed to speak in our presence, dog. Veronica said, looking completely down on Riser. I'm a dog. Ha 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 ha. Do you even know who I am? I'm Riser Phoenix, 3rd son of the powerful Phoenix family. Yet you keep teasing me like that, you ignorant bitch. Asked raised, attracting the attention of the older devils. Riser Phoenix, you fool. You're the one who doesn't know her. Thought Lord Grimoire, foo-foo, as if I couldn't care less about your origins. It seems like you're not just trying to lose your teeth but also your pathetic life. Idiots like you are so funny, like a cute barking chihuahua to a superior being, Veronica said, licking her lips. I'll enjoy reducing you to ashes, whore. Stand up, I strongly advise you not to make fun of that woman, said Lord Phoenix, desperate to keep his son's mouth shut. There is no need to worry, father, after I have taken care of this annoying trouble, we will resume the wedding immediately. You don't need to intervene. Yes dad, listen to your disgusting little pet you call son, Veronica said in a sweet voice. Shut up, bitch. Riser set his right hand on fire, but that only made Veronica smile. Enough, Veronica, Issei said. Of course, my beloved, Veronica said, shocking the elders. Veronica Sapphires, do you call that boy her beloved? Don't tell me. That boy is the Blood Lord. The older devils were now more terrified than before. Here are not only the Praetorian guards, but also the Lord of Blood himself. What is someone like him doing in a place like this? How did you survive his death? Is he really dead? If he didn't die, what did he do after the war? Multiple questions flooded their minds, but they decided to remain silent. There are many young devils here who don't know about the existence of the Blood Lord and Azralia. We are here to put an end to this ridiculous marriage, said Issei. What is the meaning of this, Lord Riser? Asked a random devil. Is it your fault? Asked another. It was my doing, Sears X said as he stepped forward, shocking everyone, especially the older devils. Lord Valados was enraged at Sears X for calling such a dangerous being to this event. What is the meaning of this interruption, Lord Sears X? Asked the Riser. I just thought a wedding should have fireworks. But instead of getting real fireworks, I called some people here for entertainment, Sears X explained. He could already hear Lord Valados throwing vicious daggers at him. Sears X ignored him and turned to Issei. Young man, if you can, could you tell us your name? He asked. Issei Hyodo. Issei replied. Issei Hyodo, huh? I heard you go to the same school as Rias, Sears X said. I am. Issei said. Enough of this bullshit already, Alzant shouted, interrupting the conversation between Sears X and Issei. The guards catch these intruders and lock them in a prison. Several devil guards surrounded Issei and his guards. No. Stand back, don't fight them. Lord Phoenix shouted, but it was too late. Zoro took out one of his katana swords and swung it quickly, creating a powerful shockwave that knocked all the guards away. The shockwave was so strong that it cracked the floor, walls, ceiling and shattered the windows. The sight of this sent fear into the devils. What the hell? He wasn't even using magic back there. What? You mean he destroyed this place with a simple wave of his hand? That's impossible. Sword swings at the speed of light, an immense brute strength that could send powerful shockwaves with a simple wave of the hand. That man is Azralia's greatest swordsman and one of the Praetorian guards of the Blood Lord, Zoro Roronoa. Thought Lord Grimori. Zoro sheathed his sword. Supreme, we will take care of any guards who dare to attack you. Zoro said, thank you. Issei thanked him and turned to the audience, so will you stop this wedding or not? Issei asked, his eyes reddening, causing several older devils to take a step back. They still remembered the horror of the war against Azralia, and the one responsible for it is right in front of them. End this wedding. Ha, what an idiotic little tramp. Riser mocked him, shocking the elder devils and angering the Praetorian guards. Stand up. Please don't insult them further, said Lord Phoenix, trying to save his son. That man insulted the Supreme. Yuno said in a hollow voice. His eyes were completely black and he was staring directly at Riser. Yuno, please calm down. Don't engage yet, Veronica said, calming the psychopath. Don't worry, father, I will get rid of these people and continue the marriage. Riser said, if you are so sure of yourself, then why don't you duel him? Riser Phoenix, asked Serzek, duel with a homeless man like him. Why would I do such a useless thing? Our powers differ more than black and white. I would win in a mere second if I fought him, said Riser. Then so be it, you will fight Issei Hyodo, Serzek said turning to Issei. Lad, what do you want if you win the duel? To ruin this wedding, said Issei. Okay. And if or should I say when I win, the marriage will resume, Riser said in confidence. Sorry for the intrusion but I will also participate in this duel. Veronica stepped forward. In exchange for my participation in this duel, you may use your peerage if you wish, Veronica. Asked Issei, so you will participate too? Asked Serzek. Yes, I will. I'll also add another deal, said Veronica, and what would you like me to wish for? Asked Alzon. That's when Veronica smiled. She said simply, what do you mean you? Asked Alzon. That's what you heard. I will offer you my soul and my body. You can ravage me whenever you want and do whatever you want with me and I promise you that I will never complain. I will serve you for all eternity with absolute loyalty, said Veronica. This caused a lot of gasps all over the place. Ha 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 ha. Very good, not only will I have a beautiful bride but I will also have a beautiful concubine. This is truly magnificent, Alzada shouted, eager to taste. Veronica in bed, that's a bold offer, are you sure? Asked Serzek. Of course, I wouldn't have said it if I hadn't been sure from the beginning, said Veronica. Serzek doesn't like this. For Veronica to offer herself as Riser's slave for all eternity like that means she wants something big. And what is it you want? Serzek asked, hoping it wasn't something very important. We wish to have dozens of phoenix tears delivered to us on a regular basis, Veronica said. Lord Phoenix narrowed his eyes at Veronica. This woman is as cunning as ever. She is using my son's arrogance to get what she wants. Phoenix tears can heal any wound as long as the person being given is alive. Even if that person is on the verge of dying, a tear will heal him completely. And since our family rarely cries, tears are very rare, and for her to ask for dozens of them to be delivered on a regular basis, it will be very harmful to society, he thought. Very good. Since you have no chance of winning, it doesn't matter. It bothers me at all, Riser said, accepting it completely. Stand up, I advise you not to accept this deal. We can't risk tears. Lord Phoenix said, no need to worry, father, they have no chance of winning. My peerage is more than enough to defeat the likes of them, said Riser. Fool. Lord Phoenix shouted inside him. Issei then turned to Veronica. What was this? Asked Issei. What was that, my euro beloved? Veronica asked. What was that bet you just made? Offer yourself to him. Oh my god, are you worried? I'm not worried, I just don't want you to become that boy's slave. Yes, you're worried, but don't be. I won't be a slave, my euro beloved. I'm only a slave to you and you only. I am sure that we will win this duel. How can you be so sure? Don't worry, Suprema, Lady Veronica is super strong. Yuno said behind Issei. Yes my love, you don't have to worry. These dogs don't have a shadow of a chance of winning this duel. Now come, the match is about to start, let's go to the arena, Veronica said as she and Issei teleported across a magic circle. Afterwards they gathered in the arena. On one side there is Issei and Veronica, on the other there is Riser and his noble titles, which were a collection of 15 beautiful girls. That boy sure loves girls, Issei commented. Are you jealous that he has 15 girls serving him, my love? Veronica asked. No, not at all, Issei said. It was true though, he liked girls but he's not like all the other boys who are desperate for girls. If you wish, I could get you some concubines, my beloved. How many do you want? 5? 10? Veronica asked. We don't have time to mess with Veronica. The match is about to start, Issei said. Of course, my love, you chose the wrong family to fight. Let's teach them a lesson, big brother. Said the blonde-haired girl. I don't want to ruin my wedding dress. Take care of this for me girls, said Riser and his peer stepped forward. That blonde girl called that boy her big brother, said Issei. That one is it is Revel Phoenix, the only daughter and the youngest daughter of the Phoenix family to closely observe his games, Veronica explained. Why do you know? I am the best servant you have, my euro beloved. It is natural that I know many things. They turned forward when an armored girl with short brown hair drew her sword. My name is Carlamine, proud knight of House Phoenix, the girl introduced. I'll deal with these parasites like an amateur. Cut off their heads, said Veronica, but they won't just let me come through and fight Riser. I'll just have to break through, said Issei. There's no need, Veronica. He placed his hand on Issei's shoulder. I'll take you around, she said. In an instant Veronica dragged Issei around the nobility and behind Riser. What? How did she even Issei himself was shocked. What did you do, Veronica? He asked. I took you around, just like I said. Did you teleport us? No, I just showed us around. It didn't include magic. Isn't it included magic? I didn't even see the move. Revel thought in shock. Not only Riser and his nobles but also the devils who were watching the match were all shocked by Veronica's speed. I'll be nearby if you need me, Veronica said. I understand, Issei said. Veronica bowed before appearing immediately behind Riser's noble title, who all turned around in shock. Come to me, Veronica said while all Riser's nobles attacked her. Issei was facing Riser instead. Do you think you can challenge me, boy? Asked Alzon. We won't know until we try, Issei said as he entered battle mode. His eyes were as red as the runic energy symbols on the sides of his arms. Issei shot crimson energy balls towards Riser, who stood there and took the hit. It exploded on Riser, but when the smoke cleared revealed him regenerating into fire. Do you understand now why you can't beat me? Unlike you, I am immortal. I bring fire and the wind of the phoenix. No matter how hard you try, you can't beat me. Riser shouted as he launched a large fireball towards Issei, who dodged it by throwing himself backwards. The nearby Veronica was simply dodging every blow of Riser's peerage. She effortlessly dodged the attacks like a walk in the park, plus she didn't even look at them. She looked at Issei, observing his fighting skills. My beloved's skills and reflexes have improved. He also learned a couple of attacks, but those attacks are weak. She needs to learn Veronica's thoughts of the strongest. Veronica dodged a chainsaw from one of the green-haired twins. Don't you dare look away from the fight. The purple-haired woman who was Riser's queen screamed, but Veronica paid no attention. She continued to dodge their attacks without taking her eyes off Issei. The Riser flew towards Issei. Burn in the flames of the Phoenix house, you annoying brat, Alzon shouted. Issei jumped towards him. Both of their fists collided and a powerful shockwave exploded around them. Rias is no match for you, you son of a bitch. You already have 15 girls as nobles, why the fuck do you need more? Issei asked as she kicked Riser away. Shut up. This wedding is important to the devils. A stranger like you should be executed for interrupting it. Let me be your executioner. Riser shouted as he hit Issei with his flaming fist. Issei was sent crashing to the ground. Damn, it hurts, but this punch doesn't come close to Kurumi's. Issei stood up. Be afraid as you lie down, you dying scum. Riser launched a larger fireball at Issei, but he moved out of the way and avoided it. Not only do you have many women around you, but you also have your sister among your nobles. What's going on? Asked Issei. Ha 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 ha, are you jealous that you don't have a little sister like me? I'm sure you've never tasted a woman before. The setter scoffed. I'm not a pervert like you, bitch. Unlike you who let her sister join her harem, I take care of my sister. Oh, do you have a sister too? I feel sorry for her since her older brother is trash. Or she's trash too, just like her brother. Issei threw spears of blood towards Riser, who dodged them effortlessly. Shut up. Don't call my sister trash, Issei shouted. What's wrong, did I hit a nerve? Your sister must be jumping for joy, not that her scum of an older brother will be killed by me, Riser asked as he landed a couple of meters away from Issei. Don't talk about my sister. Issei growled. Oh, I know what I'll do. After I kill you and take your maid and turn her into my willing slave, I might even consider taking your sister as my slave as well, Riser said with a mocking smirk. Issei's fists clenched tighter as he gritted his teeth. Are you mad? Don't worry, I'll take care of your sister after I kill you. I wonder if she'll beg me to go faster when I start ravaging her again and again and again, Riser said with a smirk. I'll kill you, boom. Everyone watching, including the Praetorian guards themselves, were all shocked by the sudden colossal crimson energy that erupted from Issei. Her energy alone made Riser and his nobles fly. The ground and the entire arena were swept away by the sudden destructive force. Not only that, but the earth was shaking. Veronica herself was fine as she surrounded herself with a shield ball of dark energy. Silly little dog. To make fun of my beloved, you had to use her sister. This energy level isn't at its full power, but it will be more than enough to destroy that disgusting bastard, Veronica thought with a smile. The lift crashed and landed outside the arena. What is this power? Where did it come from? Asked Stand Up in fear. All the devils watching the match felt the powerful energy. The earthquake also reached that place. The earth trembles. Kiba shouted, what is that powerful energy? Akino asked in fear. Both the younger and older devils were all in a panic. This energy, this is the Blood Lord, said Lord Grimori. Everyone then noticed the place going dark. Those who looked up all widened their eyes. What is this? The sky is. The sky turned red. The entire sky across the underworld turned completely blood red. Not only that, but there was also a red moon, shining its red lights across the horizon. The crimson moon, this is the power of the Blood Lord, Sirzek said as he stared at the red moon. The Formows created an artificial moon overnight for the sake of the reincarnated devils and are certain that the crimson moon that appeared just now is not the artificial one. The giant pillar of energy calmed down around Issei as he opened his bright red eyes. His appearance is completely different now. He wore full body crimson armor with a red cloak around his neck. His helmet, which covered most of his face, has spikes on the top of his head that resemble a crown. Even though the energy pillar had disappeared, some of the energy continued to flow out of his body. He raised his head to see Riser. What are you? He asked. Issei didn't answer. He raised his hand and at his command storm clouds surrounded the sky. Bloodstorm, Issei sang. Riser realized that he had something fallen on his shoulder. He wiped it to see that it was a droplet of blood. He asked very soon, more droplets of blood until it started raining. It wasn't rain, it was more like a thunderstorm as there was lightning and thunder roaring. The only difference is that instead of spilling water, it was all blood. What is this? Riser screamed at the top of his lungs. Even the devils of House Phoenix were in a panic. Blood also flowed like rain outside the house. Powerful winds, capable of ripping trees from their roots, blew as lightning struck the ground. We must get everyone to safety, ordered Sirzek. And what about Riser Phoenix? Asked Lord Grimoire. Lord Phoenix bit his lip before speaking. Leave him. What? Lord Phoenix, he is your son, said Lady Grimoire. The fool understood what was coming to him. I tried to stop him but he kept talking nonsense, said Lord Phoenix, and with all the Blood Lord's anger directed towards our son, there is no way to save him now. He said. Lady Phoenix, if that's what you've decided then we'll take our leave. Grafia, Sirzek said. Yes, Lord Sirzek, Grafia replied as she teleported everyone away from the Phoenix house. Back in the arena, Riser shot a fireball towards Issei but he was blocked by a wall of blood. The rain of blood continued to flow madly, so much so that it started flooding the ground. Most of the regular trees were already submerged, the tallest ones are still visible above the ocean of blood. Both Riser and Issei were now in midair. Ravenous beasts are hunting you, Issei said. Riser then saw something in the sky. What is it? He asked. When he got a good look at it, he widened his eyes and immediately dodged it. It was a large dragon made of blood, a dragon. Another roar was heard behind him. When he turned around he saw a giant lion's head made of blood. His toothy mouth was wide open as he bit down on Riser's foot. He screamed in pain but as he screamed he saw a giant crocodile head with its mouth wide open heading towards him. He barely dodged it as his leg regenerated. He turned pale as he saw dozens of giant beasts surrounding him in the air. There were wyverns, dragons, hydras, lions, crocodiles, tigers, snakes, and creatures he didn't even recognize. To Riser their roars were more frightening than the sound of thunder and lightning. You fall to the ground, unable to get up, Issei said. Riser was trying his best to dodge all these monsters but there were too many of them. A hydra head had its mouth wide open and was heading towards Riser. Riser screamed in fear as he dodged the hydra, but it knocked off both of his wings. Unable to maintain flight, Riser crashed violently into the ground, creating a man-sized crater around him. You will drown in the sea of blood, said Issei. When Riser stood up he saw a swirl of blood surrounding him. This vortex was all the blood that flooded the earth due to the storm and its height was as high as a mountain. How can a brag like you be so powerful? Shouted Alzon. This is the end of Riser Phoenix, said Issei as the vortex of blood poured into Riser from all directions. Inside that ocean of blood Riser desperately tried to swim to the surface but couldn't move at all. It's as if the blood itself kept him immersed. His bones cracked and broke from the pressure. His limbs were bent in the wrong direction. Riser feels as if he is in the deepest part of the human world's ocean. Not only did he have dozens of broken bones, but he was also out of air. I can't breathe. I'm going to die. He stood up as his vision began to blur. It's over, Issei said. Oh my god, please forgive me for this, my Euro beloved. Hearing Veronica's voice, the chains suddenly came out of nowhere and they wrapped around Issei's body. Issei shook himself and broke the chains, but others wrapped around him and finally held him back. Veronica, Issei asked. Veronica appeared in front of Issei and placed a magic circle on his chest. Issei felt most of his strength drain away as his armor shattered. Not only that, but all the blood that flooded the entire region, the storm clouds, the red sky, and the crimson moon disappeared the instant his armor shattered. Issei's eyes returned to normal as the runic symbols on the sides of his arms disappeared. Issei felt like he had been running for hours carrying a bag of bricks on his shoulders. He was deathly tired, so much so that he collapsed to the ground with deep breaths. What have you done to me? Asked Issei. When that bastard insulted you to your sister you lost your temper, causing your armor to activate. Your body is still too weak and if I hadn't stopped you then you would suffer a lot, Veronica explained. What are you talking about? Me I hear Phi cough. Issei coughed causing a spray of blood to come out of his mouth. It was then that he suddenly felt a pain in his torso. I told you. You will suffer a lot, Veronica explained. A magic circle appeared and the rest of the Praetorian guards arrived. I see you are all here, Veronica said. We have taken refuge in an alternative space created by Mocha, said Primus. That being said, is the Supreme okay? Asked Kurumi. He suffered internal bleeding and damaged tissue, but I healed them all when I sealed his powers. My beloved will be fine, said Veronica. We will take him back to Azralia to be treated by the Nekomata, said Primus. Please do it, I'll take care of business from here, Veronica said as she disappeared through a magic circle. The nearby Riser, barely surviving, was coughing on the ground. What the hell was that? What kind of power did that brat have? I've never seen anything like it. How can a scoundrel like him get the better of me? She wondered standing up. Oh dear me, you seem to be wondering how my beloved beat you. It's simple, really, he's more superior than you in every way, Veronica said as she appeared through a magic circle. You. Greetings, humble dog, I have come to finish the job. Riser's eyes widened as he saw over 100 spears made of dark energies floating in midair, all pointing towards him. Don't worry, I won't kill you. You're still a Phoenix and more Phoenix members means more tears. I'll make sure it's as painful as possible, Veronica said as all the spears were thrown towards Riser, impaling his torso, arms and legs. Grah. Inside the Grimoire household, the evil guests attending the wedding were all transported there. When Grafia teleported everyone, she went back and saved the Riser nobles who were caught in the explosion. They were relieved that the storm had not reached the land of the Grimoire, and were even more relieved when the powerful energy they felt suddenly stopped. Is the game over? Rias asked. I don't know, Sirzek replied. Veronica then came through a magic circle while holding Riser by the collar on the ground. The web-shaped dark energy covered Riser's entire body. Veronica threw the unconscious Riser forward for all to see. And when they saw him on the verge of death they all gasped, "Big brother." Ravel shouted as he ran to his brother, "Don't worry, that bastard is still breathing, he won't die but he's not well," Veronica said smiling. The neighbor Lady Phoenix sighed in relief. She was willing to leave Riser behind, but she was because Issei was focusing her anger on him. He preferred that Riser not be killed. "I trust that you will keep your end of the bargain, Mao and Lord Phoenix," said Veronica. "Yes, the Phoenix family will regularly deliver Phoenix tears to you," said Lord Phoenix, "and the wedding between Rias and Riser will be disbanded." Sears X said, "Now that that's done, I'll take my leave." "Enjoy the rest of the day, gentlemen," Veronica said before disappearing through a magic circle. As the Praetorian Guard disappeared, Lord Valatos approached Sears X with an expression. "Furious, you will have a lot to answer for Sears X Lucifer," said Lord Valatos. Sears X lowered his head because now he would have to face the consequences of his actions. "Yes," he said simply. 1 to 8 Previous A Chapter 7 Off a 30 AA Next day.